The guy named Su Xing has successfully completed the binding of the life simulator, and now he belongs to the immortal cultivator class. Su Xing couldn't believe his eyes. He clenched his fist, remembering how badly he had lived all these 3 years, and thought that he was already out of luck. Su Kang was a migrant, and 3 years ago he was transported to a strange world. It was different from the other reality, because here the game had invaded the world. Demons, dungeons, and equipment began to appear on their own. Anyone could become an expert by the age of 18 for the experience that was given for defeating monsters. 3 years ago, Su Xing was the only one who had awakened with the immortal cultivator class. The news spread throughout the capital, and he was immediately hired by the nation's best organization. But later, he discovered a fatal flaw in himself. He couldn't level up. 3 years had passed and everyone had become seniors, advancing to gold levels and above as long as he remained at the first level of cultivation. Su Hang still didn't give up, and with incredible effort, he was able to reach the 6th level with a strength of several thousand jin. But in reality, he wasn't stronger than an expert of the 30th bronze level. Thanks to his patience, he was lucky, and he wasn't going to waste any time. Su Hing ordered the simulation to start. The system announced that Su Xing was now very satisfied. Every day he would help the girls in the monster battles, showing off his bravery. After each dungeon, he received several white-level items and a reward. But one of the girls from junior years didn't have enough money, and she wanted to pay in a different way. After that, Su Xing tried to cultivate and discovered an amazing technique called Pangu Cleaves the Sky, but after a month, his cultivation didn't improve. Su Hing realized that the internet conversation was a divorce, but he still decided to continue training his body. In his spare time, he continued to help the girls, earning money and reputation. But after a while, the same freshman breaks through to the silver level and breaks all ties with him. Su Xing's heart broke. He thought that they would have a relationship, but she just used him. This hurt his self-esteem as much as possible, and he turned his negative emotions into strength. After half a year of hard training, he was able to refine his body to the 7th level. Su Xing couldn't graduate, but his reputation reached the ears of the freshmen who came to see him on their own. He had accumulated tens of millions in these 3 years. Su Xing chuckled contentedly, content with his terms. But 5 years later, he was expelled. Afterward, Old Man Yu helped him open an expert equipment shop. He quickly made a fortune and became a well-known salesman. But suddenly, his parents report that his sister, Su Nian-an, has died. 3 years later, the tragic news is repeated, and Yuan's friend is also killed. He couldn't believe it, that Fatty Yu had died so easily, even though he was considered gifted for his age. A sense of impending disaster began to engulf him, and he continued to cultivate. A year later, he reached the 9th level. But due to the fluctuations in the market, the price of potions increased, and no one else needed equipment. For this reason, his shop went bust, and so Su Xing decided to go home. One day, he was chilling outside the house when a huge beast appeared in the sky. The beast opened its eyes and terrified all of humanity. Many people tried to fight the monster. The warrior attacked him. The beam went straight into his huge eye. Su Kang was thrown back by such power. He fell to the ground and looked at the beast. He wanted to know what happened next. At this moment, the monster opened its mouth and destroyed the entire Shin nation, and Su Xing died at the age of 36. After that, he was reborn and received a choice award for the first simulation. He was offered a Spirit Root Guardian, or level 9. Su Hing was breathing heavily, not realizing that the simulation had ended. A selection screen appeared in front of him. Now he knew that the world would end in 15 years, and this time he was lucky. Right now he could change fate, and he chose the talent of Guardian of the Spiritual Root. His eyes widened in surprise. A green light appeared around him, and he could feel what it was like to have a spiritual root. He didn't think it was so great to be different from others. The simulation was being recharged by white equipment, but he didn't see the point in storing them. The system detected the white dagger and successfully absorbed it. At that moment, the door opened loudly. His neighbor Fatty Yu rushed in and told him that there were 6 freshmen waiting for Su Xing outside. He already knew that they would ask for help clearing the dungeons. When Su Xing came out, he greeted the crowd of girls. He charged them 2,000 wen for each dungeon, but he takes the equipment and items for himself. One of the first-year girls was watching him. Her name was Wang Qingxuan, who understood that she didn't have that kind of money. Su Hing went to the slope dungeon at Tenali. A huge boar was running towards him, but he deftly jumped away from the ground, and he began to strike the boar in consecutive blows. Afterward, the boar collapsed posthumously to the ground. All the girls were exulting at how amazing Su Xing was. They started extending their share for completing the dungeon, but Wang Qingxuan shyly approached him. She explained that she was a little short of money and offered to pay back in another way. A grin appeared on his face, and he suggested that they go together to a quiet place. He sat on the throne in the form of a teacher with a pointer in his hands. Su Xian began to teach her the words, telling her to repeat after him. He was ready to help her not fall into a bottomless pit and always ready to give her redemption. Su Xing's orders were never to turn into a crooked path. For the next week, he was constantly filling orders. He was fighting the boar again. Su Xing hit him hard in the stomach. The girls surrounded him again, beginning to praise him. His face was red with embarrassment, and he was always ready to help them. After a week, he finally saved up 200,000 yen. The system absorbed 200 units of energy and left him no attempt at simulation. Su Xing started the simulation. The system offered him to purchase a white-level talent for 100 energy units and a green-level talent for 1,000. He immediately agreed and began the production process of randomly obtaining a talent. He was congratulated on receiving the white-level talent Elite of Business. He was now second to none in business acumen and could easily earn money through deals. Su Xing understood that this talent wouldn't help him become stronger, but it would make him rich. While leveling up, Su Xing gave tips on equipment and skills to new students. He was well known in the dorm as someone with excellent business acumen, and he decided to invest in something. He started offering everyone free equipment as a gift for the cultivation technique, and everyone immediately started buying up. Su Kang was just a level 6 student who was cultivating his body, but in a year he was able to earn $30 million by buying cheap and selling more expensive. He established a monopoly on supported products on campus, and in 2 years was able to earn several hundred million. He set up his own organization called the Tarot Club and a shop in Kyoto. 2 years later, Su Xing was expelled from the university, and the growth of his business attracted dangerous attention. He whirled around at the strange sound. It was Wang Qingxuan who had put a dagger to his throat, something he hadn't expected at all. The girl ordered him to join her mysterious organization, otherwise she would have no choice but to kill him. Su Xing didn't understand what she was talking about and felt that she was underestimating him. He snapped his fingers. At the same time, a crowd of security guards attacked her. Wang Qingxuan swung her dagger at them, and I began to deal with them one by one. Su Xing couldn't believe that she had already reached the Grandmaster level. He moved to the dorm outside of the simulation. Su Xing recalled that even a genius Yu could only reach the level of a master at best. And Wang Qingxuan had grown from a bronze to a Grandmaster in just 5 years, and he was sure that her mysterious organization had an incredible secret. She didn't want to kill him at all, remembering his help. Wang Qingxuan frowned. She threw the dagger to the ground. Suddenly, she jumped on top of him and kissed him on the mouth. In the morning, Su Xing woke up alone in bed, realizing that he had completely misjudged her. After that, he diligently searched for news about her, but it turned out that she had died. He was sure that this was the work of that mysterious organization, and he was going to avenge it. Su Kang started searching for information, but couldn't find anything. At this time, he also continued to search for a cultivation technique. In 2 years, he never found a technique, but he improved his body level and reached the top. Su Xing turned to Nianan, asking her to promise not to go to the dungeons this year. The girl didn't understand but agreed. But the following year, his sister still took the mission and died. Then he started investigating his sister's death, but found nothing. Eventually, there was a lead. Nianan died in a dungeon called Demon Taming Pass. He inquired about it, but found nothing. Then he abruptly remembered that Yu Yan had also died in the same year. He felt that something was wrong and started investigating his death as well. Yu Yan also died in the same dungeon, and not just him, but most of the freshmen. This Demon Taming Pass dungeon was more like a meat grinder. Su Xing couldn't understand where so many experts could have died. He knew that everyone had a reason to go there, and he was sure that it was all a setup. This time, Su Xing used the knowledge of the future and quickly sold low-level equipment and bought recovery potions. He immediately became a low-level market magnate for Kyoto expert, but Su Xing did not relax, knowing that the calamity would destroy the entire continent in 4 years, and tried to warn the key players about it with money and power. But the attempt failed and no one believed him. He had no choice but to defend himself. He sold property and bought assets abroad, and 3 years later took out his billions, moving with his parents to the States. It was an influential country that was full of experts and was located far across the ocean. Their experts were unique and had races of vampires, werewolves, and even cowboys. Another year has passed, and the moment has come when the beast should attack. Su Xing was worried, hoping to avoid a disaster in another country. But on that day, the demon darkened the skies of this country as well. All the experts rushed to the battle, but it was hopeless. Su Hang realized that the real world was being invaded by more than one monster. The demon has cast an eternal curse, wiping the states from the face of the earth. He died again at the age of 36, and the simulation was completed. He was given the choice of a talent award or the pinnacle of body refinement. He chose the pinnacle of cultivation and expended 500 energy. His strength now reached experts who had reached the silver level. The talent of the business elite helped him make a fortune, but it was useless in reality. And the upgrade was very suitable. With the help of it, he will be able to improve his equipment and process it into energy for the next simulations. He looked at his stats thoughtfully. The calamity was going to happen in 15 years, but he still didn't know how to avoid it. He had the idea that the higher-ups might know about him, but there was no way to stop him, and they could hide the truth to avoid mass panic. Since he was now a special type of expert, his window was different from the others, and he could now learn cultivation skills. He was still stronger than a typical expert, but not strong enough, and he had a goal to become even stronger. A week passed, and he had saved up 400,000 yen to activate another simulation. The system suggested that he buy white-level talents. He had acquired a white-level talent, and his hand abruptly shone. The system congratulated him on getting a white-level talent. Now, after death, he could investigate the situation for one day. Su Xing demanded to know who killed him. He was going to use the new skill correctly to get information about enemies and started the simulation. The system said that his strength had increased, so he earned $20 million in a year of leveling up girls. He didn't forget about Wang Qingxuyan either, and in between he fed her knowledge. She honestly admitted that she received an invitation from a mysterious organization. It was impossible to look at her without tears. Su Hing hugged her tightly and asked her not to leave. The next day, he woke up again without her, because Wang Qingxuyan still joined the organization. After a while, he was lucky enough to meet the missing Wang Qingxuyan. He started asking her about her business. The girl abruptly became shy and clamped down. He slowly closed his eyes. I wasn't going to make her talk. The next morning, he saw something unknown under his pillow. The book was signed by Chang Chunggong. Su Hing realized that there was a real cultivation technique hidden inside. Now he had a chance to develop. But unfortunately, there was only half of the manual. He started training daily, but even after a month, his cultivation was still at the first level. Su Xing was trying to find a way to progress. Su Hing didn't want to give up and waste time managing the business, so he devoted everything else to the techniques from the book. One day, he came up with the idea that it might be spiritual qi. He realized that the spiritual root and cultivation technique were already there, and the spiritual qi might be the only problem. He didn't have much time left in this life, so he needed to talk to his sister and Yu first. Su Hing went to rescue his sister and then returned to his hometown, where he met his sister, who had just graduated from university. They started having fun on quiet days until a certain point. People from the official department came to invite his sister to the Demon Taming Pass dungeon, but Su Xing wasn't going to let her go there. Nyanan pulled on his arm to say something. He started to raise his voice at her, so that she would listen to him. At that moment, he was surprised. Nenin started to glow, showing off her Grandmaster level. After a while, she packed her bags and decided to go to this dungeon, assuring her brother that she was a master and every expert should visit it. She waved after him with a bright smile. A month later, Su Xing found out about her death, and then he also tried to convince Yu not to go, but he also considered it his responsibility. The fluctuations in the potion market remained the same, so Su Xing once again earned a large sum. He only had 4 years left, so he sold all of the businesses and devoted all of his funds to searching for spiritual qi. Even after a year, he couldn't find anything. But one day a mysterious man came to him. Su Xing inquired about the identity of the unknown person. He didn't want to answer him. His eyes widened in shock. The man swung his foot at him sharply, and Su Xing was stunned by his speed. He noticed that the person in front of him had at least a gold level. While Su Xing was thinking, the man stabbed him in the chest, but the other man grabbed his leg, because he wasn't any weaker than him when he was at the peak of body cultivation. The man hadn't expected this from him. Su Hing pushed it several meters away with one hand, and it fell to the ground, stirring up all the dust. Su Hing guessed that the man wouldn't get up, but he was already behind him, reaching for his neck. Su Hing was strangled while the stranger laughed at his attempts. At this moment, the man made one movement with his hands. He wrung Su Xing's neck. Suddenly, he activated the talent Unquenchable Anger. Su Hing really wanted to watch him get killed. The man took the book that Wang Qingxuyan had given him from his hands, and it was possible that he was also a member of the mysterious organization. He crushed his head after he died. Because of this, Su Xing lost his sight, and his ability was lost. Su Hing became angry, intending to do the same to him in the future. He couldn't even live to see the end of the world and was killed by a stranger. The system offered him half of the longevity art technique, which is often used with the wood attribute and helps extend the lifespan and the absorption of spiritual energy. Sushina thought that he could afford such a purchase if he bought white-level equipment. But as long as he has the Unquenchable Anger, he can find out exactly what happened after the end of the world and who caused it. He knew that the art of longevity could be obtained in the next simulation, and the Unquenchable Anger was unknown when it would be found. Su Hing decided to keep his current skill. He set out to earn money to bring back the art of longevity in the next simulation. He immediately began to level up on freshman girls. All the girls were watching him as he thought about how to improve his equipment. He went to the dungeon and swung. Su Hing started smashing down a whole crowd of boars and landed receiving chests of rewards while the girls cheered. They surrounded him, but now he wasn't happy about it. Later, he went home and grinned. In a week, Su Xing had collected 70,600 pieces of white-level equipment, but he was extremely tired. He was still willing to try hard for the sake of his family and friends, and it was time to enter the path of cultivation. Su Hang abruptly opened his eyes. The system congratulated him on receiving the talent, calm as a boa constrictor, and even with strong emotions, his face will always remain unperturbed. In the people, it was called erysipelas brick. Su Xing had no idea why he needed this ability, as if he was some kind of emperor and was demanding money back. For the next week, he ran around the dungeons with the girls to level up. He was content with the girls' figures, but his face remained impassive, giving the impression that he was a gentleman. Wang Xingxuyan approached him again, but he didn't want to interfere with the progress of the last simulation, so he avoided her. Just like the previous times she received an invitation from a mysterious organization, they were hugging each other tightly when Wang Xingxuyan came to say goodbye. Su Heng still failed to convince her. The next day, she dropped out of university, and Su Xing was unable to graduate due to lack of strength. He left the university and started a tarot club and used equipment, waiting for Wang Xingxuyan to return. One day, she did find him and came back. And the next day, I left the art of longevity. He was once again unable to cultivate using the technique, so Su Xing decided to search for the location of the spiritual energy. This year, he again failed to prevent the death of his sister. A month later, Su Xing found out about her death. A year later, Fatty Yu also died. That same year, he invested his entire fortune in the potion market and planned to move to China, earning a fortune to escape from a stranger. He was on the phone to get all the information about spiritual energy. He was informed that in Jiangnan province, in Yinling City, there was a Grand Master level expert, and she had a precious item called Spirit Stone in her collection. Su Hang was going to head there right away. He was driving fast on the road, and I was glad that the master agreed to meet with him. But when he was supposed to make the exchange, he was still found by that mysterious man. Su Hing froze in place in shock. He died again at the age of 33. His eyes were trampled underfoot, and the talent, unquenchable anger, was deactivated. Su Hing yelled in exasperation. The simulation was completed, and he was offered rewards, and this time he chose the art of longevity. He spent 3,000 energy on it. In the book, half of the art technique was sharpened. This technique only had 6 levels, and it was possible to achieve returning from the void with it. But due to the lack of the other half, Su Xing could only reach the core formation stage. The longevity art absorbed the spiritual energy of the earth and heavens to recover. First, he needed to rest at night, get up early, and go for walks to keep his spirits up. He immediately closed his eyes. Energy began to fly around him. Su Hing noticed that the technique did have the ability to prolong life and youth, but the end of the world would still come in 15 years. Once he has obtained the technique, he has a clue about the location of the Spirit Stone, and it only takes one more simulation to obtain it, and then he can enter the path of cultivation. He didn't know how valuable this stone was, so he was going to accumulate enough energy. At this moment, Fatty Yu opened the door with a kick because Su Xing was looking for Old Man Lu. Su Hing only asked him to be careful with the door. But after a second, his eyes glittered as he decided to borrow money from the fat man. Fat man's pockets were completely empty, but Su Xing was satisfied with any amount. He handed him his $5 million card, the code for which was his birthday. Su Xing gave him a heartfelt look. Fatty Yu asked me not to deliver snot, considering it my duty. But what Su Xing really wanted to ask was his date of birth. The fat man got angry and kicked him, demanding the map back. Su Xing only joked and went to meet Liu Xiaodong. A cup of hot tea is on the table. Su Xing arrived at Teacher Lu's office, who immediately started asking him about his training. He admitted that he has no progress, but he is trying to reach at least the silver level. Teacher Lu explained that their university has level and employment indicators. Su Hang didn't expect anything else and wanted to hear everything directly. The teacher asked him to voluntarily drop out of the university in order to improve his reputation. Su Hing was sure that this would only be good for the teacher. He wasn't going to fall for his tricks. He turned to the teacher, explaining that he had no such intentions and liked the school environment very much. The teacher knew how difficult it was for Su Xing, so he was willing to pay compensation after he was expelled. At first, he offered 500,000 yuan, but Su Xing wasn't surprised. Moreover, he offered to help him find a job, such as a security guard. Su Hing recalled how Teacher Lu begged him on his knees to join for a monetary reward, but he never saw the money, and now he offers to guard the gate. He immediately turned around, refusing the deduction. The teacher started shouting insults after him, considering him a disgrace to the university. Su Hing was going to try harder to be worthy of the school's care, not going to leave for 500,000. Teacher Lu was angry, but didn't know what to say. After a while, Su Xing was able to order 4,000 pieces of white equipment. Now he can run the next simulation. A week later, he started the simulation, intending to take out the Spirit Stones. The system congratulated him that his white talent made him bald, but he didn't get any stronger. He died early, His hair falls out earlier than his peers, but his bald appearance resembles a monk, so it is easier to gain the trust of others. He touched his head but found no bald spot. But at that moment, a wisp of hair appeared in his hand. Su Xing almost burst into tears at his failure. He started looking at remedies for hair loss. His hair affected his appearance, so he missed out on a lot of opportunities to interact with freshman girls. He was crying, realizing that it was better to shave completely bald. For some unknown reason, he now likes to crush monsters more with his fists, and thanks to his strong body, he kills them in one hit. No one would have thought that his bald head made him endearing, so in just a year, he was able to earn 30 million. Wang Xing didn't change her mind, so she brought him half of the Eternal Spring art. Su Xing gave up on this book, wanting to find a sequel. Wang Xing was once again expelled, and in order not to interfere with the search for equipment, he accepted the previous choice by default. Su Shang realized that his thoughts from reality were instantly reflected in the simulator. He knew that the final would not be any different from the last one, so he started to look further. After the deaths of Nian and Fatty, Su Xing continued to rely on his appearance and made fortunes. At the same time, he used the power of his society to search for traces of spirit stones. The receptionist reported that a trace was found on a master-level master teacher. Su Xing was very happy. This time, he didn't accept the technique from Qingshuan, and that mysterious person wouldn't threaten him. The spirit stone was the key to his cultivation of immortality. He was served tea on the table. Su Ying was drinking tea when a girl came up to him. It was Jin Kongsu. She could tell from his bald head that he was well-versed in Buddhism. A week later, when he activated the talent skill, Jin Kongsu herself revered Buddhism and had a liking for Su Xin, so they became friends. He now understood how this skill worked. Kongsu said that she only had 3 spirit stones, and each one was worth 300 million. Su Xing agreed to buy everything without a second thought. She was willing to make a friendly discount and give them 30 million apiece. Su Hang started using the spirit stone. His eyes snapped open. Half of the stone was enough to break through to the second level of the qi refining stage. He still had 2.5 left, and he decided to keep them and gradually refine them. He had everything he needed to get on the path of cultivation after finishing the simulation. Kongshu came to him and noticed that he had been in seclusion for 3 days, offering him food. Su Xing wanted to ask her a question. She immediately revealed that they were spirit stones that she had taken out of a certain dungeon. In addition to the spirit stones, she also obtained a bag of spiritual rice, which he is currently eating. Su Hing looked at the bowl in surprise. He didn't know that there were dungeons with a focus on cultivating immortality, and then he would be able to farm spirit stones endlessly. Su Hang immediately inquired about the location of this dungeon. Kong Shu said that it was a time-limited dungeon, and at the end of November of 2023, she accidentally discovered it in the west of Jinling City. He pondered, realizing that it was the same year, and this Qingyun spiritual field hadn't opened yet, and he still had a chance to get there. She admitted that the old man in the dungeon recognized her lack of talent for cultivating immortality. Otherwise, she might have gotten another opportunity. Su Xing grinned, knowing that he had one. Now it was clear that in dungeons, spirit stones were not the most important thing, but the opportunity was much more important. He decided to continue watching to maximize the benefits of the simulation. Su Xing obtained spirit stones and cultivated day by day, and the technique became more and more perfect. And just when he was on the rise, Jin Kong Shui came to say goodbye to him. Su Hing didn't expect her to leave. She said that the pressure at the front is getting stronger, and she is one of the 7 strongest master teachers, and she must go there. Su Hing clenched his jaw, not understanding why all his friends and family were leaving for the demon-subduing screensaver. He wanted her to tell him about the demon suppression screensaver. Kongshu sighed, knowing that she could tell him after all. It was Su Xing who used his talent skill to boost her favorability. The demon suppression outpost was the lifeline of the human race, and humans have extremely powerful enemies. But right now, the situation on the splash screen was extremely unfavorable. Su Hing wanted to know more about who these enemies were, but she couldn't say more. She asked him to keep an eye on the Tarot Society, suggesting that he continue to live here. A month later, Su Xing attended Kongshu's funeral. He didn't feel any emotions, only wanted to increase his strength faster. Su Ying called Secretary Liu to find out the number of assets, and they reached 500 billion. He gave the order to sell everything. The secretary couldn't believe her ears, but he ordered to exchange everything for body-tempering items. Su Xing left the house that Kong Shu had built for him and returned to his homeland. He planned to use the items he bought to break through to the second level of a body cultivator. For 3 years now, his body's cultivation had progressed, but he was constantly lacking a fraction to the bone-tempering stage. At this moment, a huge beast appeared behind him. Su Shang realized that this day had finally arrived. The beast opened its mouth and began to scream. Su Shang taunted him, intending to deal with him in the future. The monster opened its mouth and ate him, His eyes snapped open because he had died with his eyes open and activated the talent. Suheng couldn't believe it. He could see the belly of a giant beast in front of him. The monster began to spread stomach juice that ate away at everything. People were being eaten alive. Suheng's eyes were still digested by the giant beast, so his talent stopped working. He couldn't believe that someone inside the beast didn't die immediately, but was eaten alive. The system gave him a choice of rewards. He was glad that he was able to take out the spirit stones. Unexpectedly for him, they were unexpectedly cheap to buy, and each cost roughly 1,000 units. The system started offering 100 energy points for refining the stone, and Suheng considered it a robbery. He sighed, hoping that there would be no dealers in the world who profited from the difference. Suheng sat down in the lotus position with a rock in his hands. A moment later, the stone was reduced by 1/20th, which meant that one stone was enough for half a month of cultivation. The other two pieces he wasn't going to touch, he was going to use them to test his one guess. He wanted to continue farming dungeons diligently for the sake of money, and he definitely needed to do a few more simulations and farm more spirit stones before the Qingyun spirit field opened. After a week, his soul left his body because he didn't have a drop left, but he managed to earn more than 500,000, which is enough for the simulation. He immediately clicked to start it. At this moment, Suheng glanced back. He didn't know if his guess was correct, but he decided to continue the simulation for now. The system announced the beginning, and he immediately received the white talent, fitness expert, and now he had a talent for training. Suheng didn't understand and glanced at the hand. He didn't understand why he had half a spirit stone in his hand, but he decided to cultivate. Over the next month, he started driving girls and making money. And in his spare time, he absorbed the spiritual energy of the stone, and the cultivation of his body rose to the 4th level. He called, ordering us to book a train ticket to Jinling urgently. The Qingyun Spirit Field Dungeon was about to open. According to Kong Shui, it was located in a park to the west of the city gate. He began to search each hole carefully, but Suheng thought that he wouldn't be able to find it without Kong Shu's help. At that moment, a voice came from behind him. He turned toward the sound. It was Kong Shu. 7 years ago, Kong Shu was indeed a cold beauty. Suheng knew that only she could find such a dungeon, so he decided to go after her. But in another moment, he lost her. At the same moment, I heard footsteps behind me. Kong Shui didn't understand why he was following her and aimed her sword. Suheng said that he recognized her from the university's honor roll. She didn't expect that he was also a member of Kyoto Professional University. Suheng introduced himself in front of her and decided to ask his Buddhist question, which he had been interested in for so long. She agreed to answer. Suheng asked what appeared on Earth first, a chicken or an egg. Kong Shu was stunned because he asked her one of the most difficult Buddhist questions. She started to leave, deciding to reschedule her answer later and walk towards Jinling City. Suheng immediately ran after her. The clouds cleared and light appeared. Suheng couldn't believe that the temporary Qingyun Spirit Field Dungeon was standing in front of him. He immediately sensed the dense spiritual energy and was sure that there were cultivators living there. Kong Shu flew up to him. She explained that his cultivation was too low, so she would go and knock on the straw hut. Kong Shu knocked on the door, wondering if anyone was there. The door slowly opened and energy emerged from behind it. An old man came out who told about this immortal domain, and people who don't have enough fateful luck are not allowed to enter. But the two of them had enough luck. Suheng was surprised by the old man's kindness. He told me about 2 spiritual fields and asked for help in caring for them. If the crops grow under good supervision, he will grant them 1 chance of fate. Kong Shu was shocked that they would have to take care of the spiritual field while Suheng was looking for abilities in a normal hoe. The old man left and wished them luck, intending to come back in 7 days. She understood that they hadn't even seen ordinary grains, but now they needed to take care of the spiritual grain. Suheng advised her to roll up her pants before entering the rice field, otherwise she would get her clothes dirty. He made no secret of the fact that his parents were ordinary peasants, and he had worked in the field since childhood. Kong Shu asked for his help in this matter for a generous reward. Suheng felt uneasy. Under his care, the spiritual grasses grew perfectly, and Kong Shu's attitude towards him changed. In the process of caring, he discovered that spiritual energy promotes the growth of crops, and especially the wood technique, Art of Eternal Spring, and it was perfect for cultivation. He sat down in the lotus position, cultivating around so much spiritual energy to saturate the spiritual grains. Suheng was satisfied that he had not cultivated to the 5th level for nothing after all. At this moment, the voice of an old man who came to check on them 7 days later was heard behind them. He was happy with the result. He handed the bag to Kong Shui as a reward for the spirit field. Suheng noticed that her reward had increased because of his help, so he would be able to bring out even more spirit stones from this simulation. He spoke abruptly to the eldest, who suddenly flew into the sky. The old man explained that he just took her out of the dungeon. He asked me to put my hand on the ball. A bright light shone from it. The old man said that the 5-element mixed spiritual root gave one the ability to cultivate, but there was no question of immortality. Suhing bowed, asking to enter as his disciple. The old man knew that even with such a talent, it wouldn't do any good. Suhing asked him exactly what kind of talent is required to become his disciple. He told me about the double spiritual root. Suhang was lost in thought. This was a white talent, and to grasp this opportunity, one must draw out a green spirit root talent. The old man handed him 30 spirit stones and 30 gins of spiritual rice, asking him to cultivate diligently and not relax. At this moment, he sent Sushing out of the dungeon. The simulation continued, and 2 years later, Nianan was summoned and killed. 3 years later, Yu Yan died in the same way. Suhing was powerless to do so. During the market fluctuations, it earned large sums, and its value exceeded 100 billion. After a while, he found Kong Shui. Suhing wanted to buy all the spirit stones from her at any price, but she didn't need the money. She reached out to him, ready to make her own terms. After a month, Kong Shui had no more regrets. In the end, she was still summoned, and a month later, the news of her death arrived. 4 years later, the giant beast reappeared. Sushing died at the age of 36. The simulation was completed, and he was faced with a choice of reward. He knew that he hadn't eaten spirit rice, so he couldn't break through to the bone-tempering stage. He decided to pick up the spirit stones first, which gave him 40,000 points. All of his money could at most be exchanged for 2,000 energy, and he was still almost half of it short. He decided to borrow them from his brother. Suhing immediately called Yu, who was just about to go to the dungeon. He asked him again for the loan amount, but Sushing didn't regret it and called the price 100 million. The fat man immediately started shouting at him in all sorts of words, intending to lend him a maximum of 50 million. He immediately received a notification about adding funds to his account. Now that he had a total of 55 million, he first decided to order 50,000 pieces of white equipment. In reality, the Qingyun Spirit Field Dungeon will open next month, and it still has 4 more simulation attempts left. He decided to take the chance and accumulate the maximum amount of spirit stones and rice. Then the old man would accept him as a disciple. After a week, he decided to check if he was lucky today or not. He started to extract the green talent. System congratulated him on receiving the talent Long Life. He didn't understand why an immortality cultivator needed a long life and was angry. The simulation was already completed, and he was able to pick up 10 more spirit stones. A week later, he once again tried his luck to pull out a green spiritual root. He will receive the talent Sword Genius. Suhing was furious because he wasn't a swordsman, and he didn't understand why he would do that. The simulation was completed, and Suhing decided to save up for spiritual rice instead. He began to recite prayers to draw out the green spiritual root. The system congratulated him on receiving the green talent, Face Like a Guanxi. He couldn't believe that they were giving out such trash talent. His appearance was now becoming even more extraordinary in the eyes of others, and now the attraction of the opposite sex had increased. He started talking to the system, but it was already blushing. While the simulation was going on, Sushing couldn't believe that it was him. When he went to the dungeon, a huge monster appeared in front of him. Sushing advised everyone not to look at the monster's eyes, otherwise they would have to poke them out. Girls couldn't resist his beauty. Everyone was chasing after him, and he constantly caught Qingxian peeking. He looked in the mirror, not realizing how handsome he was. It wasn't just girls who fell in love with him. Sushing quickly ran away from the crowd of fans. Everyone was running after him, but he found a place to hide. He quickly closed the door behind him, knowing that the fate of handsome men is not easy. Suhing sat down on the bed, deciding not to go out and cultivate here. On the 18th of November 2023, Suning went to Jinling and met with Kong Shui. She also immediately fell in love with him, offering him a drink together. If he had known there was such an easy way, he wouldn't have learned Buddhist problems. The old man confirmed that he had a truly noble appearance. Suhing's appearance touched the elder, and he originally wanted to accept him as a disciple, but his talent was too weak. Therefore, he just gave more spirit stones so that his appearance would stay longer in this world. Suhang realized that the world where appearances decide is completely hopeless. The simulation was completed, and he was given a choice of rewards. The system was so charmed by his appearance that it once again gave him a chance to use the Face Like a Guanxi talent. He sighed, but getting a green talent for free was also a good opportunity, and he would definitely draw out a double spiritual root next time. This time, he decided to accumulate spirit stones. A week later, he used the Face Like a Guanxi talent. Now he was irresistible. He asked the system for a green spiritual root so that he wouldn't fall on the path to immortality. Suking sent her kisses to appease her. He ordered the green talent to be extracted and immediately obtained a wood-fire, dual spiritual root. His cultivation abilities now far surpassed those of ordinary people. He no longer possessed the 5-element mixed spiritual root and possesses the wood-fire dual spiritual root and can cultivate wood and fire element techniques. Finally, he got what he wanted. He went to the simulation and was able to absorb 1 spirit stone in just 1 day, and it was clear how important talent was in the cultivation of immortality. In 1 week, he raised his cultivation to level 5, and the spiritual energy in his body became even richer. According to the plan, he once again accidentally met Kong Shu. Together with her, they once again received a task from the old man. After finishing, Su Bing was left alone. The old man appreciated his talent, and he had hope of setting foot on the path of cultivating immortality. He explained that the wood attribute was great for cultivating spiritual fields, and the fire attribute was a chance to follow the path of alchemy. Su Hing asked to be accepted as a disciple. The old man considered him late on the path of cultivation, so he missed out on the best age. Su Xing wondered what level he would be at right now if he was cultivating normally. He guessed that Su Xing's level would have reached the minimum of the golden core level. Su Hing was shocked to realize that in order to become a disciple, he needed to reach the golden core level by the time the Qingyun Spirit Field dungeon opened. He began to cultivate, remembering the advice that he needed to pour spiritual energy into the jade tablet to see its contents. Su Xing discovered a new technique. Until the end of the world, he had to cultivate well. In 6 years, he had comprehended the Sheneng art of spirit cultivation and mastered the cultivation methods of spiritual cereals and gathered 1,000 jin of second-rate spiritual rice. After consuming the spiritual rice, his body cultivation had successfully broken through to the bone-tempering level. He brought a bag of spirit rice to Kong Shui, offering to exchange for 20 spirit stones. A sly smile appeared on her face. After that, Su Xing opened his eyes, feeling as if the sky had darkened. It turned out that the monster had attacked again. At the end of the simulation, Su Xing realized that he could even buy insights, but this technique was worth 1 billion energy, but it was incredibly powerful. He was going to ask for the technique from the old cultivator in reality, but the dual spiritual root couldn't be missed. So Su Xing bought it right away. The system discovered that Su Xing has a white talent of the same type, and the wood-fire dual spiritual root will replace it. At first, he didn't understand what it meant. He breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that he had just given an increase. With the last simulation left before the dungeon opened, he now decided to go to the Golden Core. A week passed, and the day of the simulation coincided with the opening day of the dungeon, so he had to simulate directly on the plane. He boarded the plane and started the simulation. The system congratulated him on receiving the white talent harsh appearance. Now in the eyes of others, he looked like a determined and truthful person, and it was easy for him to gain the trust of others. After landing, he started looking for Kong Shui as usual. Su Kang immediately activated severe appearance, and Kong Shui immediately took him for a reliable person, even though she saw him for the first time. She considered it fate, offering to continue the journey together. The old man didn't expect Su Xing to ask for 1,000 spirit stones and not want to become his disciple. He considered his cultivation insufficient to become a disciple, so he decided not to insist. When Su Xing obtained the 1,000 spirit stones, he found a place with excellent feng shui and cultivated day and night. During this time, all his relatives passed away. It was unknown how much time had passed, but the 1,000 spirit stones had been spent, and he had finally come out of seclusion. Su King could sense the 9th level of the foundation stage, and it was only a short distance away from the golden core, but the stones had run out. At this point, the simulation was completed. Su Hing opened his eyes on the plane. The system offered him a reward. He was only given the 9th level of the foundation stage. In the simulation, he couldn't go any further due to the lack of spirit stones. But there was spiritual energy in the Qingyun spiritual field. It was very exciting for him to enter the dungeon in reality and meet Su Yakshui in reality. He tried not to panic, knowing that he had already learned the 10 greatest Buddhist tasks. At that moment, Su Xing noticed her under a tree. Kong Shu was standing there. He couldn't help but smile as he looked at her. Su Xing slowly walked over to her and started a basic conversation about the ranking of the strongest on campus. I started to tell her about my fate and the road to Jinling, but she turned away wanting to leave. He froze in shock, remembering that now he didn't have any talent and was just a stranger. Su Hing decided to use a different method to get her to talk to him. Kong Shu looked back at him in surprise. He began to pretend that he had accidentally dropped the ancient books. She immediately approached him, not expecting him to know anything about Buddhism. Su Kang was being modest, thinking that she was truly enlightened. Kong Shu was surprised that he knew about her liking, but he had read her work in the library. Back then, she had already considered it fate and invited him to Jinling with her. He smiled, intending to wait until the dungeon was discovered. The two of them walked through the forest and talked about their own things. But Su Xing was really only thinking about the dungeon that should be discovered any minute now. He suddenly called out to her, seeing a light in the distance. The older girl came closer, realizing that this was the entrance to a temporary dungeon. Su Hing began to feel nervous that he would finally enter the dungeon in reality. His goal was to become a disciple. Kong Shu had stopped him, telling him how dangerous temporary dungeons were, so she decided not to let him in just yet. He reminded her that she would always be there for him and wouldn't let him get hurt. The older girl blushed, not expecting such confidence, but she asked me not to leave her side. They went inside, and a huge green field spread out in front of them, which was supposedly the Qingyun spirit field. Su-hing couldn't get used to how he felt and experienced everything in reality. He could sense the thick spiritual energy that would help him break through. Kung Shu asked me not to lose my guard, although the dungeons look green and picturesque, but in fact they are fraught with deadly danger. Su Xing noticed the hut, suggesting that we go see it. At this moment, an unknown voice was heard. It was an old man who didn't expect to see people in his place of seclusion. The older one explained that they had accidentally discovered the entrance. The old man sensed a deep, fateful luck and offered to give them one blessing. He said that he was busy cultivating and rarely cared for the spiritual field, so he asked for help. Su-hing agreed with a smile. He told her in confidence that the old man was really kind and just asked us to take up farming. The older one was surprised that he knew how to work on the ground. Su-hing confessed that he was from the village and went out to the fields every year. He started to work, showing me how to pull up the weeds. Then he showed the principle of irrigation. And in the end, one had to slowly infuse spiritual energy into the cereals to make them grow better. Kung Shu put her hand on his shoulder, asking for his opinion on why the Venerable's trial was farming. She had expected some trick from this. Su-hing didn't think it was a problem, happy that they were working in such a picturesque place with a lot of spiritual energy, and the work helps to build character and spirit. Kang Shu believed that the more difficult the task, the more generous the reward, but this was just farming. For people with a spiritual root, there wasn't a worthwhile reward, but for him, there was. This place was equal to 10,000 spirit stones. Suddenly, the old man saw him cultivating. A week passed and Kang Shu was watering the crops. At this moment, a loud explosion was heard from behind. Su Xing continued to cultivate. His eyes opened and were covered in a blue light. The sphere flew over, sucking up all the energy, and he was already at the peak of the foundation stage, and the golden core was only one step away. Everyone ran up to him at once, but he felt great. The old man was surprised that Su Xing was also a cultivator and started asking about his attribute. He explained that he just happened to get a piece of the technique, and he didn't notice how he stepped on the path of cultivation, so he doesn't know about the attribute. The old man was sure that it wasn't so easy to reach the peak with an unknown attribute, and he was impressed. He handed him a blue crystal and asked him to put his hand down. This was his first step towards becoming an apprentice. The old man found a woodfire, dual spiritual root in it, which was inferior to the supreme single root, but it was enough for cultivation. He could see that Su Xing had practiced Changchun Gong from the Changchun school, and although there was a limit to this technique, it was very useful for beginners. Moreover, wood attribute techniques absorb the life energy of all things and return to nature. Su-hing nervously clenched his fist, knowing that the most important moment was near. He considered meetings as fate, and this poor Taoist was just an old cultivator from the Qingyun sect named Qingyun Zi, and he offered to become his teacher. Su-hing fell to his knees, accepting his offer. The teacher immediately offered him several gifts. The first gift was the immortal technique, Shenong's art of cultivating spirits, which was obtained by chance, but the old man was never able to perfect it. He saw him as a talent on the path of cultivation, so he gave him this immortal technique to perfect, and then took a place in the 3,000 worlds. Su-hing couldn't believe that he was holding 100,000 energy points in his hands. The second gift was an unbearable small blessed land, the size of 3 chun. He didn't expect to be gifted the entire temporary dungeon. The teacher explained that although the space was only a small hill, it was full of spiritual energy, and the mountains and waters were beautiful, and this place was perfect for learning spirit cultivation techniques. He touched a finger to his forehead, which gave off a green light. Su-hing thanked the teacher. The third gift was the Qingyun sect token. Although he is only a named disciple, his status in the sect is far from low. When Su-hing can reach the void return stage, he can become an official disciple, and then he will go to the Qingyun world to join the sect. Su-hing imagined getting into a sect and cultivating there to hit the jackpot. He remembered his words about alchemy, but Su Xing didn't have any alchemy techniques. Master himself wasn't strong in the path of alchemy and didn't have such methods. But he handed him the famously alchemy method that he got by accident, and there were 360 pill recipes written down. This method could allow him to both cultivate and earn money. The teacher explained to him that greed would not allow anything to be absorbed as long as Su Xing had the Changchun technique. It would be enough until the void return stage. In addition, it will bring benefits, and you need to bring the technique to perfection and then come to it. The old man instantly flew into the sky, but Su Xing didn't think that his technique was enough to break through. He thought that the teacher had done this on purpose, thinking that it might be a test. His plan now included finding the second half of the Changchun technique. Night had already fallen, and a loud voice was heard. Kung Shu finally saw Su Xing come out of the dungeon. He just wanted to talk to her. He handed her a bag of spirit rice to receive 50 spirit stones from her. The eldest handed him a small bag containing half of the rewards she had received with his help. Su-hing was very surprised. She knew that it might be awkward for him to receive her, so she asked him to accompany her to the city. Afterwards, they left for the hotel and Kang Shu inquired about his plans, offering her help. Su King was silent, and she didn't understand why. He looked into the system, realizing that in the Qinghyun Spirit Field dungeon, the time was equal to real, and all of his 7 days there were equal to real. Su Ying abruptly got up and asked to go to the bathroom. She didn't know what was wrong with her if he wasn't paying attention to her. Su Xing's mind was full of the simulation, wondering if the collapse would happen. The system has extracted the green talent, Mr. Strongman. He was now born with extraordinary strength and physique, and now he was stronger than the others. Kang Shu gently knocked on the toilet door, trying to figure out what had happened to it. Su Xing slowly opened the door. She was very worried that something might have happened to him. They sat down at the table again, and the older girl suggested that he take a shower too, but he didn't want to yet. Kang Shu abruptly put her hand on his. The whole week they'd spent together had passed. Finally, he arrived home completely tired of the older girl's menace, but now he could continue the simulation. He immediately started it, entering the secret dimension of Qingyun. His cultivation progress with spirit rice should be much faster. Plus, the taste of the spiritual rice was simply divine. He ate bowl after bowl. Every day, Su Xing entered the spirit field's transferable blessed land and carefully tended the spiritual cereals. He was strong and fit, and his appetite was twice as good as usual. At some point, he had a breakthrough to the bone tempering stage. Last time, he had cultivated for 3 years for such a result, and now in just a week, he had broken through to the first stage of bone tempering. This was also the merit of Mr. Strongman, and he decided to make sure to take this talent out of the simulation. He was now gripped by the rocket speed of cultivation, and he cultivated in the dungeon for 3 hours every day, while the rest of the time, he continued to lead the first-year girls through the dungeons. The girls were all trying to get him to take them with him. His body tempering was continuously increasing, so there were more and more people willing to hire him to level up. He handed Fatty Yu a card to pay him back. The fat man praised him for his good earnings. He relayed the words to Qing Shuyan, who would like to talk to Su Xing in the small grove outside the campus in the evening. He assumed that she would drop out of school again and join a mysterious organization. Su Xing decided not to stop her this time, and asked her to be careful. King Juyan dropped out of school while Su Xing continued to cultivate in the spirit field. In the second year, he was able to break through to the 7th stage of bone tempering. And on the 3rd day, Smog reached the 9th stage. In the 4th year, his cultivation reached the great completion of the bone tempering stage, after which he encountered a bottleneck and was unable to break through. Su Kang understood that according to the Sheneng art of spirit cultivation, different spiritual plants had different cultivation speeds. To continue breaking through, he needed to find a plant of a higher rank than spiritual rice. He started rummaging through the boxes, knowing that before leaving, Master had left him spiritual plant seeds. Su Hing finally found the bag. He started looking up the term of the spiritual plant white jade ginseng in the book and looked at how to plant it. But he froze in shock when he had to wait 10 years for his growth. He couldn't wait that long for it to sprout. But the ginseng didn't break him, and he thought of another possibility. There were ordinary plants that became spirit plants when they absorbed spiritual energy for a long time. Animals also had this ability, so Su Xing caught some chickens and placed them on the ground of the spiritual field. He tried to feed them spiritual rice, but 1/10 of the chickens died, and the rest were able to survive. While he was deep in chicken farming, Qing Shuyan returned with the top of the eternal spring. She handed him a suitable cultivation technique. Su Xing refused to do so, but he wanted to join her organization. He knew that she could recommend him, and Qing Shuyan, as a master of the master-teacher level, had the right to do so. Su Hing gave her a sharp hug in gratitude. They arrived at the descent stumps. They walked slowly through the door. Wearing a raincoat, Elder Yin was sitting on a chair. He abruptly ordered him to sit down. Su Xing couldn't even tell if it was a woman or a man. King Suyan was serving Su Xing tea. The elder decided to tell them about the name and teachings of their cult, since he wants to join them. Their cult was called the Cult of Descent, and their teaching was the destruction of the tyranny of humanity, so that the world belonged to the aliens. Su Xing abruptly spat out the tea in shock. The elder viciously slammed his fist down on the table, considering the human race not worthy to rule this planet, and the gods were only aliens. He couldn't understand what was going on. The elder gave him permission to leave before it was too late, because there was no way out of the descent cult. Su Hing was willing to do this for the bottom part of the eternal spring technique, and was willing to give everything to the cult. The elder did not ask for this, but offered to exchange equipment for quests or treasures. He wondered if the spirit rice would be considered a treasure, and immediately issued this suggestion, from which the elder was shocked. In the end, Elder Yin disappeared, and Su Xing returned instead. Later, he was tied to a cross and tortured, trying to find out how he got so much spiritual rice, but he wasn't going to say a word. So he died at the age of 29. His die with your eyes open talent was activated again, and they were thinking about what to do with his body. They kicked him in the face. Everyone made the elder's decision wise. The simulation ended abruptly, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He found the person very familiar. The system gave him a selection of rewards, and then he decided to move the cult's affairs. He wanted to take each one if possible, but he decided to choose the green talent, Mr. Strongman. With this talent, he would definitely be able to level up to the great limit of bone tempering. He didn't have much energy left and didn't have enough for the next simulation, so he had to find a way to earn money. He immediately called Kong Shu to meet up. They arrived at the hotel. Kong Shu didn't expect that he would want to sell the spiritual rice. He grinned, offering to rate the item. She offered to lend him some money if he needed it so urgently. Su-hing asked her about the amount of 50 million, but Kong Shu could easily borrow them, which made him spit out the tea. Her grandfather was the head of the Jin trading house, and even 100 million wasn't a problem for her. Su-hing immediately asked for a larger amount, giving the rice as interest. She asked him why he needed so much money, but he didn't want to tell her anything yet. He wanted to ask for help in buying a batch of white-quality equipment. He suggested that she keep the spiritual rice for cultivation so that she wouldn't sell it. He knew better than to let Kong Shui get caught on the radars of the descent cult. The door opened. He finally returned home exhausted. Now that he was $100 million in debt, he fell on the bed. He needed to think of a way to earn money, and he thought of selling spiritual rice and chickens. He decided to look for the answer in the simulation first. The system immediately extracted the green talent inflexibility. His strength of spirit was many times stronger, and now he easily went to difficulties. His goal in this simulation was a way to earn money, but he felt tired, so he decided to look for opportunities in the gifts that the teacher left. He started reading the alchemy book to create pills. Both pills looked lucrative because the food rejection pill could be sold to those who were losing weight, and the second beauty pill could be sold to the rich ladies of old age. Then his eyes lit up with delight, about to brew these two kinds. First, he needed to heat up the alchemy furnace. He held a lighter to the wood. But at that moment, everything exploded. He started coughing out the smoke, realizing that the lighter wasn't suitable, and decided to take another look at the art of alchemy. It was written about flaming fire, which was a special fire method. In order to get out of debt, he began to study the flaming fire technique diligently. During this time, Qing Shuyan had once approached him, and then she joined the cult of descent. In the second year, he vaguely found a path and increased the time to comprehend the blazing fire to 6 hours a day. Now he had finally mastered this technique in 6 years. The blazing fire was astounding, as any living thing turned into a black coal upon contact, which could be used as a weapon. He had been waiting for a very long time for him to have a combat technique. He was wondering what kind of finished pills would come out with such a technique. He started concocting pills with concentration, and his mastery of blazing fire was getting better. In the 7th year, Su Xing attended his younger sister's funeral again, and after the funeral, he restrained his emotions and continued studying. While cultivating, he used the technique abruptly, and in his hands was already a pill for refusing food, intending to continue to prepare a more complex one. He started production, and it was much more difficult than he expected. 3 years later, Su Xing created the beauty pill. I ate it right away to check it out. At first, nothing happened, and he considered it a failure. But at that moment, my stomach churned violently. He flushed with anger, and he ran like a bullet to the toilet. The chickens listened in his privacy. After a while, Su Xing took a look in the mirror. He couldn't believe his reflection, where his skin was white and his wrinkles were completely gone. Su Hang decided to brew a couple more to help his health, then go and sell them to Kong Shui. Later, he arrived at the hotel and handed the pill to the senior. She couldn't believe that just one pill could make a person look younger. Su Hang reminded her that he had never cheated on her. She decided to try it herself and ate it quickly, and Su Xing didn't have time to react. Many bright rays abruptly emerged from it. Then she lost consciousness. He immediately handed her the mirror, and she couldn't believe it was her. Now Kong Shui had returned to her 20s. She decided to take all the pills, intending to pay 1 billion apiece. Su-hing couldn't believe his ears. She begged for all the remaining pills to be sold to her, but Su-hing didn't have any. Kong Zhu suggested that mass production might be possible, and he promised to come back when he had studied the matter. After a while, Qing Shuyan came running towards him. Su-hing didn't expect to see her. She dropped out again, and Su-hing didn't stop her again. A few years later, she once again became a grandmaster teacher. I brought him the upper part of the Eternal Spring technique. He again abandoned the technique, wanting to join the cult of descent. King Shuyan introduced Su Xing to Elder Yin. Su Ging was ready to do whatever he wanted, but Qing Shuyan interrupted him and asked for a simpler task. He had accepted her request since she had brought him. Su Hing was surprised that even Qing Shuyan had defied him, which meant that the task was really difficult. He assumed that the task was to go to the demon suppression splash screen and merge information about people together with the demonic races. Qing Shuyan confirmed his words, and she didn't want to risk his life. Su Hing asked why she had joined this cult in the first place, and betrayed humanity. She concluded that there was simply no turning back. Qing Shuyan asked him to go to bed. She turned away as Su Xing watched her back. Su Xing realized that he wouldn't be able to get the information out of Qing Shuyan. When he came to the shop, he was shocked by the price of ginseng, which had increased tenfold. The seller did not understand it, but the demand for restorative drugs has increased dramatically, and he needs to raise prices. Su Xing wondered if this could be related to the actions of the descent cult. Only in the case of mass casualties can so many restorative means be required. Su Xing's heart was heavy, and he felt a deep sense of powerlessness. As a distraction, he began to diligently develop a cheap version of pills. He considered himself an alchemy genius that he could even brew beauty pills without ginseng. Su Hong immediately packed up and decided to go to Jinling to report this to Kang Shui. But that day has already arrived. Kang Shu was already in her coffin. He walked down an empty street, not knowing when he would finally be able to understand the truth of the end of the world. At this moment, a gloomy voice could be heard from behind, which knew of his intentions. Su Heng whirled around as he recognized Elder Zong. He snatched it up. The elder abruptly cut off his head, suspecting that Su Xing was sent by the Jin family. He ended up dying in this simulation as well. He was given rewards to choose from while he was angry about it. He wanted to choose everything at once. He begged the system to let him take 2 rewards. The system suggested that he spend 500,000 points to improve the simulator, which can give him 2 rewards to collect at once. It will have an immersive mode added to immerse you in the simulation. Su Xing realized that he could easily fulfill his wishes. He immediately decided to take the risk and spend 500,000. After that, he took both the inflexibility and the flaming fire techniques. Now he had no money left. Later, he called Kang Shui, offering to sell the spiritual rice, but she didn't have the time. He fell to his knees in frustration. He received a message from Kang Shui, who immediately dropped him 20 million while she was busy. Su Hing was ready to kiss the feet of this rich lady. He stood up and stretched. Now that he had money, he had to wait a week for the simulation and take out an understanding of alchemy. He was wondering if he ate the beauty pill during his student years, how much younger he would still be. A week later, he started the simulation again. This time he had luck without end. Now his luck was many times stronger than usual, and he can often find money on the street, and if he buys a lottery ticket, he can win twice as much. In the dorm, he realized that he was in a simulation, and now he needed to accumulate enough alchemy experience. He immediately started practicing hard. Now his chickens survive much longer, and their quality is noticeably better. The success rate of obtaining pills had also increased a lot, and now he was getting top grade. He dialed the number immediately. He called Kang Shu to come to the capital and pick up some good things. He was sure it would make her happier. Kang Shu had misunderstood him and was looking forward to the evening. Su Hing didn't have time to tell her that she had misunderstood him. At the meeting, he handed her a combined slimming and beauty pill to ensure the happiness of rich ladies. Just like before, Kang Shu was amazed by the pills and decided to help him sell them through the Jin family's trading house auction. Everyone raised their bids by 1 million. By the end of the day, all the pills were sold, and there was a pile of money on the floor, and Su Xing couldn't believe it. Now, with Kang Shu's capabilities, he would never have any problems with money. He felt financially free for the first time in his life. At night, Su Xing quickly packed his bags and ran along the road. He realized that women would do anything for beauty, so he decided to return to the university for safety. But in the middle, he tripped over a rock. Despite being careful, Su Xing still fell into the hole. At that moment, he was pinned by the girl against the wall. She considered their common fall fate, offering to add friends. The girl pulled it out of the hole, while the other also hunted for the beauty pill. They held a knife to his face, hinting at what she was here for. He started running away from the whole crowd. But thanks to his will, Su Xing was still able to return to his university. This time, he decided not to go out again and concentrated on brewing pills. He cultivated diligently and began planning to break through to the 3rd great realm of body cultivation. That same year, he received the news of his younger sister's death, and so he became even more immersed in cultivation. There was an explosion from which all the chickens flew away. He realized that the organ tempering stage couldn't be broken through just by perseverance, so he decided to take another look at the Jade Scroll. This pill could strengthen 5 internal organs and 6 viscera, and is used to break through to the organ tempering stage. Huangxian essence strengthened the spleen, moistened the lungs, and nourished the kidneys. This was the main ingredient of the pill, and she loved shade and moisture. Su Hing didn't expect that she only needed 3 years and immediately seated her. After 3 years, he was going to collect the essence to create a pill. First, he had to burn it with flaming fire to a viscous state. The explosion occurred again. Su Hing exhaled smoke, realizing that it was too difficult. But I wasn't ready to give up and tried again. He believed that failure was part of success, and after that, his mastery of blazing fire became better. After all, he even knew how to brew qi gathering powder. But the 5 organs pill still didn't work. Su Hing didn't think it was all for nothing. The qi gathering powder increased the spiritual energy in his body, and when there was more of it, it was easier for him to brew pills. As the days passed, an unexpected guest knocked on his door. He opened the door and Jin Kongshui's father immediately introduced himself. Su-hing immediately let him in, and he came for two things. He knew that the moment had come, and I'd like to find out more quickly about the cases. The man showed him the pill he found in Kongshui's things, wanting to know who made it. Su-hing told him about the weight loss pill. He was willing to buy everything he had, but Su-hing didn't understand why he would do it. The man couldn't say anything. Su-hing explained that he didn't have many weight loss pills, but he could make them if he said the reason. The man decided to tell him. He told him about the deplorable situation of the human race at the demon suppression outpost. There was especially a lack of professional fighters, and his weight loss pills would allow master martial artists to not feel hungry. By saving time, they will be able to return to battle. Su-hing didn't expect that the soldiers didn't even have enough time to eat. He agreed to make the pills and asked him to come back in 3 days. Su-hing wanted to know more about what was going on at the demon suppression outpost and why everyone was going there. His gut told him that this was a great opportunity to find out the truth. 3 days later, the man returned and decided to exchange the pills for gold bars. Su-hing didn't need money and he made his own terms. He wanted to meet with the higher-ups of the Great Xia army, intending to give a whole box of pills as a reward. The man was ready to pass on his request, but he couldn't give an exact answer. They reached the car, but Su-hing didn't know where they were going. The man handed him a black blindfold to blindfold his eyes. Su-hing did not interfere. He was very interested in who they were taking him to meet if everything was so secret. His heart was uneasy, and he thought that in the worst-case scenario, he would have to do the simulation again, so he got into the car so easily. The car finally stopped. Su-hing removed the blindfold. When he got out of the car, he saw the People's Yuan in front of him, where the most powerful people of Great Xia lived. He heard a strange voice calling him inside to meet the head. Su-hing knew that his opponent was at least the level of a martial emperor. The driver couldn't take him any further and led him to the door. Su-hing slowly opened the double doors. I was immediately shocked. Standing in front of him was one of the leaders of the Great Xia army, Lu Yuanwu. He had heard that Su-hing had concocted an army ration pill. Su-hing felt strange that they called it the army ration pill. Lu Yuanwu felt that it should be called that at a time like this. Su-hing wanted to know what was really going on in the human world, but he didn't give him any information. After all, he only made an appointment to buy a pill recipe. He handed him a check for Su-hing to enter any amount he wanted. Su-hing understood that the pill needed spiritual rice to make it, and the army wouldn't be able to use the recipe anyway. Su-hing was willing to give the recipe away for free, and he only wanted to know what was going on at the demon suppression outpost. He wanted to know the exact cause of death of his sister, friend, and Kongshui. The man agreed, but he asked me to leave it in my heart. Su-hing noticed that there were so many students and teachers from the capital's professional university among them. This was a human city at the demon suppression outpost, and professional fighters must enter the city to fight for the future of humanity. But he knew that his classmates hadn't reached the level of a master teacher yet. Then he understood, and Yuanwu confirmed his words. The situation at the outpost was getting worse, and almost all of the master teachers had almost all died. Su-hing screamed in horror. It showed that there was a battlefield ahead of the protective barrier, and all of Su-hing's loved ones had died there. Yuanwu asked him to stay in the human city at the demon suppression outpost to brew pills for everyone. Su-hing wanted to know what was going on there. Even though he found out the truth, it didn't bring him any joy. He wanted to take a personal look at the battlefield and how exactly people were dying there. Su-hing tried to get out, but he couldn't do it without the permission of the supervisor. The guard wouldn't let him even get some fresh air. He continued to make pills, and a purple pill popped out of the furnace. Su-hing considered himself a genius alchemist for being able to brew the confusion pill the first time. At that moment, the guards heard the commotion, and they were afraid that something had happened to Su-hing. They quickly rushed into the room and only saw the pills. The pills shattered and purple smoke emerged from them. The guards fell and lost consciousness as Su-hing quickly ran away. He had prepared everything carefully to enter the protective barrier. Su-hing quickly went to the entrance. When he entered, he was speechless with shock. There was a huge demon in front of him, and now he knew that Su-hing wasn't prepared enough anyway. The old man sent warriors to hit the monster's weak spot, the eyes. They were all jumping at the demon. But the monster only used one hand to tear down the crowd of soldiers. The old man ordered everyone to scatter. He took one of the warriors in his hand, thinking them too presumptuous. But the man smiled as he turned the arrow. The demon's eyes abruptly exploded, and it screamed in pain. The elder gave the order to attack at this moment. He started waving his arms to push the enemies away. The demon laughed, knowing that it couldn't be killed. The old man leapt at him, ready to avenge the students. It hit him in another eye, causing him to scream. The demon slapped itself in the face to take the old man to the next world with it. He collapsed to the ground, dead. Su-hing watched from the hill, realizing that so many people had died for one beast. Su-hing knew that everyone close to him had died in the same way. I heard a voice behind me. It was Yuanwu, and he was asking Su Xing to go home because there was nothing left to fight for. Su Xing realized that the demon suppression outpost had fallen, and it was only a matter of time before the aliens invaded. He once again created another pill. Su Xing was able to turn grief into strength and decided to focus on the avark of organ tempering pills so that he could break through to the internal organ tempering stage as soon as possible. He didn't have the energy to wait, so he drank it straight away. But it instantly exploded on the spot. The simulation was completed, and he was given a choice of rewards. Su Xing couldn't believe that he was blown up by his own pill. He abruptly remembered that he had used the 3-year-old Huangxian essence from Wenmo of Earth to brew it. Su Xing now understood that the strength of the pill might depend on the age of the ingredients. But he was still going to increase his cultivation so that he could better brew pills, and he chose the initial level of Flaming Fire Alchemy as a reward. In this simulation, he was finally able to reach the demon suppression outpost. He realized that the giant beast would not descend to Earth in 15 years, but as soon as the demon suppression outpost fell. In fact, they had always existed, and they were being held back outside the outpost. He still had 15 years to do something. He realized that it was his responsibility to save the world in so much time and simulation. Her eyes widened in shock. Kung Shu immediately noticed that her dark circles under her eyes were gone, and she felt like she was 20 years old. Su Xing talked about a beauty pill that he wanted to sell at a good price. $1 billion immediately came to his bank account. Kung Shu was ready to take all the pills he brought while Su Xing sat there in shock. He started to cry out of happiness that he finally felt like a celestial dragon. Su Hong explained that these pills had a limited overlap effect and one shouldn't eat too much of them. But Kung Shu wasn't going to buy them just for herself. She reminded me of her last name to give me a hint. Su Shang realized that this was the first time in reality that he knew about the Kong Shui family business. She confirmed his guess, since Kong Shui was the only daughter of the Jin trading house. So these pills weren't for her, but to put up for auction. Su Xing didn't need any money. He wanted to ask the trading house to exchange money for white equipment, but Kong Shui didn't understand why he would need so much. Su Xing started to beg her, not wanting to explain now, but he really needed to. She felt that this amount of white gear might attract public attention, but she had a good way. She suggested that we first create a merchant guild that would deal with buying equipment so that we could improve the quality of equipment and buy green equipment. Su Hing liked the idea and immediately suggested the name Taro. Kong Shu felt shy and coughed. She approached, knowing that her business was already complete. Su Hing handed over the guild establishment to her and quickly left, preparing to return to the university. The door closed quickly as she tried to stop him. Kong Shu was furious that he used her every time and ran away. Su Hing returned to the dorm and discovered the submerged simulation function. He wanted to try it for a long time, but he didn't have enough energy, but now Kong Shu is helping him earn money. He clicked and immediately received the green talent, Majestic View. Now he looked more impressive than the others and easily attracted the sympathy of the opposite sex. Su Xing couldn't see the use of such a talent, asking for a refund. He had arrived at the secret realm of Qingyun. Since the previous death was due to the ingredients, he decided to continue training his body. Su Ying decided to reduce the strength of the medicine by half, so that this time it would definitely be normal. Every day he trained his body, and at the same time engaged in farming, raising chickens and moonlighting and leveling, and then sent Qing Shuyan to the cult of descent. After all, he had once again reached the great completion of the bone tempering stage. He had reached the point where he needed to take the organ tempering pill, but he was very afraid of the result. Su Hing decided to give it to Kong Shu first so as not to start from scratch. But right now, he needed to strengthen his body, and he wanted to refresh himself. He abruptly approached the nest of chickens. The chickens immediately pricked up their ears, startled. He started throwing knives at them to eat. Su Hing hinted to them that they needed to lay an egg every day, otherwise they would end up in the chicken soup. Later, the hens were sleeping peacefully in the nest. Kong Shu had already experienced the organ tempering pill, and it had very strong properties, although there was a lot of pain after taking it, but it increases strength well. She realized that he was looking for Grandpa Lu, and Su Xing was shocked that she was calling him Grandpa. Thanks to Kong Shu's recommendation, he quickly got in touch with Yuanmu, and he was very interested in the organ tempering pill. Su Kang was wondering if the fearless army fighters with his powerful pill could survive the wave of the apocalypse. When he fulfilled his wish, Su Xing focused on eating the eggs of the spirit chickens. He hoped to strengthen his body to the point where he could take the organ tempering pill as soon as possible. While he was seriously frying chicken one day, he suddenly heard Kong Shui's voice. Su Hing immediately ran into the portal after hearing the voice. He slowly opened the door, and he was startled. Kong Shu was standing there with the soldiers, but she didn't have time to explain anything. She tugged at his collar to make him follow her faster. They went to the helicopter. Su Hing was shocked by what he saw, not understanding what was going on. Kong Yu reported with a smile that his organ tempering pill had done a great job. Su Hing grinned, knowing that the pill definitely worked. They arrived at the People's Temple of Heaven. The soldiers in a row greeted the commander. Yunwu reported that an average of 5 organ-tempering pills could increase a master teacher's strength by 50%. He asked how many of these pills Su Xing could make now. He estimated that he could craft 200 pieces a month, which meant that in just 5 months, they could create 200 master teacher level experts. Yunwu smiled, knowing that this would be a huge boost to humanity. The commander offered Su Xing third-rank privileges if he provided the right amount of pills. They were both shocked to be reminded that even a commander only had second-rank privileges. Kang Su explained that there were only a few hundred people with third-rank privileges, and most of them sacrificed themselves for the sake of the people. Su Xiang wanted to know if there were any cultivation-related dungeons in this world. Kang Su realized that he was talking about dungeon types like spiritual Qingyun. Wenwu only knew about them through documents, but the coordinates were unknown. These materials were very important to Su Xin, and he was going to make organ-tempering pills conscientiously. There were many more cultivation dungeons, and there would definitely be opportunities like the ones Qing Yunzi had left him. 3 days later, in her office, Kang Su placed a stack of papers on her desk. I went to Taro while he looked at the paperwork. Su Hing finally discovered that he could spend 100,000 energy on a submerged simulation for an hour. The system immediately accepted his order and activated it. He hadn't expected to move inside so quickly, and it really felt like moving to another world. Su Xing started to touch the stack of papers. Among the documents was an envelope with top-secret information. Su Xing abruptly started looking through all the papers. The system received information about the Blood Demon Cave dungeon at a difficulty of 4 stars. He had been warned that cultivation dungeons were extremely dangerous, and it was not recommended to explore them. Legendary NPCs or even saints can appear in this dungeon, and a team of 5 fighters is recommended to explore such a dungeon. Su Hang froze in shock. He couldn't believe that this dungeon needed 7 fighters of the highest levels, as if there was a meat grinder inside. He now understood why cultivation dungeons weren't shown to people since they were so dangerous. When entering this dungeon, people appear next to a sect called the Blood Demon Sect. After that, you need to immediately run to the north, because in the other direction is the lair of the sect. The disciples of this sect in the dungeon are bloodthirsty and indiscriminately pursue all the entered fighters. They had special artifacts that allowed them to track their location. Su Xing read through it, shocked by every single fact. Suddenly, it occurred to him that if this information was taken out, then someone might have survived. And I wanted to see it. The source of the information from this dungeon was a man named Sheng Shu, who recorded it in 1978. Su Hing had no doubt that such a strong fighter was still alive before the apocalypse, and decided to find him to learn about the dungeon's method of passing. But right now, he was only a small foundation stage cultivator, and it wasn't even worth dreaming of such a dungeon. Su Hing started looking for a dungeon that was suitable for his current level. He discovered the Ludian Assembly dungeon, which had a difficulty of only 2 stars. It was a cyclical time dungeon that could only be entered by 1 person at a time, and the entrance took place on the same day. On this day, the cultivators inside the dungeon call the 1st of January of the year 7266, the day of the annual Luodian meeting. The fighter is transferred to the body of a foundation stage cultivator named Luo Xiaochuan and relives everything that he experienced that day. In addition to memories, the entered fighter cannot remove items from it. Su Hing decided to visit the dungeon, even though it was impossible to take it out of nothing. For cultivators, memories are also valuable. He reached for the next book, and I was able to find a dungeon with a difficulty of 1 star, even lower than that of the Laotian Gathering. This place is in the end of Law era, and it was the late period of cultivators. Due to the drying up of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for 1,000 years, and the lack of spiritual stones, almost all the cultivators in this dungeon were still at the key refining stage. There are 3 great sects in this dungeon: Fleeting Life Sect, Zhuanhuang Teaching, and Changchun Sect. They still had the legacy of cultivators in ancient times, and preserved their cultivation methods. Su Hing grinned, realizing that this was a perfect fit for his research. Then he remembered that the Changchun sect might be related to the Eternal Spring technique. He assumed that it came from this particular dungeon. The system notified him that the submerged simulation was only 10 minutes away, and he was very surprised by this. He immediately picked up the phone and dialed the number. Su Hing called Yuanwu to get the coordinates of the Law End Era and Luodian Assembly dungeons. The commander could give the coordinates of the Law End Era, but the Luotian meetings closed down 3 years ago. Su Hang asked for both coordinates anyway, since it was already closed in the simulation, but not in the real world. He believes that he didn't waste 100,000 energy in vain. The system made it possible to exit before the end of the submerged simulation. He fell back on the bed and stretched when he came back from the simulation. While his memory was still fresh, Su Xing quickly wrote down the coordinates. These 2 dungeons were considered easy, but there are still some ancient cultivators in the End of Law era. He decided to take his time and head there when he broke through in cultivation. He continued the simulation and began to focus on alchemy. Su-hing ate spiritual rice and large amounts of spiritual chicken eggs every day to maintain his strength, and his bodily cultivation had already reached the great completion of the bone tempering stage. But one body cultivation wasn't enough for him because his qi cultivation remained at the same level. He wondered if his cultivation method was the right one. As he was about to take a look at Qing Yunzi's technique, it suddenly dawned on him. Su-hing needed a large amount of spiritual energy to break through the golden core that was gathered in Dantian, but the concentration of spiritual energy in the secret realm was too low, so the conditions were not met. He needs to think of a way to gather a large amount of spiritual energy. He started rummaging through the box to create a source recharge pill, and Su-hing was able to find the main ingredient. He immediately activated the unyielding will talent. A few years had passed, and after a bunch of failures, he was finally able to craft 5 furnaces of low-grade origin recharge pills. They were different from the previous pills. The organ tempering pill worked roughly and fiercely, and cultivators with weak bodies sometimes couldn't stand it, resulting in damage and death. But the source recharge pill is much softer and doesn't do any harm. He exhaled, full of energy. Su-hing felt that his body was filled with infinite spiritual energy, and it was even higher in quality than normal. His cultivation was still at the great completion of the foundation stage, but his strength still increased by several times. If everything continued to go so well, he would break through to the golden core stage, and his strength would be comparable to that of a master-level fighter. He clenched his fist in motivation, imagining how he was going to explore the end-of-law-era dungeon. The 12th year has arrived. Su-hing could feel his cultivation becoming more stable, and he had a premonition of breaking through to the golden core stage soon. Therefore, he had spent a full 3 months and concocted over 100 origin recharge pills to prepare for the breakthrough. His spiritual energy had never been so complete. Spiritual energy was coming out of his body. This feeling was comparable to a dried-up stream that finally merged into a river, or the spring thunder that rang out in the heart, and the spring shoots suddenly broke out. This mysterious feeling flared up and rushed straight to the spiritual altar. He couldn't believe it was finally going to happen. His spiritual energy inflated everything around him. Su-hing laughed viciously, feeling as if he had swallowed a single grain of the golden core, and now his fate was in his hands. When the simulation ends for a certain amount of resources, he can immediately reach the early stage of the golden core. After breaking through to the early stage, his strength increased dramatically, and concocting pills became the easiest thing to do. He was delivering the pills in a timely manner, and the situation at the demon suppression outpost was finally starting to turn for the better. Su-hing looked at the clear blue sky without the giant beasts. He smiled, thinking that it could be finished by now. But at that moment, a terrified Yuanwu, who was worried about Kong Shui, ran up to him. Su-hing was afraid that she had died again, but she escaped with only serious injuries, and she needs several years to recover. He thought about it and realized that the revolution is not yet complete, and we need to continue our efforts. Su-hing handed him the papers with the medicinal materials he needed to make a batch of medicinal pills. Also, he asked Yuanwu to find people to make thousands of alchemy furnaces. He once again went into seclusion and diligently brewed pills, making more than 10,000 of them. All of his medicinal pills had greatly reduced the pressure on the front line. But one day it was the 15th year of the simulation. Yuanwu sadly reported that the demon suppression outpost had fallen, and it was time to leave. Su-hing felt nervous, knowing that this was just another failure. He had completely forgotten about sleep and food while brewing the pills, but he was only able to delay the end of the world by a month. He turned to it, trying to figure out how to defeat these creatures in the first place. Yuanwu sighed, hoping for an ordinary miracle. Or there was another option. If a true god-level warrior appears among the humans. At that moment, a huge beast screamed above them. Yuanwu ordered him to run and hide, intending to stand his last watch like a warrior. He wanted to share the fate of Great Xia. The commander flew straight towards the monster, and Su-hing watched him die. Only now did he realize that no one had given up until this moment, and while the beasts were trying to devour the world, many fighters were fighting desperately. A crowd of fighters went after their commander. Suddenly, a whirlwind swirled, and he threw all the warriors to the ground. One of the badges fell at his feet. Su-hing pondered Yuanwu's words. And I decided to try hiding in the spiritual fields to try to survive the apocalypse. The beast opened its mouth again to stun him, but Su-hing managed to escape into the portal. There was an incomprehensible world inside it, and it turned out to be a spatial stream that eventually tore it into pieces. The simulation was completed, and he realized that hiding in the spiritual fields would not be possible. He was again given a choice of rewards. He was definitely going to take the golden core cultivation, and he was thinking about the alchemy experience. Su-hing decided to take it to brew pills in the future. The cultivation started to import, asking him to stay conscious. At this moment, he felt like a volcano. His entire body was on fire as he sat in the lotus position. Su-hing felt that something was about to break out. The spiritual energy gathered into one big tree, and golden flowers were blooming on it. These golden flowers gave golden fruits. Su-hing felt blissful as he felt the golden core forming. The system asked him not to get caught up in this feeling and focus instead. He continued to cultivate as the spiritual power circled around him. Suhing abruptly opened his bright eyes. A light appeared inside it. He couldn't comprehend what he saw. There was a whirlwind in his hand. It was a whirlwind of spiritual energy that lifted him into the sky. He felt that even a gold-level fighter would have a hard time withstanding this, and he urgently needed to take matters into his own hands. Suhing imagined that if nothing was done, the entire capital's professional university would be wiped out. He began to grip the sphere in his hands. I breathed nervously, trying to control it. Suhing returned to the dorm, realizing that he had barely managed to hold him back. Otherwise, the entire building would have exploded. He didn't expect that with just the cultivation of the golden core, one could possess such destructive power, and he was only going to embark on the path of cultivation. With just one simulation, he was able to save 15 years by reaching the golden core stage. He imagined monsters but quickly calmed down, realizing that he still needed to get stronger in order to stop the end of the world. He already had 6 talents, and he was wondering if there was a maximum. It suddenly dawned on him that the same vortex he had tried to form earlier could be recognized by the fighter system as a skill. It was now clear that he could learn skills on his own, even though he couldn't get skill scrolls. This opened up endless possibilities for him. As long as he had enough spiritual energy, he was going to constantly use spells like Flaming Fire or Spiritual Energy Explosion that didn't require recovery. But then he thought that he was only in the early stage of the Golden Core, and right now, the most important thing was to obtain the lower part of the Eternal Spring technique so that he could have a chance to break through. It was clear that he would have to join the Descent cult again next time. He immediately ordered the simulation to begin, this time to find new leads in the cult of Descent. Now he followed Qing Shuyan without hesitation and joined the cult. The elder explained that he would need to demonstrate strength to join anyway. Suhing understood everything and was immediately ready to show it. He injured Elder Ying, then used a healing pill and a blood replenishment pill to heal him on the spot. The elder couldn't believe that this was possible. After all, these pills were comparable to average-grade medicinal potions. He put him on the status of medicine elder so that he could develop pills for them. Su Shang had successfully entered the Descent cult and even obtained a position, but he still couldn't find the treasure trove to obtain the Eternal Spring technique. Fortunately, the opportunity came quickly. The elder had heard that Su Xing wanted to enter the treasury and was willing to give a chance. They thanked him for the pills, which were very helpful to the cult members. The elder handed him a box full of ingredients so that he could make 1,000 pills in half a year, and then he would be allowed to enter the treasury and inspect everything there. Su Xing rubbed his chin, satisfied that all these ingredients could be used. He grinned, happily accepting their handouts. Su Xing lied about the amount of medicinal materials and secretly appropriated most of them. From the remaining scraps, he made 500 medicinal pills and 100 organ-tempering pills. No one knew that Su Xing was working sloppily and thought that it was just his alchemy level. From then on, he began secretly using the cult's resources to fuel his alchemy. He was satisfied with the quality of the medicinal materials and felt that this spirit nourishment pill was enhancing his spiritual sense. Suhing wanted to use this opportunity to make a few more types of supreme pills. He abruptly remembered that these materials were even better than those of the Great Xia army. Half a year later, Elder Yin arrived again. He announced that he had successfully passed the test, and now Su Xing could go and inspect the treasure trove. Suhing had been waiting for this day for a very long time and smiled. As they walked through the dark forest, Su Xing began to doubt, but this was the road to the treasure trove. Su Xing believed that she should have been in a cult. Elder Yin didn't understand why the treasury had to be a building in the ordinary world. Suhing opened his eyes in shock, guessing. The treasury of their cult wasn't in this world, but inside a dungeon. It was now clear why everyone in the cult of Descent was considered a traitor because they were not from this world. Suhing was worried that the dungeon might disappear at any moment along with the treasures, but the elder didn't consider it part of his business. He was angry at the fake eunuch, knowing that the latter wouldn't tell him anything. Su Hang abruptly decided to exchange 1 hour of submerged simulation. The system immediately teleported him to the simulation. The treasury gate now looked more majestic than in the system. Elder Yin was calling for him to follow him into the portal. Su Hang came right behind him. He walked in and started looking around. They came to a large staircase. Su Hing noticed that everything is more eco-friendly in this world. The elder thought that Su Xing wanted to join their nature faction. The cult of Descent had already existed for almost 1,000 years, and 3 factions had formed within it during that time. The nature faction, the fanatical faction, and the coexistence faction. The people from the fanatic faction were truly madmen. They worshipped the Great Lord and wanted to sacrifice themselves so that the main race could descend to the Blue Star. There are the most people in it. Everyone is dissatisfied with their behavior, but no one dares to object. Su Xing considered them to be mere radicals, who consider the existence of humans to be a sin. The coexistence faction was a bunch of cowards who hoped that the great master race, through the merits of the cult, would allow the majority of humanity to survive. The elder thought they were naive because he saw no reason to coexist with the great main race. Su Hong felt as if the coexistence faction at least had some humanity. It was just that they were too soft. He had run the simulation so many times, and never once had he not been eaten by animals. Su Xing asked about the nature faction. Elder Yin was also a member of the nature faction, which seeks to approach the primordial and natural side of the world. They believed that nature was the closest thing to the truth. Su Ying felt that their theory was too vague, but it seemed to be the most normal one. Elder Yin had no doubt that Su Xing would understand. He started insisting on joining in to help him get rid of human nature. Su Ying couldn't understand why people suddenly became inferior and pitiful. The elder knew how humanity had destroyed countless forests and hills during its development, being the executioners of nature. The great master race was different because they were the closest to truth and nature. Therefore, humans must approach the main race endlessly, and this was the philosophy of their nature faction. The elder abruptly pulled off his robe, and beneath it was a body with tentacles. Su Kang was genuinely frightened when he saw this. The elder explained that it was a gift, and he had already modified almost 1/5 of his body, and then he would finally be able to get rid of the human essence. He insisted on joining them, explaining that these organs had increased his strength several times over. Su Hing sighed heavily, not understanding what was wrong with the nature faction. The elder kept insisting on joining and choosing the perfect body, but Su Xing tried to get away with it. He started asking again about the treasure trove, reminding them what they had come for. Su Hing watched a separate world within a world in shock, assuming that he had been brought to a secret realm for cultivation. He had an open-mouthed view of the amount of treasures, but this was just the tip of the iceberg of their cult. The elder turned to Protector Long, introducing Su Xing that he had come to choose a treasure. Defender of the Moons chuckled. Su Hing walked down the corridor and couldn't tell if there was real gold around him, but they considered it ordinary worldly things. In their cult, only equipment, ancient books, and heavenly and earthly treasures are truly valuable. Their treasury wasn't even inferior to Great Xia's state treasury. Su Hing tensed up, realizing that Great Xia now had such a powerful enemy, and it was now clear why they had lost so tragically. The elder offered to guide him to the right treasure, and Su Xing would like to see the ancient book section. He swiped it to the right section, and it shone brightly. Su Hing was surprised by the number of books. The elder allowed him to inspect everything calmly and was ready to answer his questions. Su Xing understood that there must be top cultivation techniques here. He scanned the covers of the books, still searching for what he needed. But I didn't find what I was looking for, and I came across a book about Elder Feng Yu and his 108 boys. He picked up another of the books. This book didn't meet the requirements either, and it already had a story about 100 days with his girlfriend. He was curious and read it carefully. Later, Su Xing sighed in frustration that there were just ordinary travel notes inside. At that moment, he noticed something written inside one of the books. He read that the core condensation method compresses spiritual power and embeds it into the golden core, which increases its quality and is exactly what he needs. The elder noticed what books he was looking for and suspected that the medicine elder was interested in cultivation, but there wasn't even any spiritual energy in their world. Su Xing explained that cultivation and alchemy come from the same source. He wasn't destined to step on the path of immortals, but he wants to create the best pills for the cult, so he decided to learn the core condensation method. The elder patted his high spirit. Su Xing clarified the information about the lower part of the eternal spring technique, the upper part of which had greatly benefited him. They had it, but the bottom part needed 100,000 contribution points, and Su Xing didn't have enough. He didn't expect such a price, because Qing Shuyan was talking about 1,000 contribution points. The elder explained that most of their cultivation techniques were from the fanatical faction. These madmen were also obsessed with cultivation, and that's why they sell techniques so expensively. Su Hing pondered, not expecting that the people from the fanatical faction could also cultivate. Abruptly, he remembered that the profession panel had clearly stated that he was the only one with a cultivator's profession, and that meant only one thing. The people from the fanatical faction were not from this world. The elder put his arm around him, offering him a better look at the heaven and earth treasure section of their cult. One of them was the 100-year-old blood ginseng, which was the main material for making the blood replenishment pill. There was also the 50-year-old yang return herb, and it was the main material for the yang return pill. She is the only one who can restore strength to a person on the verge of death. There is also a 200-year-old long yuan grass and a 500-year-old Zixian flower. Su Hang stood there in shock, as if this treasure trove had robbed an entire medicinal plant garden. The elder knew that Su Xing was the only alchemist in the entire cult, so only he could use these supreme materials. Su Hing admitted that he could still make some good pills, but he was suffering from a lack of materials. The elder only asked to register them before using them, and 70% of the pills produced would need to be handed over. Su Xing was sure that no one here knew anything about alchemy, and he was deciding how many pills he would get in the end. First, he decided to take 100 spiritual herbs, promising that he would make 3 new types of pills for the cult in half a year. The elder suggested that we go to Protector Long for registration. But Su Xing also brought along a strange book, and the elder was surprised by his peculiar taste. They came to Protector Long to register the spiritual herbs and the ancient book. Protector Long was shocked. He discovered that Su Xing had taken the core condensation method, which showed that he was a cultivator, but Su Xing immediately explained that he was an immortality cultivator and just brewed pills. Protector Long stood his ground, knowing that in this book, the core condensation method was the most important, and only a knowledgeable person would spend contribution points on it. Su Xing became nervous, realizing that he had made a mistake. Protector Long was exploding with rage, wanting to know his true identity, not understanding how he had cultivated to the golden core stage in the end of law era. Su Xing couldn't believe that the Protector was also able to find out his cultivation level. He demanded answers and reached out to attack him. The elder stood in front of Su Xing, explaining that it was a simple mistake because the medicine elder couldn't be a cultivator without spirit stones. At that moment, he was pierced by a beam of energy. Su Xing screamed in terror. His throat was squeezed in his hands, and he realized that Protector Long was also a cultivator, because only an extremely strong cultivator could determine the level of another. Protector Long's eyes filled with tears as he demanded information about spirit stones and energy. Su Xing was on the verge of death and was already screaming in pain. At this point, the submerged simulation system was completed. In the cult's treasury, Defender of the Moons performed a soul search on him, and the simulator automatically blocked these memories in his mind. The search for the Defender's soul lasted more than 10 minutes. His memory had been altered, so in the eyes of the Protector, he only looked lucky to have accidentally obtained some spirit stones in a cultivation technique. Su Xing was wondering how he died back then. The soul search lasted for more than 10 minutes, and after that, he turned into a vegetable. Seeing his expression and saliva, Protector Long felt disgusted and destroyed him with a single palm strike. At the same time, he died, and the simulation ended. Su Xing was furious with the Descent cult, intending to smash them to smithereens someday. He thought about the soul search that only cultivators should possess, but Su Xing had to be the only cultivator in the world, which meant that Protector Long came from another world. At this moment, the thought occurred to him that Qing Yunzi was a cultivator from the Qingyun sect's dungeon. He recalled what Kong Shui had said about the treasure trove that was inside the dungeon, and the old man's words about the spiritual field that was his little world. The cult's treasury was similar to spiritual fields, and was also the location of a dungeon quest. This meant that Protector Long was the same as Qing Yunzi. He also had to be a character from some dungeon, and the demonic beast that led to the extinction of mankind, and the main race that the cult worshipped also came from some dungeon. Su Xing thought the cult was too scary, because they could not only associate with foreign races, but also form alliances with NPCs from other dungeons. He was shaking on the spot at the thought of meeting this cult in reality. But still, the Descent cult was a great place to earn experience, so that with this core condensation method, he could form a supreme golden core. After that, Su Xing would be able to challenge the nascent soul stage ancestor with ease. According to Elder Yin's information, the lower part of the Eternal Spring technique was in the hands of a fanatical faction. Su Xing then began a simulation in which he would try to attract the attention of Protector Zong. The system drew out the blue talent, innate divine power. His strength surpassed that of ordinary people, and he now had a talent in bodily cultivation and cultivation. Su Xing was pleased with the talent that allowed him to not only stay at the Golden Core stage, but also combine cultivation with physical cultivation. In this simulation, he had a clear goal, so he and Qing Shuyan dropped out of university and joined a cult. His skill in pill making once again shocked Elder Yin. He opened a lot of doors for Su Xing and helped him obtain a lot of first-class materials, so he quickly began to create supreme pills. Su Xing decided to take the organ tempering pill that had repeatedly blown up his body before, but now he had innate divine power, so he wasn't afraid. He felt a strange pain as he realized that the power of this pill was much more powerful. He was abruptly torn apart as the spiritual energy came out. Su Xing felt as if his internal organs were on fire, and every cell in his body was being torn apart. This went on for 7 whole days. Su Xing stepped right into the waterfall. He gently touched his body, noticing that the burning sensation was gone. But he was shocked when he looked at his body, realizing that his organs had become much stronger. Su Xing was touching his muscles, which were also noticeably enlarged. This wasn't enough for him, so he decided to take advantage of the cult's resources and break through to the organ tempering level in one go. Another week passed, and all of his flesh seemed to take on a life of its own. He could feel all his organs breathing freely. One day, Su Xing felt an unprecedented life force, and the power inside his body increased several times. Finally, he was able to break through to the level of organ tempering. Su-hing solemnly opened the soda can. He quickly drank it down, realizing that there was only a little bit left before the golden core stage. In this simulation, he was definitely going to get the lower part of Eternal Spring. After breaking through, his strength grew, and he was finally noticed by the representatives of the other factions, and among them was Protector Zong from the Fanatical faction. Protector Zong asked for some medicinal pills to be made for them. Su-hing felt uneasy, not knowing what to say. He was afraid to make an exchange for the lower part of the Changchun technique, because the plot from the previous life might be repeated. Elder Yin did not allow him to approach his man in person and ask permission from himself. Su Shang knew that he couldn't go over to Protector Zong's side in front of the Elder, and the Fanatical faction wouldn't believe in his loyalty anyway. He sighed, realizing that his plan had reached a dead end, but something even worse had happened. Right in front of him, Protector Zong died. The Elder claimed that he was killed in battle, and no one cared about his belongings. He abruptly removed his hood, remembering that Su Xing hadn't seen his real face yet. Underneath it was a girl with red hair. Su-hing couldn't believe that the eunuch had been such a beauty all along. She took his hand to go to the world of the main race together. The main race would descend in a month, and then humanity would be wiped out, so they needed to become part of the main race to survive. Su-hing pushed her hand away, not wanting to turn into anyone. He wanted to stay human. A new era began on September 23, 2037. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, after refusing Elder Yin's request, a giant beast appeared that covered the sky and earth and swallowed Great Xia in one bite. He eventually died at the age of 37. He now knew that Elder Yin was a woman, but the end of the world had come earlier, which was directly related to the descent cult. Su-hing didn't expect the eunuch to be female. He decided to choose from the rewards of divine power and the initial stage of organ tempering. The world was too dangerous, so Su-hing decided to increase his strength first. He was shocked that he had reached the level of organ tempering power. His heart abruptly filled with energy. Light pierced through his body, and he screamed with the power. Su-hing had once again broken through to a new degree. He was grinning as he realized that he was able to reach the 9th level, and there was only one step left to reach the Yuanwu level. Su-hing went to look for a place to test his current strength. He went to places with training equipment at the university that cost $1 million. It was even set up for free in the student hall, which surprised Su-hing. Everyone around them was discussing Su-hing's appearance, regarding him as trash, and they doubted that he could cultivate. There were too many people who knew him, so it was impossible to reveal his true strength just yet. He went to the bathroom, and fortunately, I prepared for this moment in advance. At this point, a group of guys lost it, but the girl turned around and blushed as she noticed something. Everyone turned around and saw a glowing silhouette. It was Su-hing, but with a more beautiful face. The company immediately opened their mouths in shock and admiration. He accidentally took the beauty pill instead of disguising himself, but the main thing was that the face was still hidden. Su-hing walked over to the simulator, starting from the gold level. He swung his fist sharply. He hit the target hard. From his strength, the simulator simply flew off at breakneck speed. Su-hing thought that the trainer was just not good at handling punches. The company was shocked that he smashed such a simulator with one blow. The girl vaguely recognized him, but she thought that he had broken through to the master level and had come to mock the newcomers. Su-hing decided to approach the master level simulator since the gold level didn't suit him. He swung again with full fury. The simulator was torn by his impact. One of the nuts flew in the direction of the company, almost breaking their heads. They couldn't believe that even a master-level trainer couldn't withstand his punch. Su-hing suddenly realized that these were all university property and was afraid that he would be forced to pay for the damage. He dropped to his knees, starting to count the total amount with depreciation. The guy took a closer look, seeing on the counter a blow of 150,000 kilograms, and such figures can only be shown by fighters of the level of a grandmaster. Su-hing went back to him, realizing that the simulator wasn't completely broken, so he was going to test his strength a couple more times. He started throwing a series of punches. Now the counter could not output numbers. Su-hing grinned and realized that his strength really matched that of a master teacher. He decided not to say anything and left spectacularly. Everyone thought that he might have used some skill to enhance his strength. The girl believed that there was no point in using skills on the simulator, and this is just a guy who just broke through and came to test his strength. He was furious that there was another master teacher in their university. The girl decided to immediately post a video on the forum to ask about his identity. Su-hing went to the mountains and dried off with a towel. The effect of the beauty pill was over, and he was starting to look normal again. He found it strange that when he reached the completion of bone tempering, his strength exceeded 200,000 jin, but for some reason, at the 9th level of organ tempering, his strength exceeds 300,000 jin. Su-hing began to cultivate, wondering what the main strength of organ tempering was. The first stage of body cultivation is the body tempering stage, and it was intended to lay a solid foundation for the path of body cultivation. The main goal was to strengthen the body, while it also gives an increase in combat strength and physical strength. The second stage of body cultivation was the bone tempering stage, and at this level, the bones in the physical body are strengthened, and when the strength of the body increases, the strength also increases. The third stage was the internal organ tempering stage, which was the strengthening of the 5 internal organs and 6 systems that amplify internal energy. Strengthening his heart increased his stamina in battle, as he could now fight for 3 to 4 hours straight. Kidneys belong to the water element, store essence and store energy, and for a cultivator, they are extremely important for maintaining the body's work and balance. The spleen was responsible for hematopoiesis, and with its strength, the circulation of blood and energy throughout the body becomes complete, and the strength can steadily grow. The organ tempering stage was more like a transition level, connecting the previous and subsequent stages, and focused on internal strengthening. He thought that only after the 4th stage, the Yuanwu level, would there be a power surge, and I wanted to find a way to test my hypothesis. Su Hing abruptly heard the phone's ringtone. It was the infuriated Kang Shu, who was angry because of his idleness in the Chamber of Commerce. The idea of a test came to him abruptly. If his guess was correct, then his stamina should have improved many times over. Kang Shu suggested that we discuss the affairs of the tarot meeting. But he was already exhausted, just wanting to rest. He realized that he couldn't handle this woman until the late stage of organ tempering. Su Hing planned to join the fanatical faction in this simulation, and he would definitely get the lower part of Eternal Spring. The system gave him the blue talent 10th level of the language of beasts. Now he could talk to spiritual and ordinary animals. He found this talent quite interesting. In the spirit fields, he realized that he was in a simulation, and as he was about to brew pills, several unfamiliar voices were heard near his ear. Su Hing was surprised and started looking for the source of the sounds, because he should be alone in the spiritual fields. But it turned out that the spiritual chickens he raised were talking to him. He now understood what level 10 of the beast language meant. The chickens ran and wanted to challenge the chicken brother to a duel. The greyhound appeared among them. He approached them after hearing that they wanted to fight him. Brother Chicken was going to show them his strength. He started throwing basketball balls around. The chickens hugged each other in fear, knowing that he could only use this move once, and it could be endured. They screamed in fear of being hit, but an unknown person stopped the ball right in front of them. Su Heng took the chicken brother by the scruff of the neck, displeased that he had proclaimed himself king in his chicken coop. He ordered everyone to turn back into egg-laying hens, and he began to threaten that he would eat them. Su Heng prevented a coup in the chicken coop and obtained even more spiritual eggs. A few days later, he once again went with Xing Xuyan to the descent cult, but decided to join the fanatical faction right away. Xing Xuyan couldn't believe that he wanted to become Protector Zong's disciple. Su Xing asked me to trust him because he really needed to. He knelt down in front of Protector Zong, who knew about his pill concocting skills. The Protector had given orders to brew 200 organ tempering pills within a month, and then he would be able to apply for the position of medicine elder. Su Hing was disappointed in him because Elder Yin immediately made him an elder. He was dissatisfied, but for the sake of the Eternal Spring technique, he diligently completed the task. The Protector exclaimed happily when he saw that Su Xing really knew how to brew pills. And then he immediately ran to apply for the medicine elder, but Su Xing wanted to replace the reward. He grinned, wanting to get the full Eternal Spring technique. Protector Zong turned around. I gave him permission to do so. He held the Eternal Spring technique in his hands, not knowing if it was definitely not a fake. After all, it was too simple. To verify the authenticity, he immersed himself in the practice, and after several checks, he was convinced that it was indeed the complete Eternal Spring technique. He shouted with joy that he had actually done it. Su Hing started hugging the book, intending to never part with it. The door was kicked off abruptly. Protector Zong rushed in and found out that Su Xing was also a cultivator, which he knew from their first meeting. He grabbed him by the throat, telling him that he was also cultivating Eternal Spring. He was tortured and beaten with a whip. Protector Zong demanded answers as to how Su Xing could cultivate in a world without spiritual energy. Su Hing didn't want to answer the questions and snapped back. The Protector smiled, knowing how to get a person to talk. He held out the heart-devouring parasite to him so that he could feel the pain, as if 10,000 ants were devouring his heart. Su Heng knew that this was the end, and right now he couldn't use any spiritual energy at all. At that moment, he heard a voice. They were talking to parasites who didn't know where they were. But they decided to eat first, so Su Xing screamed in fear. Thanks to his eloquence, he convinced them to move to the spiritual fields. The parasite remembered the legendary Chinese cabbage and agreed. Protector Zong saw that he knew how to command a parasite, thinking that he still had the heritage of noble families, but Su Xing wasn't going to say anything. He got angry and kept hitting him, but he knew it was a simulation, so he didn't say anything. It turns out that in the simulation, his version acts according to the thoughts of the real him. As long as the real one doesn't give up, the version in the simulation won't do it either. Protector Zong continued to get angry, intending to do something more terrible. He abruptly cast a spell and electrocuted him. A strong fire appeared under him, and the Protector wanted to make a human pill out of Sushing. He opened his mouth in pleasure, wanting to eat it afterwards to continue cultivating. Sushing hugged the stuffed animal, afraid of Protector Zong that he would go to any lengths to cultivate. He started to burn in the flame of the pill furnace and couldn't even move a finger. Su Kang understood that just a drop of spiritual energy could teleport him to the spiritual fields. Protector Zong didn't hesitate for a second, wanting to turn it into a great nourishing pill so that he could break through to the void return stage in 49 days. Su Hang realized that Protector Zong was currently a deity transformation stage cultivator, while Su Xing himself was only at the golden core stage, and he wouldn't have defeated him anyway. He promised himself that he would never join a fanatical faction in the next simulation, because without Elder Yin, he would be an easy victim. During these 49 days, Protector Zong was constantly chatting to himself near the furnace, and through this, Su Xing learned that the Protector had been living for over 1,000 years and had come from the end of law era, where it was impossible to cultivate. For this reason, he joined the cult to find an opportunity to cultivate again. Su Shang thought about it, remembering that Great Xia had a dungeon called the End of Law Era, and suspected that he had escaped from it. His body was already almost melted in the smelter. Protector Zong took out a plan to upgrade the medicinal base. He tossed it into the cauldron, anticipating how he would eat the human pill and extend his life by 100 years. Su Kang was already at the source of his strength, but suddenly a plant fell on his head. It was a spiritual fruit. He immediately opened his mouth to eat it. After being bitten, Su Xing's spiritual energy appeared. He immediately teleported out of the cauldron and into the spiritual fields. The spirit fruit fell to the bottom of the cauldron as if no one was there. Protector Zong didn't understand what had happened. Su Hing laughed viciously, knowing that the Protector had dug a hole for himself. His weak body teleported to the spirit fields, knowing that this old man had not yet reached the stage of returning to the void, and he definitely wouldn't be able to catch up to the spirit fields, but Su Xing himself couldn't go outside either. He sat down in the lotus position to calmly focus on his cultivation. But at that moment, he noticed something. The furnace's flames destroyed his dantian, and now he has become a cripple who can't cultivate. He fell to the ground and gave up, intending to loaf around until the next simulation. Protector Zong, meanwhile, was searching through the rubble for Su Xing's body, but he couldn't figure out where it had gone. He fell to his knees and started shouting, knowing that Su Xing wouldn't be able to hide for a lifetime. The Protector realized that he was hiding in the pocket world of the Blessed Land and vowed to wait on the spot until he came out. Su Xing was enjoying life and was glad that he had left some trash in the spirit fields. It was now his 12th year, and he decided to consider it a vacation. So the time went right up to the 14th year. The space of the spiritual fields began to collapse, and Su Xing sensed that giant beast had appeared anyway. Su Xing hoped that since it was the end of the world, there shouldn't be a protector outside. He carefully walked out of the spiritual fields, but then he saw the shadow behind him and the dark voice he'd been waiting for. Protector Zong madly reached out with his hands, realizing that Su Xing had a spirit world where he could survive the apocalypse. Su Xing was shocked that the Protector had been guarding him for 2 whole years. He confessed that he had been striving for the Great Tao all his life, but now his days were numbered, and he wanted to see the pocket world for once before he died. Su Hang didn't expect that he would have such a desire, but the Protector collapsed to his knees. He grinned and agreed to fulfill his dream. Suddenly, Su Xing stabbed his sword into his chest. He gave him the middle finger, knowing that the Protector just wanted to get hold of the treasure through trickery. The system announced his death, and the talent, "Do not close your eyes in death," was triggered. He watched as the Protector screamed over his death because he was so eager to cultivate. At this moment, Su Xing was able to make out his face. It turned out to be the same mysterious person who had killed him several times in previous simulations. Immediately, the simulation was completed. Su Xing realized that this was logical originally, and Protector Long just wanted to extract the memories from it. He sighed, glad that it was just a simulation of life. He was once again given an award to choose from. Su Hang made sure to pick up the Eternal Spring technique and think about the second one. He took the 10th level of the Beast language, because in this simulation, both the cultivation level and the understanding of alchemy are too small. In this simulation, he was able to confirm the identity of Protector Zong, and he was going to stay away from him until he broke through to the deity transformation stage. He got his hands on the full version of Eternal Spring for 500,000 units of energy, and the blue talent, 10th level of the Beast language, for 100,000. Su Hang immediately started looking through it to continue cultivating it. There were nascent soul stage formulas at the bottom of it, and he needed to be careful until he became stronger than Dogzong. At that moment, he could hear the chickens talking again, saying that they wanted to share the spiritual rice. It was the chicken brother who was manipulating the little chickens again, demanding that they try harder. He considered himself stronger than them, so he got more spiritual rice. The chickens were upset that they wouldn't get even one grain. Brother Chicken strictly refused until the furious Su-Xing appeared behind him. It hit him on the head again, and now he understood why their rate of evolution had slowed down recently. Su-Xing picked it up, reminding him that his speech slowed down the breeding of spirit chickens. He decided to prepare an additional dish in the evening, spiritual chicken soup. Su-Xing stated that the chickens were equal and there were no chicken brothers. Everyone bowed to him, considering him a great master and vowing to protect him to the death. Su-Xing was surprised that he immediately became their chicken brother, hoping that he wouldn't need to play basketball. At that moment, he thought about it. He didn't have much energy left, so he was going to sell more pills and quickly level up. A week passed, and he was making plans for the next simulation, planning to follow Xiaoyan again, and when he became strong enough, he would challenge Dogzong. The system congratulated him on receiving the blue talent, true spiritual root of the dual element of wood and fire. He had a powerful true spiritual root, and now his cultivation talent was far superior to others. Su-Xing was very happy about this talent. He knew that everything that was missing came to him. With this talent and the resources of the descent cult, he would quickly be able to break through to the golden core stage and then the nascent soul stage. As usual, Su-Xing joined the descent cult on Qing Shuyuan's recommendation. Elder Yin thought very highly of him and allocated quite a few resources for cultivation. With the strengthening of the spiritual root, he had only reached the middle stage of the golden core in just 1 year. After her, there would be a peak, and after the peak, there would be a nascent soul, and Su-Xing enjoyed a smooth cultivation. The giant beast reappeared, and its cultivation was interrupted when it died at 32. Su-Xing couldn't understand why the end of the world came so early, even though the beast should have arrived in the 15th year. He was furious at this setup, and the system refused to give up the rewards until the next simulation, since this one ended ahead of time. Su-Xing reflected that he had been in the descent cult all along in this simulation, extracting a lot of benefits from them and bringing them a lot of pills. He was aware that the cult of descent were traitors among humans, and his pills increased the power of this cult. For this reason, the strength of Great Shia's official forces is decreasing. Because the official strength was decreasing, the demon suppression outpost would break through much earlier. Su-Xing realized that he shouldn't be in the descent cult all the time, but he still needed to maintain the power of the Great Xia to delay the end of the world. He planned to create an image of himself as a double agent in the next simulation. A week later, he activated another simulation and obtained the blue talent, Beauty Like Panons. Now he is the rarest beauty in 1,000 years, and now people of all genders will admire his beauty. Su-Xing sighed, realizing that this was just another useless talent. The simulation started, and he looked in the mirror, where he immediately felt more attractive. He wanted to be a double agent in this simulation, so he didn't want to draw attention to himself. Su-Xing joined the descent cult and extracted a lot of benefits from them. After that, he hid his face and appeared at the tarot meeting, starting to sell organ tempering pills and life energy nourishment pills. The higher pills were sold at a low price to the official forces of Great Xia through the tarot collection, while the lower ones were given to the cult of descent. Thus, he managed to delay the end of the world and continue to pull benefits from the cult. He laughed viciously, knowing that he was a true genius. Later, Su-Xing returned to the cult. He was pleased with himself, but Protector Zong suddenly came to visit with a group of senior executives. Protector Zong didn't understand why Su-Xing would betray them after this. Su-Xing was angry and knew beforehand that this old dog would do something like this. He demanded proof of his words. Protector Zong showed the life energy nourishment pill that he found from the Great Xia military, and it was completely identical to the ones that were handed over to the cult. He didn't see any other ways that the Great Xia could obtain it, since only one cultivator made them. Everyone was surprised that Su-Xing was a cultivator. Su-Xing grinned, knowing that everyone here was hiding something. He addressed all the elders, reminding them that their male enhancement pills hadn't been delivered yet, and they were shocked out of shame. He was making a sex change pill for another person, so he advised them not to expel them from the cult. Su-Xing knew that Protector Zong didn't want to imprison him for the sake of the cult's safety. He knew that his cultivation had been stuck at the same level for 100 years, so he wants to turn Su-Xing into a human pill. Protector Zong began to defend himself loudly, pretending that his actions were for the benefit of the cult. From behind, a voice that saw Protector Zong slandering his own comrade abruptly rang out. Elder Yin arrived, wanting to know if the life energy pill from the Great Xia military was exactly identical to Su-Xing's works. Protector Zong didn't doubt it for a second, and the elder became angry. The elder showed that Su-Xing's talent was limited, and the pills in the cult were much worse in quality than those in the military. He suspected that Great Xia had her own high-level alchemist who supplied them with pills. He took out his tentacles and reached for the protector, who couldn't say a word. Su Heng had prepared a trap of various qualities for Dogzong, but Elder Yin had fallen for it. At her prompting, they admitted that he had been wrongly accused because there was a huge difference between the pills. He was asked to continue trying so that in the future, he would also be able to brew such high-quality pills. Elder Yin considered it an equal favor before leaving. Su Heng realized that this woman didn't believe him in the first place. At night, at the base of the descent cult, he arrived at Elder Yin's place, wanting to enter. When he entered the room, he blushed. Elder Yin showed off her tentacles and body ornaments, but asked not to comment. Su Heng knew that she wouldn't have let him in if she didn't want to. He guessed that Elder Yin wasn't really loyal to the cult and had joined for her own purposes. Elder Yin did not hide the truth. After all, everyone here came for their own purpose, especially since she had long known how he sold pills at the tarot meeting. Su Heng sighed, thinking that he had done everything flawlessly. But he was able to surprise her when he guessed her origin was not from this world. Su Heng blushed but didn't give an answer. He was once approached by Kang Shui with a picture of Elder Yin, and it was Su Xing who just wanted to check for her presence in the Great Xia system. He knew that her world had been invaded by alien races. Elder Yin confirmed his words with a vexed face. Su Xing abruptly grabbed her hand, knowing that she was helping him because of their similar position. She hoped that at least Su Xing would be able to save her world, so he suggests that she join forces to go against a common enemy. Elder Yin pushed his hand away. She would make him supply a certain amount of organ-tempering pills to the descent cult every month. Su Heng didn't know why, but he thought he just needed them. It turned out that only a portion of the pills fell into the hands of the cult, and the rest was sent to its people. Her people live in her world and also fight with alien races. Su Xing's pills strengthened their spirit nation, but Su Xing arrived too late, and it was this year that the outsiders broke through their stronghold, and they had no choice but to join them. Su Heng blushed as he recalled that Elder Yin's world had fallen in the 8th year. Elder Yin understood that if she and Su Xing had met earlier, things might have been different. Su Heng immediately understood. The elder insisted on joining them, offering to provide a body with a small degree of bestialization. He immediately refused, wanting to preserve the dignity of a person. Moreover, Elder Yin was deeply mistaken in this world. Her story shocked Su Xing. He immediately shut himself up in seclusion and started brewing pills, trying to provide maximum assistance to the human race. In the end, he was able to produce 10,000 organ-tempering pills and 10,000 life-energy nourishment pills. He passed all these pills to Commander Yuanwu, who later burst into tears of joy. He was shaking, realizing that things might have been different if they had received these pills earlier. Su Heng finished all the business and returned to the descent cult, but Protector Zong still brought people and surrounded him. He was demanding answers from him when Su Xing was burned down in treachery. Su Heng didn't say a word and was instantly transported to the spiritual fields. He stretched, knowing how much Protector Zong was fuming with impotence right now. After that, Su Xing focused on cultivating and successfully reached the middle stage of the Golden Core. He wondered if there might be a pill that would allow him to instantly break through to the Golden Core peak. While Su Xing was searching for a suitable pill, the space of the spiritual fields once again began to distort, which hinted at the end of the world. The system reported the arrival of a new era, the 1st of September of the year 2038, but the spatial flow tore him to pieces, and Su Xing died. He grinned, realizing that thanks to the strengthening of the Great Xia army, the end of the world was being delayed. Su Xing began to calculate that with the help of at least 10,000 pills, he was able to delay the end of the world for half a year. In the next simulation, he needed to start delivering them as early as possible to delay the end of the world by at least a year. He thought of Elder Yin, who must be turned into an ally, and by acting in 2 directions, he would definitely stop the end of the world. The system gave him a choice of rewards, and he transferred the middle stage of the Golden Core and the true spiritual root of the dual element of wood and fire to reality. He immediately sat down in the lotus position to take on the Golden Core stage and use the core condensation technique. Su Heng screamed harshly as the surrounding area was shattered by his might. The core was bursting with energy. Su Heng felt like he had broken through a level higher, and now the effectiveness of his alchemy would be hundreds of times higher. He immediately went to brew pills. Kongshu was taken aback, not expecting such a large amount to sell. Su Heng used some of the money he received to buy white equipment and the rest to buy up other trade unions because he wanted to expand the scale of the tarot collection. Kongshu didn't see it as a problem, knowing that the Lingyuan Merchant Union was currently in financial difficulties, and they had a high chance of redemption. Su Heng was confident that in this simulation, he would finally be able to form an alliance with Elder Yin. The simulation started, and he received the talent affinity with plants. Now he was born to cultivate, and any plants that grew in his hands easily and quickly. Su Xing was overjoyed that he could cultivate supreme medicinal materials. He didn't waste any time at all and started testing out his new talent, so any spiritual plants had to grow twice as fast. Su Heng was very happy, which caused him to plow a few more fields. Half a year has passed, and tomorrow will be the day when Qing Shuyan calls him to the descent cult. He had many pills that could help him gain Elder Yin's trust. Later, he immediately gave Elder Yin information about her, even though she pretended it wasn't true. He threw her a life energy nourishment pill, asking her to give it to his warriors, and later asked her to return to him. Elder Yin was hesitant, but she still took the pills. At night, she came to his room demanding more pills. Su-hing became nervous and asked for time to at least get dressed. He started to dress up and reported that he could make several thousand of these pills in a month. Elder Yin was surprised by the number. Su-hing explained that by doing so, he could add a whole 1,000 Grandmaster-level masters to her people. The elder didn't understand why he was helping her, but they had the same goal. Su-ning made a deal with her and promised to give her 1,000 organ tempering pills and 1,000 life energy nourishment pills every month. The rest of the pills were partly used for his own cultivation, and some were given to the tarot collection to sell to the Great Xia army. It was already the 7th year, but he still couldn't break through to the late stage of the Golden Core. Although there was still quite a bit of time left before the breakthrough, Su-hing understood that cultivation was a path against the heavens, and he would not be able to achieve anything by force. Then he recalled how in the previous simulation, in the 8th year, Elder Yin stopped asking for pills from him, and most likely something had happened in her world and she no longer needed them. He decided not to waste the chance of the simulation, even though his cultivation was stuck, so he was going to check something out. Elder Yin was quite surprised when she saw what he brought her. Su-hing gave her an entire 30,000 life energy nourishment pills to use. She bowed politely, intending to thank him when the matter was over. Su-hing felt uneasy. In the 8th year, nothing happened. Elder Yin hadn't come to him to cry yet, which meant that the life energy nourishment pill was working well. Su-hing decided to give the elder tens of thousands of pills this year to slow down the demise of the spirit nation. Everything was going in a good direction, and Elder Yin even brought him a special wine from her world, a peach drink. Since his plan has worked, then his method of saving himself with life energy pills is worth spreading. As the 9th year passed, he thought everything was under control until Elder Yin came to him in tears. Her eyes were blank, and her face was partially covered in blood. She fell into his arms as Su-hing panicked and tried to figure out what had happened. Elder Yin asked him to give up the pointless fight. Su-hing didn't listen to her, trying to understand what had happened. She slowly explained that the giant beast had already arrived. At that moment, she fell down, losing consciousness. Su-hing realized that Elder Yin's world had fallen in the same way as his. The defeat of the spirit nation was a huge blow to him, and he realized that the life energy pills didn't work. His eyes sparkled as he decided to become even stronger. Due to the strong emotions, his level finally broke through, and he broke through to the late stage of the Golden Core and reached the peak of the Golden Core. He picked up a can of soda, enjoying his breakthrough. Su-hing could now take down at least 10 master teachers in one hit, and some dangerous dungeons could now be explored. He could also finally launch a plan to destroy Dogzong, intending to find out what ways he could save his own life. Su-hing planned to reach the deity transformation stage and then destroy the protector in one hit. He smiled, thinking his plan was perfect. Her eyes slowly opened and Su-hing was sitting in front of her. Elder Yin looked at him faintly. Su-hing was glad that she was awake. She understood how difficult it was to take care of a dying person. Su-hing didn't worry about it, trying to arouse her desire for revenge. The elder claimed that he hadn't seen that giant beast yet and how strong it was. Su-hing claimed to have seen her and took her hand. He knew its power, so he asked her for help. Su-hing was eventually able to convince her to take revenge on the giant beast. Under the cover of an elder, he continued to drain resources from the cult, and in just a year he was able to produce 30,000 life energy nourishment pills and 30,000 organ tempering pills. Due to his talent with plants, the quality of his cultivated medicinal herbs were no worse than the cult's resources. He turned the medicinal herbs into pills. Su-hing showed Yuan a truck full of hundreds of thousands of life energy nourishment pills, and in another truck, there were another 100,000 organ tempering pills. This was enough to double the number of master teachers in Great Xia. Yuan Wu was pleased and smiled. After that, Su-hing began to cultivate diligently, trying to break through the Golden Core peak with one step. In the end, it completely drained the spiritual energy from the Blessed Land, and many spiritual plants degraded to ordinary ones. Su-hing screamed in panic, not understanding where his spiritual energy had gone. The spirit chickens also stopped talking to him. He furiously opened the book that Qing Yunzi had left behind, because there should definitely be a way to solve this problem. The small spiritual energy gathering array could concentrate spiritual energy in the cave abode, and it required several hundred spirit stones to launch the array. He had such an amount, but in the late stages of cultivation, more and more spiritual energy would be needed, and the stones would clearly not be enough anymore. He noticed a detail abruptly. There was a spirit energy gathering flower that, after maturing, was able to absorb and release spiritual energy, creating it out of thin air and even improving its quality. Su-hing found this to be a really useful thing. He took out 3 of these flowers from the bag that Qing Yunzi had left behind and immediately began to cultivate them. In the 16th year, the flowers under his care grew very quickly, and in less than a year they reached the height of 3 tsunas. Su Hang was glad of his talent for plant affinity. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for him to grow such flowers. Apart from cultivating flowers, he had also learned how to draw arrays, but due to his lack of spiritual consciousness power, he wasn't able to make much progress. Fortunately, he was able to find a pill that raised his spiritual awareness. The spirit nourishment pill glowed red and had beautiful ornaments painted on it. He wondered if he should pass such pills to the Great Xia army, which could also significantly increase their strength. Su Xing abruptly saw the refraction of his spiritual space, realizing that the time had already arrived. The system reported his death. The end of the world was delayed until the 18th year, which demonstrated its results of strengthening the Spirit Nation and Great Xia. Su Heng made sure to choose cultivation as a reward in affinity with plants, so that in the future he could massively cultivate flowers to obtain spiritual energy. He paid millions of energy points, and a green light abruptly appeared in front of him. A small green sprout abruptly appeared on his head. Suddenly, the potted plant spoke, demanding to pull back the curtain. Su Xing didn't expect that he could hear their thoughts now. He opened the curtains to let in the sunlight, and the plant was surprised at how smart Su Xing had become. Su Hing turned to him with a smirk, and the plant got scared, jumping down from the window with tears. He laughed at it, knowing that he had won. At this moment, Su Xing was surprised by something. A bright light with lightning bolts appeared from his chest. Spiritual power abruptly began to gather in him. He felt that he was getting closer to the nascent soul stage, having obtained the peak of the golden core. Su Kang was getting high from the spiritual power vortex, which was even more powerful than before. Next time, he's going to try to break through to the nascent soul stage. The system pushed an ad to him. After obtaining 10 talents, Su Xing could spend the simulation energy to expand the talent slots. Talents with the same effect of higher quality will automatically replace weaker ones. Su Hang felt like the system wanted to eat up his energy points, but now he could be more relaxed because his talent slots didn't have an upper limit. He wept that the energy points had been drastically reduced again, so he would have to brew even more pills to earn them. He wondered if Kang Shui had found the materials he asked for. When Su Xing arrived at Kang Shu's place, he looked just plain awful, but he had been brewing pills for 6 days and 6 nights. Kang Shu couldn't even tell him the bad news when he was like this. She explained that the white gear he asked for was too much and there wasn't any left on the market. Su Hing was already starting to cry that all of his advantage was gone. But she had some good news. She found that special metal for making the pill furnace that he requested. The system detected 300 kilograms of second-rank foreign metal, which can be purchased for 60,000 points. Su Xing was shocked that such a small piece of metal was worth so much, but it was a great opportunity to gain energy. He started asking how much of this metal was on the market. Foreign metal was rarely mined because it was a special ore from some dungeons. If you buy it from professionals, it will cost about 40,000 per kilogram. Su Xing asked her for help to buy more of this metal of any quality. Kang Shu thought about it, remembering the first-grade metal that was mined more often and cost less, but met the requirements. Su Hing immediately gave a positive response to solve the problem with the energy points. Kang Shu thought that she would also like to receive a reward for her help. Su Hing swore that he didn't have any strength left after several days without sleep, but Kang Shu was already pouncing on him. Morning came. Kang Shu got up and decided to go buy foreign metal, advising Su Xing to have a good rest. He cried as he realized that everything was ruined because of his lack of rest. Su Hing immediately started a simulation to plant spiritual energy harvesting flowers all over the land of spiritual fields. At this point, he began to weed the garden beds. While the spiritual energy was still there, Su Xing started planting flowers. He immediately warned the chickens that they should never touch these flowers. Su Shang brewed pills and cultivated flowers at the same time, and Kang Shu brought him a pill furnace that was made of foreign metal, and the production speed increased several times. After accumulating the required amount of pills, he once again went with Qing Shuyan to the descent cult. Su Hang used all the pills he had made to make a deal with Elder Yin and asked her to find the medicinal plant dragon spirit grass. The elder realized that he wanted to brew high-level pills from them. He wanted to craft a dragon spirit pill that could greatly enhance the strength of professionals and spirit folk. It was a divine pill that would help him break through to the spirit nascent stage. Elder Yin took off her mask, promising to find the right plant. Su Shang used dragon spirit grass and constantly brewed pills, but the success rate wasn't even half. Out of 300 grass bushes, only one successful specimen came out. The door opened abruptly. An injured Elder Yin ran into his room. Su Xing guessed that the Spirit Nation's world had already been destroyed, but the 8th year hadn't arrived yet. Elder Yin didn't know what to do. After all, they couldn't withstand the defense anymore. Su Xing heaved a sigh of relief as he realized that the Spirit Nation was still alive. Elder Yin felt that she had let him down after this, but Su Xing was well aware of the strength of the enemies. He handed her the newest pill to try out. Elder Yin immediately ate it. She screamed sharply at the strange sensation. The girl looked down in surprise, feeling her strength grow, and she raised her level to Heavenly King. Su Xing understood that each side needed a group of Sky King level fighters to delay the end of the world a little longer. She believed that all of this was too late, and this pill could only have helped a few years ago. But Su Xing could have made this pill several years earlier, and he promised that next time he would pass on this pill in advance. Elder Yin was surprised that he knew her full name. Su Xing decided to use the immersive simulation feature to convince her personally. The system took out 100,000 energy points for the sake of an immersive simulation. Elder Yin slapped him for his boldness, demanding answers. Su Hang explained that she had told him everything personally, because this isn't the first time they've saved the world together. Su Xing confessed about his time travel to the end of the world and how he is trying to save the world. She pushed him away, not trusting his words. But the elder still put her hand on his cheek. She understood why she had decided to form an alliance with him. Su Xing activated Pang An's appearance buff, so Elder Yin turned into a fan of Pang An's. He was surprised that even the elder was a fan of pretty faces. Elder Yin wanted to know the approximate time how long her people would last. Su Xing explained that because of him, the situation is always different. But this time, they had dragon spirit pills, so the end of the world would come later. He wanted to test how long the pills could last their worlds. She understood immediately and offered to desert. Elder Yin knew that with her position in the cult, she couldn't help him get more dragon spirit grass, so the only option was to steal from the treasure trove of the Descent cult. Su Han considered her decision to be correct. They bumped their hands together, supporting each other. According to the plan, they had looted the cult's treasury together with Luo Shuying, and the cult itself had sent more than 10 high-ranking members after them to pursue them. They moved together under the protection of the Great Xia Army. Su Shang handed over all the accumulated 200,000 organ tempering pills and life energy nourishment pills. More than 40,000 master teacher level professionals instantly appeared in the army, and the strength increased several times. Elder Yin realized that the army might even go to the Spirit Nation's aid and suspected that they would now defeat the apocalypse. Su Hang knew that success was still a long way off. He had calculated correctly, and in just 10 years, the number of professionals in the Great Xia Army would start to decrease. The strength of the outsiders would grow, and Su Xing needed to quickly craft more dragon spirit pills. Luo Shuang asked him to continue brewing pills while she dealt with everything else. The 11th year has come. Thanks to Su Xing, 40,000 master teacher level professionals appeared in the pass, and not only did they hold the defense, but they also started to go outside the city to counterattack. For his special contribution, he was awarded the Great Xia Hero Medal and was granted the first consecutive level status. Su Hang immediately took advantage of the first level privileges and called a senior management meeting. He exclaimed happily that he now had the right to give orders even to Yuanwu himself. Su Hing started giving a presentation about his new development, Dragon Spirit Pill, which only has 2,000. It could increase the spiritual stats and physique of magical master teachers. Professionals who take this pill have a chance to break through to the Heavenly King level. Yuanwu couldn't contain the emotions of shock from such a miraculous pill. Su Hing wanted to consult on who would take this batch of pills. Yuanwu understood that 2,000 was an extremely small amount. They carefully selected 2,000 lucky people who took this pill, but only half were able to break through to the Heavenly King level. Su Hing frowned, not understanding why they didn't have a 100% chance of breaking through, but Yuanwu supported him. The commander advised him to rest after all he had done for this world. It was the 14th year, and Su Xing's cultivation had remained at the peak of the Golden Core for the past few years. He felt that advancing was becoming increasingly difficult, and the main reason was the lack of spiritual energy. Su Hang even took one dragon spirit pill a month, but he still couldn't break through. He sighed, realizing that cultivation was a path against the heavens, and it was better to strengthen one's spiritual consciousness. Spiritual consciousness was the consciousness of a cultivator, and the stronger one was, the wider the consciousness was. The parasites were very tired of eating only cabbage and wanted to expand their menu by choosing flowers. The second one reminded him that there were chickens nearby. Su Xing, thanks to his spiritual awareness, could sense every blade of grass in every tree, even if his physical body was still there. In his spiritual consciousness, he abruptly picked up the cabbage right in front of their eyes. The parasites couldn't believe their eyes, thinking that she was possessed by a demon. Su Hang returned to his physical body. The feeling was amazing, but until he had the right technique, he had to swallow pills. After that, he started taking 3 spirit nourishment pills, and the power of his spiritual consciousness constantly increased. Fortunately, he was able to loot enough spirit nourishment herbs to concoct the right amount of pills. In the same year, with his help, the Great Xia Army gained another 150 Sky King level professionals. They went to the Demon Suppression Pass together with everyone else. In his 16th year, Su Xing continued to train his spiritual consciousness, and his radius now reached 12 zhangs. He thought that the spirit nourishment pills were too slow, so he decided to create a new pill. But at another moment, he exploded, realizing that the spirit concentration pill really wasn't easy to brew. At that moment, a portal appeared in the room and he heard a voice. Su Xing quickly ran inside. Elder Yin reported that the demon suppression pass had been breached again, and Yinwu gave the order to bring Su Xing out. He hadn't expected this moment to come so soon. Su Xing called for her to follow, but didn't say where. He abruptly drew his sword, preparing for the final battle. The two of them went to the demon suppression pass. Su Xing couldn't break through for a long time, which made him even more annoyed. So he took out all his anger on the outsiders. The professionals were inspired by his bravery, and everyone followed him. Su Xing didn't expect that his half-baked sword technique was worth anything. A huge beast appeared in front of him. He gave him the middle finger, promising to put an arrow through his heart someday. But at this moment, his arm was chopped off. The system reported that Su Xing had died at the hands of a great Xia army spy. Su Xing was shocked that the army had a spy. He activated death with his eyes open again and saw the face. Su Xing cried out, immediately recognizing old dog Zong. He was glad that he had lived to see the end of the world, but this time he was secretly attacked by Protector Zong, so he should be more careful next time. The system offered him rewards, and he immediately chose the spirit concentration tree that he stole from the cult. But it was too expensive, and he didn't have enough money. He decided to take the experience of alchemy and the level of spiritual consciousness. Su Xing was going to the blessed land of spiritual fields to try out everything. He sat down in the lotus position to cultivate, and couldn't believe the feeling of gaining all the knowledge of alchemy at once. Su Xing closed his eyes and concentrated. A yellow silhouette emerged from his body, and he guessed that it was a spiritual consciousness. Su Xing checked and realized that with his spiritual consciousness, he could also brew pills. And it was doing two processes at the same time. The hens screamed in fear when they saw the oven take off on its own. Su Xing was going to make even more pills this time, so that Sun Shui would expand the tarot collection to the largest organization in Kyoto. They clinked glasses together. Kongshu reported that she broke through to the master teacher level, and for this reason, her parents are having a celebration. Su Xing noticed that according to past simulations, this should have happened by the time she was 40, but already in her 30s, she was able to make a breakthrough. He was glad that reality was gradually changing for the better, and the effort was not in vain. Su Xing didn't promise that he would come to the party, but he had already prepared a gift for her. He told her about the new spirit nourishment pill that he had already made. Later, Su Xing planned to form an alliance with Elder Yin in advance. The system gave him a blue-grade talent called Unyielding Silver Spear. Su Xing blushed and sighed, not knowing who would use such a talent. After spending time with Xing Shuyan, he went to the Descent cult and once again met Luo Shuying, who was still an elder. She didn't believe that he would actually supply the cult with pills of this quality. Su Xing didn't hesitate to unleash his power to gain her trust. The fanatical faction immediately tried to win him over to their side. Su Xing looked disdainfully at Protector Zong, who was clinging on as he saw the strength in him. He started to tell the gossip about Elder Yin, but he purposely didn't tell Zong what was making him angry. Su Xing ran away, playing the role of a young man with difficult circumstances in order to refuse and not make an enemy. Luo Shuyan squeezed him in her tentacles after hearing the rumors he was spreading throughout the cult. Su Xing swore that he didn't say anything like that, and Protector Zong made it up for himself. Luo Shuyan believed this time, but the faction couldn't accept such a deity, so they chased him away. Su Xing didn't expect that this method would only offend her and undermine her trust. Fortunately, he had a trump card up his sleeve. He pressed her against the wall, reminding her of her childhood when she cried all night in the rain. Luo Shuing couldn't understand how he knew all this, but Su Xing confessed everything. He explained that this was only a way of refusing Protector Zong, and that he had come to the cult for her sake. Su Xing lied to her with eloquent explanations, so Luo Shuying ended up believing him that he was the chosen one who could travel through time. She brought him a huge amount of medicinal herbs. Due to his ability to conduct two processes at the same time, his pill-making speed became incredible, and every month he could make 5,000 life energy nourishment pills or organ tempering pills. With Luo Shuying's help, he was able to successfully craft 6,000 dragon spirit pills. Su Xing recalled how in the previous simulation, he was only able to produce 1,000, but his strength had grown much faster than he expected. He thought about using Yuanwu pills to strengthen the body and break through to the organ tempering stage. At this moment, Luo Shuyin, who went to exchange medicinal herbs, came by, but he knew that she wouldn't be able to do it. She didn't know what to do, knowing that the pills were far from endless. Su Xing had a solution. He was about to suggest that she desert the cult to her, just like before, but at that moment it dawned on him. Last time, Dog Zong pretended to be a spy for Great Xia and killed him right before the end of the world. But this time, he planned to hit first. Su Xing suggested that she betray the cult of descent and go over to the side of the Great Xia army. But before that, you need to commit murder. Luo Shuiying didn't understand what was going on between him and Protector Zong. Su Xing knew that he wanted to find out his cultivation secrets. He handed her the high-grade dragon spirit pill that he had made. If she accepted it, she would raise her strength to the level of a heavenly king, and together with him, they would definitely be able to deal with him. Luo Shuiying felt that she was being underestimated because apart from Protector Long, she was not afraid of anyone. She suggested that he better think about how he would defend himself in battle. Su Hing wanted to prove that he would definitely break through in this simulation. He didn't care if it didn't work out, but he wanted to experience Dog Zong's real capabilities. Such a cultivator should definitely carry quite a few treasures with him. Su Hing smiled wildly, looking forward to finishing him off in no time. He drank wine and sang songs as he crept down the night street, but he was going to lead the defender into the suburbs and provoke an attack. Su Hing stood in the forest and talked to himself. Defender Zong immediately attacked him from behind. But after that, I couldn't find Su Xing. Luo Shuiying stabbed him in the back, but Protector Zong also disappeared right in front of her. He was already jumping up the hill from her, saying goodbye to her. Dog Zong was seriously injured, but still, as an experienced cultivator, there were many ways for him to escape. He activated the blood escape technique. He began to drift upward. Finally, he threw an unknown grenade. Out of it grew a huge robot that attacked Elder Yin. Su Hing was shocked that Dog Zong had already used the acceleration talisman, the blood escape technique, and the distance reduction technique in 20 kilometers. On the way, he still managed to eat a spiritual fruit, and even threw a puppet of the level of great perfection of the nascent soul. He was overjoyed because all these things would belong to him for the next simulation. Protector Zong continued to run away, throwing his things at Luo Shuiying. He threw the artifact at her again, trapping her in a cage while Luo Shuiying shouted threats at his back. She watched him scurry away annoyed. The artifact was shattered by the beam. Luo Shuiying turned around, realizing that she was saved by Su Xing. He examined her to make sure she was well. Su Hing wasn't worried, knowing that if he used so many trump cards, then his life force would definitely suffer. Luo Shuiying didn't dwell on Protector Zong, and together with Su Xing, she betrayed the cult and joined the Great Xia army. With the help of his pills, Great Xiao obtained another 600 Heavenly King-level fighters and more than 40,000 Master Teacher-level professionals. Su Ying once again became a hero of the Great Xia and held a senior management meeting. Yuanmu was surprised that he wanted to send troops to help the Spirit Nation from another world, but according to Luo Shuiying, there were the same outsiders who had invaded their world. He accepted his request, and as long as he supplied the pills, they were willing to allocate around 10,000 masters. Later, Su Xing looked at the demonic beast that looked like an ordinary village pig. Only part of it was edible. Luo Shuiying stabbed it with her fist, knowing that a demonic beast weighing 500 jins would yield roughly 50 jins of flesh and blood essence. Su Hing unexpectedly found that consuming this essence strengthened his body, and when combined with the spirit chicken meat, he was one step away from breaking through to the nascent soul stage. It was just a pity that it wasn't easy to get it. Even though there were a lot of demonic beasts on the battlefield, everyone was busy fighting and no one cared about their corpses. He pondered, realizing that he would still have to go to the battlefield on his own. Su Hing asked Luo Shuiying to extract as much blood essence as possible while he sat down to meditate in the blessed land of spiritual fields to fully work out the essence. 3 whole years passed, and finally he felt that his body had broken some shackle, and the nature of his life seemed to have undergone an unknown evolution. He successfully broke through and became a Yuanmu-level cultivator. Su Hang knew that it wouldn't end there. Before his eyes, the formation of the nascent soul began to take place. Lightning bolts flew around, and Su Xing felt like he was about to break through to the nascent soul stage. He saw a sphere with a small silhouette in it, suspecting that it was his nascent soul. Su Hing laughed, feeling the thrill of breaking through 2 levels at once. He immediately went to tell such good news to Yuanwu so that he could go to the battlefield and kill demonic beasts. But it was already the time of the end of the world again when a crowd of huge beasts appeared behind him. The current simulation has ended. He was looking forward to finishing the procedure so that he could collect the necessary rewards. Su Hing unconditionally chose the Yuanwu stage and the nascent soul stage cultivation. Lightning began to radiate from it. A small ball flew into the air. It cracked sharply into small pieces. A small silhouette emerged from it. Su Hing looked at his nascent soul. The small version began to reproduce the techniques that he himself knew. But at one point, he sat down wearily. Su Xing realized that since the beginning of his cultivation, he had barely trained in martial techniques, but only brewed pills. He recalled how in the previous simulation, he was going to go to the battlefield, but the end came before it even came out. Su Hing decided to stop sitting only in the spiritual fields and wanted to go out. He was dealing with the boss while the girls were hitting on him. Su Hing was lost in his thoughts that he had never trained martial techniques, but he knew how to kill enemies. He liked it better than just slaughtering wild boars. The shy King Xian walked up to him again. She had already seen a rich lady approach Suxing, and she was referring to Kang Shui. King Shuyan was overjoyed, thinking that he was also rich now. She began to ask him for money and debt, promising to return it immediately. Then she smiled, offering something other than money, but Su Xing immediately declined. Qing Shuyan bowed, thanking him for his kindness. Su Hing was wondering what the hell had happened to her that she needed money so urgently. He was going to spend this simulation fighting. The system gave him the blue talent, I can't be the only loser. Now he was a natural magnet for trouble, and his failure affected everyone around him. Su Xing started shouting in rage, demanding a refund for such a useless talent. The system smiled slyly, not intending to make a refund. He sighed, deciding to take a look at the simulation first, which didn't affect reality anyway. In the spirit fields, Su Xing realized that he was in a simulation and started brewing a new batch of beauty and healing pills for a week. Abruptly, a huge explosion occurred. Su King stood amidst the smoke, covered in the color of charcoal. He couldn't understand why he couldn't brew beauty and healing pills when he could brew other complicated pills. Su Hing stared awkwardly at the simulation with the talent of failure. After failing at alchemy, he decided to pursue something else. First, he accidentally disfigured the spiritual energy gathering flowers. Then he choked on the spiritual rice. Su King was trying to reach the water source. But at this moment, a pumped-up chicken appeared, which wanted to show its reception. It struck and destroyed the last of the water. Su Hang spent the whole day running after the spiritual chickens out of emotion. Kung Shu called him and sadly informed him of her failures, which would make it necessary to postpone the expansion of the tarot collection. He didn't see it as a big deal and gave her more time. Su King let out a heavy sigh, realizing that his bad luck buff worked even through the phone. Then he came up with the idea to betray everyone and go to the outsiders. He once again went to the descent cult with Qing Shuyan. His outstanding alchemy skills won everyone over, and he became a pill elder. Elder Yin had brought him a whole cartload of materials to turn into pills. She didn't understand why there were so many injured people in the cult recently. Su Hing checked the list of injured people out of curiosity and found that most of them had taken his pills. Fortunately for him, no one noticed. At that moment, Elder Yin dropped by and asked him to make more healing pills. In the years since he joined the cult, the power of the cult not only increased, but also decreased noticeably. Su Hing started packing up his things to go outside before anyone noticed. He had a good reason to leave, since the Luodian Gathering Dungeon was opening very soon. He left enough pills, said goodbye to Elder Yin, and went to Kyoto. But when Su Xing arrived at the dungeon, he was denied entry due to a reservation. They explained to him that only one person can enter in one day, and all entries are filled in until the next month. After a month, he successfully entered the dungeon. And in the end, I got nothing. Su Hing was furious that he only got memories in the end and couldn't even explore the dungeon. The system immediately suggested that he use the immersive simulation, but it just wanted to take away his energy points. But he knew that not spending it was also a bad decision and not worth saving. Su Hing clicked and activated the immersive simulation. A portal appeared in front of him. People behind him started hurrying him because there was already a queue. He went in, hoping he wouldn't come out empty-handed. Su Xing walked up the hill, looking at the scenery and feeling the beautiful air. He sensed that this might be the world of immortals because the condensed vortices of spiritual energy were much denser. At this moment, he was approached by a man who addressed him by the surname Luo, and that he had already broken through to the nascent soul stage. Su Xing recalled that the data only talked about the foundation stage. Su Hing abruptly recalled that there was still a top-grade gold core in his body, which meant that Luo Xiaochun was not a fixed foundation stage cultivator, and his cultivation level was the same as that of someone entering a dungeon. His mentor asked him to follow him to the Luotian meeting. According to Luo Xiaochun's memories, his mentor uncle, Shenong Yutian, was at least a spirit transformation stage cultivator. He was a master of alchemy and cultivation of spiritual plants, so it was possible to learn some information from him. Su Hang approached him to ask a couple of questions about growing plants. He explained how he had recently obtained a couple of spiritual energy-gathering flowers, but even with his efforts, they were only of average quality. Shenchong Yutian knew that there weren't many people who could share knowledge about spiritual energy harvesting flowers, but he had read a book about the method of breeding them. These flowers were a gift from the heavens, and they were extremely capricious, and it took an ordinary person 10 years to cultivate such a thing. But when growing, it was necessary to carefully monitor the water and sunlight. According to them, the flowers are male and female. The female flower had a yellow dot in the stamen, but the male one didn't. Reproduction should be carried out on the day when the flower accidentally reaches maturity, and pollination should be carried out between them. Su Hing continued to write down his every word. Shenchong Yutian abruptly became too lazy to speak and advised him to look at everything in his memories. Su Hing sighed, not understanding why he didn't pass on the memories in the first place, which made it necessary for him to write everything down with his hand. He now had a method for crossing spiritual energy-gathering flowers, so he no longer had to worry about running out of spiritual energy. They finally arrived at Luotian City. There was a huge queue around the city for the meeting. His uncle pushed him to greet his mentor. Su Hing guessed that this was Luo Xiaochuang's mentor, Elder Che. He was thinking of extracting benefits from it, planning to ask about martial arts. Elder Che noticed that Luo Xiaochun hadn't given up on cultivation during his campaigns. He handed him the token of the book storage that he had requested to find. This repository contained knowledge from all over the world on cultivation, and if you memorized everything, you could become rich. Su Hing arrived there and opened his mouth in shock when he saw the number of books. He reached into the shelf and found the General Canon of Sword Art. Although the title sounded simple, this book was written by the famous immortal sword Ludong, who became famous tens of thousands of years ago. If you reach the entire General Canon, then it will be easy to learn any higher sword techniques in the future. Su Hing was satisfied that he now had an attack art that could counter Dogzong. The Sword Art Canon divided worldly swords into 3 levels: the Sword of Man, the Sword of Earth, and the Sword of Heaven. If you master the human sword, it will be possible to kill any person on the planet. The Earth Sword borrowed the power of the heavens and earth, forming the Sword of Creation. With a single strike, one could change the celestial phenomena, whether it was the collapse of mountains or a tsunami. When the Sword of Heaven is mastered, it will be possible to directly enter the path of the immortal sword. If Su Hing perfected a person's sword, he would be able to fight against a spirit transformation stage cultivator at the nascent soul stage. If everything really matches the canon, then after the first part of the sword art, he will have a chance to defeat Dogzong. In the 9th year after his failed attempt to create the Divine Power Pill, he focused on training. In the 11th year, after 10 years of training, he had fully mastered the 4 main categories of sword techniques and had perfected dozens of basic techniques. After 10 years of sharpening a single sword, he was no longer satisfied with basic swordsmanship, and he wanted to master the killing sword. Su Hing joined the army of the Demon Suppression Outpost and became one of the border warriors. But for the sake of his safety, the Great Xia Army sent several Sky King level fighters and 1 martial arts emperor level fighter to protect him. He entered the outpost, and in order for his sword technique to get a real tempering, he changed his appearance to an ordinary soldier and went to fight on the battlefield. In the 2nd month, he had already killed 60 master-level demonic beasts, 270 master-level beasts, and countless beasts below the gold level. In the 3rd month, due to his merits, he became a 1,000-man commander and took command of 1,000 soldiers. Su Hing started hunting demon kings, and his outstanding fighting skills attracted the attention of outsiders, so they sent 3 demon kings after him. The kings started to laugh at him, but Su Hing laughed back, remembering a phrase: "That villains die because they talk too much." At that moment, he threw a punch at him. A smirk appeared on his face as he sensed this. During the 10 years of being on the outpost and killing demonic beasts, his spirit had become more ferocious, and his sword technique more merciless. The aura became bloodthirsty, and it was scary to look into the eyes. The sword was no longer his favorite companion, but a tool in his hands that killed enemies. His intentions finally went astray when he started to hone his sword techniques. Su Hing was on the verge of being possessed by a demon, but he was killed by an assassin from the Cult of Descent. The assassination was constructed by several martial arts emperors and 1 legendary expert, and Su Hing was powerless to die at their hands. The simulation was complete, but the die with your eyes open talent was activated. He clearly noticed Dogzong once again, who once again killed him. Su Hing promised that he would use his sword technique on him next time. He was surprised at how powerful a single sword technique could be to kill so many demon kings. Su Hing could have saved the world from the apocalypse right now if it wasn't for the traitor from the cult. He knew that one day he would kill Dogzong and inherit his property, intending to become strong enough. Out of the rewards, he chose sword experience. Su Hing thought that he needed to use this skill in the right way, which could cause a huge problem for the enemies. But there was a fear of hurting his allies. All he needed was a suitable weapon for such a talent, so he recruited Kang Shui. She admitted that the Jin Trading Company has enough high-quality weapons, but she was afraid that someone suitable for Su Hing wouldn't be found, so she offered to help find him. Su Hing bowed obediently to her. A week later, Kang Shui arrived with good news. Su Hing realized that in the next simulation, he would be able to enter the battlefield with his sword. This sword was called Mo Bing, and it was one of the top 10 weapons of the Great Xia. He took hold of the handle of his sword. Su Hing only took it in his hand, but he already felt like he was in the midst of icy snow. He practiced his blows, making sure that the sword was right for him. But the price of the sword was 30 million. Su Hing cried out in shock that the sword was so cool. According to Kang Shu, the divine sword always has a spirit, and Mo Bing's recognition will have to be fought for several years. At this moment, Su Hing was surrounded by people, and Kang Shui was shocked that Mo Bing had already recognized Su Hing as his master. He didn't even realize that he had fallen into meditation. Kang Shui is shocked that even professional swordsmen need a couple of years. Su Hing thanked her for the sword, intending to use it well. Spiritual rice grew in the blessed land of the spiritual fields, and as Su Xing tended the fields, he became thoughtful. He needed time to train the sword arts, and therefore needed to delay the end of the world. There were bags of spiritual rice in front of him, and he decided to sell them at the tarot meeting to both earn and strengthen the official power of Great Xia. Thus, it was possible to indirectly postpone the end of the world. Thanks to the support of the Jin Trading Company, the rice sale went well. At first, the professionals took it for a delicious supplement, until one girl bought 10 jin of spiritual rice at once, and her strength increased many times, and she successfully became a silver-level professional. Su Xing has once again arrived at the descent cult, but this time he joined the cult with the path of the sword. Elder Yin was surprised by his sword technique. She welcomed his entry on behalf of the cult. Su Xing once again spoke the new password and established connections with Luo Shuying. She thought that they would follow the previous plan, going to ravage the cult and go over to the side of the Great Xia army, and this was the only way to delay the end of the world for now. Protector Zong knocked on his door with one request. He immediately opened the doors for him, and Protector Zong wanted to exchange some spiritual rice. Su Xing noticed that he didn't have Mobin in the past, and Zong just robbed him, but now he saw his strength and came politely to negotiate. Su Xing inquired about the availability of Snow Jade Ginseng, wanting to make an exchange for it. Protector Zong didn't have such a precious item. As he was leaving, Su Xing activated the pursuit technique. He was waiting for the trail of Snow Jade Ginseng to appear, and it should be at the Protector's location at least. Su Xing wanted to kill this old dog and inherit his property. With the chasing technique, it wasn't difficult for him to find old dog Zong, but to kill him with one hit, he needed to increase his strength. He started training with Luo Shuying. She had taken the spirit concentration pill, which had an incredible effect on the spirit race. Luo Shuying should soon be legendary. Luo Shuying was already beginning to feel as if the whole world was under her feet. Su Xing planned to enter the spirit transformation stage now. He clenched his fist, making sure to kill Zong. People from a fanatical cult were communicating with each other. Su Xing was unhappy because ever since they had hunted him down, Protector Zong had not left his cult, as if he had a secret technique to reveal his plans. Elder Yin reassured him, because according to the rules of the cult, you need to go out on a mission every 3 months. Su Xing used the 10,000 Liai pursuit technique. His eyes snapped open. He saw that Zong had left the cult, and they had a chance to catch him. But he kept more than 100 kilometers away from the cult, as if checking something out. For a week now, it has been moving at a distance of 100 kilometers all the time. Su Xing grinned, knowing his patience as a hunter. His eyes snapped open as Protector Zong began to run. After 3 months, the Protector couldn't stand it anymore, and used a secret technique, instantly moving 300 kilometers away. Su Xing didn't believe that he would fail again with Mo Bing and Zhao Yin. Protector Zong's trail is rapidly approaching Su Xing, something he didn't expect at all. A sudden realization hit him. He recalled that they had been together with Luo Shuying in all the past ambushes, and if the Protector really had a technique that determined luck or trouble, then he felt that it would be Elder Yin who would try to finish him off. Zhao Yin was in the back and he was in the front, so the defender might think that only Su Xing was an ambush. He sat down in the lotus position with his sword, not wanting to stand on ceremony since Protector Zong was stepping into the trap himself. Protector Zong flew like lightning towards him while Su Xing meditated. He activated the man-sword fusion technique. Her eyes snapped open. A huge number of swords surrounded him. Protector Zong was interested in his skills and smiled, but he still thought it was too weak. He leapt at it with his sword, reaching Su Xing. They clashed with their swords, but Defender Zong was more powerful. A dark aura began to surround him, with silhouettes screaming for mercy. Su Xing leaned on the ground. Protector Zong's sword was made from 49 imprisoned vengeful souls, and Su Xing didn't have a chance to defeat it. He swung his sword, intending to kill him. But the sword was knocked out of his hands and the defender was shocked. He was protected by Luo Shuying, who pierced right through him. Su Xing laughed at the reality that Luo Shuying was hiding in the spiritual fields all the time, so the protector couldn't track her down. Luo Shuying handed him the pills from his cave. Su Xing took a healing pill, regained his strength, and decided to interrogate Dog Zong. They looked down and saw only a hay carcass instead of a protector. Su Xing knew that a protector wouldn't die so easily. The doppelganger technique was powerful, but it drained a lot of strength, so Luo Shuying suggested that we continue the pursuit while the enemy was injured. With the pursuit technique, they were easily able to find his hideout. Protector Zong crouched against a tree, wanting to say something. He harshly attacked Luo Shuying with one of his trump cards. The girl screamed as black energy surrounded her. Luo Shuying explained that it was absorbing her life force. Su Xing thought it was the simple yin energy of vengeful souls. He directed the Li Flame at her, which cleared everything. Protector Zong was very surprised when they rejected his move so easily. Then he got even angrier, intending to show something even more powerful. He finally lost his composure and didn't care about the lifespan, directly absorbing all the black energy. His strength had reached the peak of the spirit transformation stage. The boys jumped on him, ready to fight to the end. They were trying to stab him. Su-hing knew that the secret technique didn't have to last long, and it was worth holding on until Wuzong ran out of strength. Less than a quarter of an hour later, Dogzong tried to escape. When Su-hing tried to catch up to him, he activated the Skynet and blocked his path. As he ran away, he used the soul absorption needle, which Su-hing had to dodge. He continued to reveal his trump cards, and Su-hing fought everything directly, but if he couldn't, he would hide in the spiritual fields. After a day of chasing, old dog Zong finally came to terms. Su-hing was tense even from watching, and he once again saw what kind of monster Zong was that had lived for more than 1,000 years. Finally, he used up all of his escape methods. Dog Zong fell to his knees, begging Su-hing for mercy, but they were both cultivators, and there was an open enmity between them. He pointed his sword at him, knowing that he was a huge threat. Protector Zong didn't even know what he wanted. Su-hing demanded a lot of good things from him, like an ancient cultivator. He demanded to swear before the Heavenly Tao. Su-hing did it easily. He thought that the Heavenly Tao here didn't even interfere in cultivation matters, and the Heavenly contract wouldn't work if he swore an oath. Su-hing was angry that Zong had completely lost his mind before he died. He handed him a storage bag that had accompanied him for 1,000 years, and there were at least 10,000 spirit stones inside. It wasn't enough to break through to the spirit transformation stage, but it was enough to put up a spiritual energy gathering array and strengthen it in the spiritual fields. Su-hing shouted into his simulation, knowing that Dog Zong 100% still had a trump card up his sleeve. He looked at it sharply. Protector Zong had a sinister smile on his face. He never gave him the right to cash in at his expense. There was a huge explosion, and Defender Zong spent his last trump card. At that moment, he was pierced through. Su-hing really didn't expect this, but he was sure how resilient Zong was. His body was destroyed, but his spirit was not destroyed. Now he turned into a black shadow and tried to escape. Su-hing directed the flames at him, preventing him from escaping. His dark spirit caught fire. Zong knew that Su-hing wanted to break through to the spirit transformation stage, and he knew the location of the snow jade ginseng that he was demanding mercy for. Su-hing reminded that his storage bag had already been torn open, and he definitely wouldn't have any seeds. He knew very well that ginseng needed to be stored in extreme cold conditions. He turned around and started walking away while Zong was burning. Gradually, his spirit began to dissipate, along with his screams. Su-hing sighed, glad that he was able to do so, and acted carefully. Lo Shuing ran over and found half of the jade tablet in Protector Zong's storage bag. Su-hing channeled his divine sense there, and was surprised to find that the tablet contained the cultivator's secret technique, the art of calculating fate from 8 trigrams. It was clear now why Dog Zong could predict good fortune and misfortune, but that was only half of it. Lo Shuing was able to find another whole jade tablet that looked like a diary. Su-hing took it out of his hands, surprised. He found the habit of keeping a diary odd, but things about the cultivation world could be recorded inside, which was valuable information. He decided to use the immersive simulation feature. Lo Shuing asked him to hurry up because they had spent too much time killing Zong, and the people from the cult might have noticed something suspicious. They flew, and Su-hing decided to head to the border of Great Xia to go straight to the official authorities of Great Xia. Later, Yuanwu and Luo Shuing went to distribute pills while Su-hing rested. He sat down in a chair, enjoying the long-awaited silence. He opened the tablet to read it. Zong wrote about the 2376th year of the Jianwu era, that he was engaged in rural labor and accidentally met an old immortal and entered the path of immortals. Su-hing recalled the Xianwu era, and the Great Xia state had the coordinates of the end-of-law era dungeon. He assumed that Protector Zong had come from there. The 2398th year had arrived, and Zong had broken through to the foundation stage. Longevity was already on the horizon, and he went to a nearby mountain to visit the Flower Fairy. In the year 2434, it was in the great completion of the foundation. He was going to look for an opportunity to break through to the Golden Core, and before leaving, he decided to visit the Flower Fairy, but he discovered her connections with Second Big Brother. Out of anger, he poisoned both of them, took the treasures, and betrayed the sect. Su-hing was surprised that even Dog Zong was being cuckolded, and even felt a little sorry for him. In the year 2712, he entered the city to buy wine. He happened to meet a beautiful woman, so he killed her husband after enjoying her for 7 days. In the year 2732, he entered the border city and accidentally obtained the Black Sinister Palm technique. After that, Zong carved out the entire city and created the excellent magic treasure, Soul Summoning Banner, and mastered the divine ability of this technique. Su-hing was horrified to read that Zong had completely lost his humanity after being betrayed by the Flower Fairy. In the year 2963, He returned to the sect and completely cut it out. The 3,339th year had arrived, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was becoming increasingly scarce. Zong completely gave up hope of immortality after taking the yellow spring pill and falling asleep. He wanted to prolong his life in this way and wait for a new opportunity. It was the year 5168, and Zong accidentally met Old Man Long after joining the Descent cult to gain immortality. Suheng looked at the list. The contents of the storage bag were written there. Inside was the snow jade ginseng, the three-tailed phoenix grass, the embryo tempering pill, and all the ingredients for breaking through to the spirit transformation stage. There was also the soul-summoning banner and the bone sword, which were all mid-rank treasures. Su Xing wasn't surprised by such a rich collection from 2,000 years of wandering. He laughed angrily, knowing that in the next simulation it would all belong to him. After dealing with the supplies, he once again focused on strengthening the Great Xia army. Yuanwu had set aside an entire mountain to grow spiritual plants in reality. Su Hing transplanted 3 spiritual energy harvesting flowers from the spiritual fields. He reported that 1 spirit energy gathering flower through the array could concentrate spiritual energy on 1 mu of land, which was enough for the growth of spiritual rice. But he loudly stated that living beings should not go there. Otherwise, the spiritual energy would not be enough. Yuanwu understood everything and was going to keep a close eye on the spiritual field. Su Sheng received the support of the Great Xia army and was diligent in cultivation and wanted to grow as many flowers as possible to speed up the production of spiritual rice. Soon, the first harvest of spiritual rice arrived, and Yuanwu announced the official launch of the spiritual rice plan. There was a limit of 100 jin per person, but for the especially gifted, the limit increased to 200. Kang Shu begged people not to crowd, ensuring that everyone could buy rice. Throughout Great Xia, a huge number of higher-level professionals appeared, and Su Xing became a true national hero. Yuanwu stated that 20 million jin of spiritual rice had been sold to 1 million professionals, and he asked the Tarot Trade Association to collect statistics on these people. Among all of them, there were 600,000 bronze professionals. After consuming 10 jins of spiritual rice, 300,000 of them broke through to the silver level in 1 month, and the remaining 295,000 in half a year. Yuanwu was glad that the chance of a successful breakthrough exceeded 99%. Su King was satisfied that the rice from reality was no different from what was grown in the spiritual fields, and this gave humanity hope. In the next 10 to 20 years, the number of silver and gold professionals across the country was expected to double or grow several times. A large number of professionals also meant more master teachers and heavenly kings, which was a huge boost to the overall strength of humanity. After his successful plan for spiritual rice, Su Xing focused on training the divine consciousness, and after many years of practice, it reached 1,000 zhang. He led the humans and launched a counterattack against the alien races. It was now the 25th year, and the end of the world had been postponed for 10 years. Su Kang found a formula for delaying the end of the world, which included spiritual rice, pills, and his breakthrough to the nascent soul stage. But only 3 months remained, after which the demon suppression fortress collapsed and the giant beast reappeared. The simulation was completed, and from the reward list he had transferred 1,000 zhang divine consciousness and 25 years of alchemy experience. Su Hing felt an amazing feeling as he learned the methods of concocting 100 pills in a second. His soul flew out of his body, and he wanted to feel the power of the 1,000 zhang divine consciousness. He started to watch Qing Shuyan order pork stew from the cafeteria. Su Hing was angry that he was missing out on such a delicious meal. Suddenly, Qing Shuyan canceled her order and blushed, and Su Xing wanted to understand what had happened. She took off in an unknown direction. Her friends in the dorm were surprised that she was back, even though she had gone out to eat, but she had something urgent to do. Su Shang abruptly closed his eyes, completely unaware that he had followed her to the girls' dorm. Qing Shuyan grabbed her purse from the table and immediately ran about her business. She ran to the bathroom, and Su Xing was taken aback when he saw that she was just having her period. He covered his face, knowing that neither watching nor listening was improper. Su Hing thought about the fact that the female and the male are very far away from each other, but the divine consciousness is still effortlessly reached. He was even afraid to imagine what kind of radius he would have if he reached the spirit transformation stage. He assumed that then he would be able to control the entire city. Su Xing remembered that he was the only cultivator on Earth, so professionals wouldn't be able to notice his divine consciousness. Qing Zhiyan stood in the toilet with a red face, realizing that she wanted to go to Su Xing's place today. Later, he came to see Kang Shu, who still didn't come out. He didn't understand why it took her so long to get out, and then he had to go back to UNI for the simulation. He entered the divine consciousness to see what she was doing. Su Ying found Kang Shu wearing a towel. She sat there and didn't know what underwear to choose. Su Xing didn't expect her to prepare so much for each of their meetings. Soon Kang Shu came out in a beautiful outfit. Su-Ying wasn't angry and waited patiently. She could feel his strength growing. After a while, he returned to the dorm. The system gave him the purple talent, disaster, avoidance, and luck attraction. Now he was invisibly protected by luck, and failures would bypass him. For example, if a plane crashes, Su-Ying will accidentally get caught in a tree. Or if the huge ship sinks, Su-Ying is accidentally saved by a killer whale. Su-Ying was surprised by such a powerful talent and believed that there must be a side effect. The system reported that the talent only works in dangerous situations. He grinned, realizing that he could create dangerous situations on his own. Later, Su-Ying specially went to the pharmacy and bought 2 gin of arsenic and gulped it down. Horrified, the pharmacist called the police. He immediately ran to the toilet, and the police called people from the market department. The arsenic just turned out to be expired. The apothecary paid him a compensation of 500,000. Su-Ying was glad that he could earn money, even when he was going straight to his death. He went to the bank to withdraw money and face the robber, but he forgot to load the gun. Su-Ying defused it in one move and received the Exemplary Citizen of the City award. Then he went swimming in the river and was bitten by a non-venomous snake. After checking the Biological Association, it turned out to be a snake species that went extinct 2,000 years ago, so it was awarded a monetary reward. Su-Ying had checked many times that the search for death brought him more benefits, so he went directly to Dogzong. He pointed his bone sword at him, but Su-Ying was looking at him with a smile. The provocation made Protector Zong lose his temper, and he forcefully activated the bone sword's evil energy, which caused him to get hit back. Su-Ying didn't get his equipment, but he was able to pick up one of his storage bags, and there were quite a few rare pills inside. He came home and decided to blow up one of the pill furnaces. The furnace instantly exploded. Su-Ying was overjoyed when he saw the pills inside. These were soul origin tempering pills that would help break through to the spirit transformation stage. He ate it right away to finally do it. His body felt warm again, but he opened his eyes in disbelief. The germ of his soul wasn't glowing for some reason. So I fell asleep. Su-Ying discovered that the re-gilding was starting to happen. He was glad that he had planted a few spirit energy gathering flowers beforehand, because the consumption at the spirit transformation stage is terrifying. His soul embryo began to shine with a golden light again, so Su-Ying immediately ate the second embryo tempering pill and started the second round. The fetus lay silently with its eyes closed. Su-Ying watched it, waiting for it to open. Its dome abruptly exploded with shrapnel. Instead of a fetus, a taller silhouette appeared. The first step of spirit transformation was to achieve a perfect soul embryo, which was accomplished. Su-Ying was already halfway to the spirit transformation stage. Now it was necessary to pass 5 tests, cut off false thoughts, and complete the transformation completely. He stopped abruptly, not wanting to waste the chance of a simulation. He couldn't just cut off the false thoughts, and first he had to do what needed to be done. In order to pass the mind-severing trials without distractions like before, he went with Luo Shuying to betray the cult and told Yuan Wu about the spiritual rice plan and the pill plan. The betrayal made the dissent cult very angry, but old dog Zong was already dead, and Su Xing had a luck boost, so there was nothing the cult could do. The 6th year has passed. The strength of Great Xia's official structures had grown significantly, and Su Xing had left Yuan Wu tens of thousands of pills and started seclusion for a breakthrough. The system reported that the first test would be the lust test. Su Xing opened his mouth in shock. He decided to change his IP address and go to the foreign internet. Su Xing watched, not understanding why to do this. He himself knew how weak his will was and how much he loved women, so he specially watched a huge amount of content for training. Su Xing was furious at the system's words, considering it a slander. After studying for a long time, Su Xing was ready to start the first test with complete confidence. At that moment, he was tapped on the shoulder. It was Kang Shui who suggested that we discuss Buddhism. He was surprised that she looked surprisingly innocent. Su Xing clicked his tongue, thinking that this was the entire test, and he had no doubt that he would pass. He knew that Kang Shui would be his future wife, so he accepted her offer anyway. Su Xing watched the simulation with a pained expression. In the simulation, he was getting more and more lost in the days with Kangzhou as Wu tried to reason with him. Only later did he realize that it was all an illusion. And in fact, Kang Shu wasn't real. Su Hang was now truly terrified of this ordeal. No matter how hard she tried, Su Xing could easily see the illusion. The system congratulated him that he had successfully passed the lust test. She decided to ask how Su Xing managed to pass the test, and he thought they would have chosen a monk and a nun. The second test was the test of fear. Su Xing wondered what he could possibly be afraid of. Luo Shuing came to him and reported the appearance of a giant monster. He couldn't believe it, because it was only his 6th year. But the giant monster really appeared ahead of time. Kangzhu provided Grandpa Lu's safety to Su Xing. He screamed when he saw her brave act. This giant monster had killed everyone who was dear to it, and Su Xing was in pain beyond measure, intent on taking revenge. He clenched his teeth in anger and grief. Su-hing was confident that with half a step strength to the spirit transformation stage, he would be able to seriously injure the monster. But even his roar alone had damaged his internal organs. Su-hing was lying on the ground in a pool of blood, not understanding how this was possible. A thought crossed his mind. He knew that no amount of effort would change anything, and he didn't want to persist. Su-hing became nervous, realizing what he was really afraid of, that his efforts would be in vain. The dream wavered, and in that moment of hesitation, a giant monster swallowed it up and it died in its stomach. The simulation ended there. Su-hing now understood that any hesitation leads to defeat, and one must face everything head-on. Among the rewards, he chose luck attraction and disaster avoidance, as well as the cultivation level of half a step to the spirit transformation stage. He immediately gained the cultivation stage. Su-hing felt that he could now control the spiritual energy more freely. He could handle a whirlwind and make it any size. But then he had something else. Even though he couldn't tolerate other levels of cultivation or insight. They were memories of passing the trials of lust and fear. The 5 trials of the spirit transformation stage turned out to be a direct encounter in the illusion with the real part of yourself in order to comprehend the true self and achieve the transformation of the spirit. Su-hing had a simulator cheat, and he himself would have failed the test on the first one. He still decided to sell pills, collect equipment, and accumulate energy. A few simulations should have been enough to pass the test. A week later, Su-hing started his 38th simulation. The system reported that with this talent, its presence is extremely weak, like a nameless passerby, and even the closest people or enemies ignore its existence. Su-hing thought that this was a conceptual talent, like beauty like Panin, which can change the perception of others. He rubbed his hands together, wondering if they'd notice him robbing a bank. The talent was interesting, but Su-hing used simulation to level up, so he didn't immediately test it and focused on cultivating. After a while, he felt that something was wrong. He looked at his phone and didn't understand why Qing Shuyan wasn't asking him to drop out this time. Su-hing called her, and she was going to say goodbye to him, but she was too busy. Without Qing Shuyan's recommendation, he found the headquarters of the Descent cult himself based on the memories from past simulation. To show off his strength, he purposely teleported directly to the meeting of the Council of Elders, but all the elders didn't notice him. He held his head in stress, not understanding how it was possible that all the elders didn't notice when he intruded. But he cried out that it was a robbery, and only then did the elders pay attention to him. After such a public display of power, the cult was very pleased with his abilities and welcomed his entry. But after the meeting, no one even gave him a room to live in, as if he didn't exist at all. Su-hing awkwardly appraised a powerful talent, but the side effect was too strong, and a big calamity could happen at a critical moment. He realized that with this talent, robbing the treasury would be much easier. It was the 3rd year, and Su-hing and Luo Shuying had robbed the treasury together, and thanks to his talent, the people of the cult didn't even notice his betrayal. At the same time, Yuanwu also didn't notice his visit. He cried because Yuanwu kept repeating the same phrase, forgetting about him. To save the world, he had to turn on the old woman's mode, repeating important things 3 times so that they would not be forgotten. He was angry, knowing that he would pass the test of patience easily. This time, Su-hing stood right in front of the monster, intending to face the fear head-on. He leapt at him with his sword and cut him down. With the help of the previous simulation's experience, Su-hing successfully passed the test of fear. He leaped around the mountains, not going to regret it even if his body died and the path scattered, because a real man should die on the battlefield. Su-hing understood the test of fear and was no longer afraid of death. The next challenge was greed, and he sat down to prepare. He returned to the real world, and through the successful implementation of the spiritual rice plan and pill plan, he became a national hero and received the love of the people. Su-hing was laughing into the microphone, intending to make himself a palace out of gold. It was necessary to pass the test of greed and let out evil desires. He crazily collected all the treasures, and countless jewels fell into his hands. Su-hing also collected a huge amount of legendary weapons to decorate the walls of his palace. Kong Shu came to him and asked for a life extension pill for the guys, but the price was 1 billion. In just a year, he had become the richest person in Great Xia. With endless power and wealth, he gradually became arrogant. He was sitting relaxed on a chair, about to deliver a message to the Bailey Trade Union. If they wanted the pills, they would need to sell their guild to their tarot organization. Kong Shu recalled that the Bailey Union was a major merchant guild with more than a century of history, and it was the owner's life's work. He violently slammed his fist down on the table, smashing it open. Su-hing had no intention of asking anyone for anything and considered it a mercy to give him a chance to show off. Voices gradually began to appear in the country against Su-hing. People condemned him for his arrogance and greed, and he was no longer a hero of humanity. But he still had some loyal supporters who thought his actions were important to humanity and that enjoying life was normal. Su-hing clucked as he read the public opinion. Kang Shu reported that she was on her way to the demon suppression outpost, requesting that Taro's business be transferred to another person. He shouted after her, not allowing her to leave, but she didn't need his permission, especially since he was already a stranger to her. Su-hing stared at the floor covered in gold. And I couldn't believe that I ended up being such a person. He called Kang Shui to come back and help donate all the money. Su-hing donated his entire fortune and turned into a beggar. He forced himself to live in the spiritual fields, eating simple food. He felt how difficult it was to get used to such an ascetic cultivation after a life where he was above everyone else. Su-hing continued to cultivate to get rid of all temptations and thoughts. By the 12th year, his heart was calmer and he was no longer obsessed with the old power. Finally, in the 15th year, he broke through to the 3rd stage of divine power. At that moment, he was stunned. He couldn't believe that everything that was happening was just an illusion. Su-hing didn't expect that in the simulation, he would have the determination to pass the test of greed. The 5 spirit transformation trials were indeed treacherous, and if he hadn't figured them out, he would most likely have drowned in an illusion. He noticed how much his spiritual energy management had improved after the greed test. The test of subtle thoughts has come. In the illusion, he became the king of the strongest state in the world. He was eating a red apple that was sweet and sour. Su-hing demanded to pass the order to all the people, regardless of age. All residents of the state were now required to grow apples for him. The man tried to tell the king that there were 500,000 people in the city, and it would be very difficult to survive on apples alone. He gave him a dark look when he heard the words contradict him, and the man changed his mind. To survive, the people of the state united and rebelled against it. Su-hing became angry and decided to show them his full strength. He pointed his sword at them, thinking they were pathetic ants. Countless people had died under his sword. There were corpses everywhere in the state, and Su-hing easily conquered this country. He stared at the pile of corpses, not realizing that it was all his doing. At this moment, he was stabbed with a sword from the back, so that the tyrant would repay with his life. Su-hing turned to look at the man, not understanding why he had betrayed him, since he was giving him both power, money, and position. The man wanted to serve the king, not a tyrant who ruined the fate of the entire state. He coughed up blood, not realizing the word tyrant. Su-hing fell to his knees, not realizing how arrogant he had become. The test of pride was passed, and only the test of anger remained. Lightning clouds were swirling in front of him, and he resolutely wanted to comprehend wrath in order to achieve spirit transformation. Jing Zhuyan came to him, informing him of her expulsion, but he wanted to go with her. She refused, suggesting that he think about studying. King Zhuyan thought that he was weak and would only become cannon fodder. Su-hing knew that he was half a step away from the spirit transformation stage. But at this moment, he looked down and realized that there wasn't a drop of spiritual energy in his body. The system didn't respond to him in any way. He realized that the system was gone and went to the forest where he met Kang Shui, hoping to enter the Spirit Fields dungeon again. But nothing happened, and Su-hing soon finds out about the death of his sister and Yu. A few years passed, and he was expelled from UNI, and then a monster appeared that covered the sky and the sun. Su-hing fell to his knees in front of him, not understanding why he had become so useless and worthless and where the system had gone. He was shouting to himself outside so that he could see the illusion. Su-hing peered after hearing his words. He stood up confidently, knowing that everything around him wasn't real. He was sucked into a black hole. Su-hing was glad that his real thoughts affected him in the simulation. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to pass the test. After passing the 5 trials, the rate of spiritual energy absorption by his Dantian skyrocketed, and the soul embryo underwent a huge change. His soul embryo evolved even further and became a more divine version of Su-hing. At the same time, his divine consciousness expanded to 2,000 zhang, and all of Kyoto was in its range. What was needed now was to inject the primordial spirit into the soul embryo. His soul germ flew up into the sky. A light appeared in the middle of his forehead. Now, if the physical body perishes, its divine creation will not dissipate, and it will still exist. If you find a suitable body, you can be reborn. Su-hing understood why everyone aspired to reach the spirit transformation stage, and it literally gives a second life. Finally, he was able to absorb all the insights and officially entered the spirit transformation stage. He appeared in the spirit fields, but the entire ground was dried up, and the chickens were lying on the ground. The hens had once again turned into ordinary hens due to the transformation of the spirit, which once again completely drained the spiritual energy. He didn't have any spirit stones anymore, but old dog Zong did. He wanted to rob him in the next simulation. After breaking through to the spirit transformation stage, Su-hing himself went to the battlefield of the Demon Suppression Pass and destroyed enemies in bloody battles. Su-hing wanted to see how many years his spirit transformation stage power could delay the end of the world. His fearless will inspired the professionals of Great Xia, and they began to fight together. It was the 25th year. Hundreds of legendary demonic beasts invaded the Demon Suppression Pass, and countless soldiers died, and a giant monster appeared. Suging was glad that the end of the world was delayed for 10 years. During this time, the strength of the official structures of Great Xia will be able to rise by another level. After the simulation, he transferred the cultivation level of the first stage of the spirit transformation stage and the cultivation level of the fourth stage of the divine power realm. He broke through the divine power stage at a time. Suxing broke through to the fourth step, and a ray of light came out of him. He had gone through 3 transformations at once, and his strength had almost tripled. At low levels, body cultivators and energy cultivators had their own advantages. Although body cultivators were stronger, energy cultivators' techniques had long-range attacks, and ordinary cultivators couldn't get close. But now at the divine power stage, the explosive growth of body cultivators' strength allows them to directly put energy cultivators in their place, and Suxing was now no weaker than Old Dog Zong. His divine consciousness already slightly exceeded 3,000 zhang. It was as much as 10 kilometers away, and all of Kyoto was under surveillance. He could compress the divine consciousness to a radius of 30 zhang around him, about 100 meters, and then he would sense any danger. Suxing flew. Not only was he going to push Zong's cultivation level, but now his divine consciousness wasn't any weaker, and he couldn't be caught by stealth. He noticed Qing Huyan in one of the alleys. He was spoken to by a person from the cult of descent who set their own conditions for her. Suxing didn't expect that she was in contact with the cult already at this time. He started yelling at her to tell him what had happened. Su Hang decided to wait for her to tell him. He looked at all of his stats, realizing that the Eternal Spring technique only supported him until the great completion of the Void Return stage. If he wanted to go further, he needed to find a new cultivation method. Su Hing remembered about the dual spiritual root of wood and fire, but he had only just learned the wood method, and the fire method hadn't been completed yet. He knew 3 ways to obtain new techniques. The first one was the Luochen Assembly Dungeon, where you can repeatedly dive into the simulation to memorize the techniques. But this required too much simulation energy and effort, and without the epiphany triggering, it would take at least a dozen simulations. The second method was Old Dog Zong. He was a monster that had lived for 2,000 years, and he definitely had methods leading to high levels. The third was the Law's End Era Dungeon, where cultivation methods were probably littered at every turn. He made the decision to rob Protector Zong first, and then go to investigate the age of the end of the law. Qing Shuyan suddenly called him. They met, and she sadly reported the news. Qing Shuyan jumped into his arms with tears in her eyes, telling him that her parents had died. Suking asked her to speak calmly. Her parents were members of the Black Dragon Guild. Their main job is to go through dungeons and get equipment. Half a month ago, due to an information error on one of the Black Dragon Guild buildings, her parents died in the dungeon. King Shuyan should have received compensation, but everyone denied it. Moreover, they demanded from her the items that her parents took with them to the dungeon because it was their equipment. Su Hang had heard something about the Black Dragon Guild. He remembered that Kang Shu had helped him buy her out in one of the simulations. He handed her a bag containing $2 million, along with some items and equipment. Qing Shuyan wasn't willing to accept gifts from him. Su Xing considered himself in debt, but asked that he not tell anyone about it. She hugged him tightly, thanking him for his kindness. Su Hang knew that she wasn't a person who joined extremist groups that betrayed humanity. Since she joined the Descent cult, it was directly related to the Black Dragon Guild. He wondered if this guild was related to a cult. Su Sheng called Kang Shu to check her acquaintance with people from the Black Dragon Guild, and she knew people from there. He had some business to attend to, and decided to make an appointment with her to give her the pills as well. They met and Kang Shu dressed up. Su Hing reported that he had come to talk about serious matters. Kang Zhu found out that the Black Dragon Guild was a real jerk. They lured professionals to the guild under the pretext of renting high-level items for free. And when people are no longer useful, they specifically give them dungeons with extremely high difficulty. Professionals died, and their family did not receive a penny. Even on the contrary, the guild demanded to pay for the rented items. The Black Dragon Guild had huge connections. Families tried to make a fuss, but everything was hushed up. Su Xing jumped up, about to intervene. Kang Zhu was angry, remembering that he was doing this for the sake of a junior student, but he was only thinking about justice. She slapped him across the face with her fist, not wanting to help her if it wasn't for this situation. Su Hingnan now understood why Qing Shuyan had joined the Descent cult. After all, she was really cornered. He decided to return to the university, asking to report any movements to the guild. Later, Su Xing arrived at the Black Dragon Guild's storage facility, which Kang Shu shared with him. First, he entered the divine consciousness to inspect everything. His soul flew straight into the vault. He was shocked by what he saw. Inside, the shelves were packed with white equipment. He asked the system to check the exact amount of equipment in this storage and the total price. The system started checking, but asked to wait because of this scale. Half an hour passed and the system estimated the equipment to be worth 100 million. Su Hing jumped with happiness as he realized that he was rich and didn't have to worry about energy points anymore. He had even found high-level rare metals, and the guild had indeed looted quite a bit over the years. At that moment, he heard a strange sound. The walls were heavily guarded with marionettes, as if there was definitely something valuable inside. He easily disabled them. Su Hing felt that they could be controlled with spiritual energy, and now it was clear that the guild was also able to use it. He walked into the room where there was another treasure trove, as if it was a cult of descent. They even had medicinal materials, magic treasures, and techniques, even though the guild didn't deal with cultivation and alchemy. He was going to check everything carefully, trying to find some secret, so he entered the divine consciousness. When Su Hing was flying, he noticed a bright glow. There was an accounting book that can only be seen in the state of divine consciousness. He looked into it. It was the Black Dragon Guild's ledger of offerings to the cult of descent, which meant that there was a connection between them. But according to him, the Black Dragon Guild was a white glove cult operating in China. He caught a note that had fallen out of the book. It recorded a way to survive the end of the world without being devoured by giant beasts. The cult of descent had told the guild the truth about the end of the world, and it made sense. They paid the price to make the guild their white glove. The only way to survive the end of the world is to escape through the demon suppression outpost and into the demon world. He thought about the demon world, realizing that the demons that invade China came from there. An alarm went through the vault that someone had broken in. Su Hing smirked that they had only just noticed it. He had already plundered the treasure trove of the cult of descent many times before, and with such a small vault, he had managed only once or twice. He thanked them for the treat and was gone. Su Hing wanted to know how many energy points he currently had. He had 170 million energy points stored in his account, and Su Hing laughed viciously that he was rich. He saw that Kang Shui had called him, even though he had already handed over the pills this week. Kang Shu immediately guessed that the guild robbery was his doing. Su Hing was worried that he had brought her into trouble, but now it turns out that everyone is looking for Su Hing. The Black Dragon Guild has announced a reward for a martial emperor-level master. Nothing was known, only the power that allowed the entire vault to be taken away in one go. Su Hing couldn't believe the reward amount of 100 million. He fell back on the bed, deciding not to leave uni just yet, but he was afraid that someone would have rare artifacts to search for. Su Hing decided to run the simulation. He was given the purple talent Unyielding Spear, which he already had. He reminded the system that they were having the end of the world, not an affair, by asking him for a useful talent. The system advised you to evaluate your luck objectively. Su Hing sighed, deciding to ignore talents since his goal was cultivation. In this simulation, he wanted to try to escape through the demon suppression outpost to the demon world. And if this path really works, then humanity will have another way to survive the end of the world. In order to reduce the possibility of the Black Dragon Guild, Su Hing calmly meditated on the spiritual fields for an entire month. During this time, Kang Shu gave you the news. She yelled at him to stop hiding because the guild had already taken down the reward announcement, demanding a week's worth of pills. The meeting with Kang Shu had already passed, and he decided to ask her for a favor. Thanks to his help, Qing Shuyan would no longer join the descent cult, so if he wanted to contact Luo Shuying, he needed to search for the cult's address himself. Kang Shu promised to give him news in 3 days, because without Qing Shuyan, he can't get there. He went to Shuangqing City. The real address of the cult of descent was there, which was quite far away from the capital. Su Hing wondered how he could get into the cult without Qing Shuyan's recommendation. He figured out that he could lure them to him. Ordinary professionals can't recognize his divine consciousness, but the higher-ups of the cult could definitely sense it. Su Hing had never used divine consciousness outside of the capital before. At that moment, he caught a glimpse of energy from the corner of his eye, and it was clear that he had already been discovered. The cloaked man tried to stab him in the back. Su Hing started to cover it with flames. I ran toward him. They both took out their swords and began to fight, and Su Hing managed to knock the sword out of his hands. The unknown person began to bleed. He assessed Su Hing's level. Su Hing didn't expect that it was Protector Zong who would come for him. He was surprised that such a young guy possessed a deep level of cultivation, and I assumed that he used a body-grabbing technique. Su Hing didn't expect anything from old dog Zong other than thoughts towards the dark cultivators. Su Hing immediately started to leave, but Protector Zong introduced himself, offering to visit their cult. He pretended to know nothing about the cult of descent. Inside, he chuckled as he found a way to infiltrate. Su Hing listened to his explanation and found it interesting, so he went with him to their headquarters. They appreciated his commitment to bringing fresh blood to the cult, but they were afraid that picking up people from the street was not the best solution. Protector Zong explained that there was a great master of the body-grabbing technique in front of them, and they would only need a little knowledge. Because of such a high-profile image, Su Hing had to obtain a status-appropriate pill to earn their trust. They opened the box that contained the life extension pill. The elder immediately recognized the pill that extends one's life by 100 years. Su Hing saw that they were well versed in this. He only obtained this pill after 99 cauldrons exploded, and only 2 of them. They all welcomed him to the cult of descent. On the one hand, Su Xing started fraternizing with old dog Zong. On the other hand, he was secretly communicating with Luo Xuan through conditional signals. In the 3rd year, they again robbed the treasury and betrayed the cult. Luo Xuan suggested that she try to win Protector Zong over to her side, but Su Xing knew how many people had died at his hands. Because of Su Xing, Protector Zong was harassed by the cult, and he once again went on the run. Su King was jumping with happiness and a happy day when the cult wasn't chasing him. He joined the Great Xiao army as usual. Su Xing prepared enough pills and resolutely went to the demon suppression outpost. To pass through it, he needed to cut through the hordes of demonic beasts and level up as quickly as possible. He saw a strange shadow on the ground. It was the rudimentary intent to kill. He saw everyone start to run away because of that aura. Su Hing wanted to find higher-level demonic beasts to temper his killing intent. But there wasn't a single worthy opponent around. He had been killing for a very long time, but he still hadn't seen the border of the outpost. At that moment, a loud shout was heard from behind. A huge beast charged at him from behind, and it was very powerful, so Su Xing was hitting it hard. He flew away from the blow, rejoicing in the strong opponent. At that moment, the monster's head lit up, and Su Xing realized something. The entire rhino monster caught fire, but it was an unusual fire. The rhino suddenly lit up brightly. Su Hang stabbed him directly in the chest, and it turned out that the unusual fire was able to suppress Mo Bing. He decided not to attack with ice, but with fire in return. Su Hang activated the technique, and the sword flew straight towards the rhino. The sword hit the rhino and returned back to its owner. Su Hing noticed how much this demonic beast was different from the others, assuming that it was at the level of demon emperors. Suddenly, a huge fireball appeared in place of the beast's body. It turned out to be a demonic core. To test his guess, Su Xing quickly refined the demonic core. As expected, the core allowed him to break through to the 7th step of the divine power realm. Su Hing was surprised by the potential of this core, which raised it by 3 small levels. He got motivated and went on to kill demonic beasts, collect cores, strengthen his body, and level up. In order to quickly leave the demon suppression screensaver and enter the demon world, he killed for a whole month without sleep or rest. The outpost wall appeared in front of him, suggesting a demon world. Luo Shuying was worried about him, but he had to watch it. Su Hing jumped down from the wall smartly. He flew over the gloomy roads where the fire burned all around. Flying past the huge skeleton beasts, it was even worse than he imagined. Su Hing landed long ago. A whole cemetery appeared before him. He stared at the blood moon, which gave him a strange feeling. Su Hing expected that the demon world should have been filled with demonic knowledge, but he didn't see anything but skeleton. Luo Shuyan, who called it the battlefield, suddenly appeared behind them, and the blood moon caused the demonic beasts to become enraged, making them think only of killing. Su Xing didn't understand what she was doing here. She didn't want to leave him on her own, wanting to help, but Su Xing was afraid that she would die. Luo Shuyan wasn't afraid of death, and she wanted to be with him in her last moments. She didn't know if the killing moon affected him. Any creature that gets caught in the light of this red moon goes into a rage and madness. Now it was clear why the entire ground was covered with corpses. He asked not to worry about him because he had already passed the test of anger, and now no one could affect his state of mind. Su Shang told her about Elder Long's letter, which revealed that the only way to survive the apocalypse was to go to the demon world. Luo Shuying considered this both true and untrue at the same time. The world they were currently in was called the Slaughter Field. Although it looked small, it actually connected many worlds. According to history, a long time ago, a great cultivator went to war with foreign races, and the world was torn apart. Countless world sketches were scattered in the spatial chaos. Such scattered broken buildings were called the Field of Slaughter. Later, an evil god fell on the battlefield and turned into a blood moon. When it affects enough creatures, it will be able to be reborn. Not only did Earth have such a field of slaughter, but even her homeworld did. Su Hang realized that he could enter her world from here, which was how Luo Shuying came to Earth. Su Shang thought that humans could outsmart the demons and hit them in the rear, but it was too difficult. You must be very lucky to get out of the carnage field in the demon world the first time. He immediately thought of other possibilities. Then he decided to destroy the field of slaughter, so that the demons would not have a way to his world. Luo Shuying had warned him that the moon was particularly strong in the core of the slaughter field, and there was a chance of going crazy. Su Xing wasn't ready to leave without trying. His heroic words motivated Luo Shuying, so she went with him to the edge of the world. The further they went, the greater the impact of the blood moon, so Su Xin had to create mind-calming pills on the spot to keep Luo Shuying sane. She told them not to worry about her, because the closer they got, the stronger the alien races became. Su Xing wasn't worried because they could rest in the spirit fields whenever they wanted. He was walking along the path with Luo Shuying in his arms, and a silhouette appeared behind him. Su Hing whirled around. Behind him was a huge beast of almost legendary level. The beast struck out and chopped him into pieces. The simulation was completed while Su Hing was impressed by the speed of this demon, since it didn't even manage to hide in the spiritual fields. He activated the die with your eyes open talent. They surrounded his corpse, and he thought of going on a pilgrimage. Strength was the ultimate law of demonic beasts. He knew that the blood moon had an effect on creatures, but it didn't have any powers on its own. Unless she really is a transformed evil god. Su Hing realized that his strength was still insufficient, so he decided to reach the spirit transformation stage to return there. Su Hing chose to pick up the 7th degree divine power realm and 20 years of combat experience at the outpost. He was immediately lifted into the air. He sat down on the bed in the lotus position. All the memories seemed to come alive, and he felt as if he had returned to the outpost. Su Hing felt that he had learned everything. The most obvious change was the good management of the spiritual energy vortex. The alarm went off on the phone that it was time to feed the chickens. He would approach the chicken coop with a sack, calling each hen by name. But at that moment, the sound of running was heard. All the chickens came running from the other side. They fell to their knees, begging to be forgiven for their escape and rebellion, and not to kill. Su Hing couldn't remember when he had planned to kill chickens at all. The chickens plummeted and started foaming at the mouth, and Su Hing didn't understand what he had done. At this moment, he went into shock. The shadow of the rudimentary killing intent once again appeared on the ground. He smiled, realizing where all the combat experience was going. With his aura alone, he could eliminate enemies. Su Hing started walking away happily, enjoying the rewards from the system, and was going to accumulate energy points to level up and collect 3 rewards each. The chickens were never fed. Su Hing went to the temple at night to see Bailey Tu's family, whose wealth was comparable to that of the Jin family. He walked carefully, but before he could look around, he was discovered. The man was wondering if he had come for a robbery or a murder. Su Hing didn't need wealth, and the old man was going to die soon anyway, so he just wanted to make a deal. He tossed the jar to him so that he could see the contents. The old man caught her. When he opened it, a bright pill fell into his hand. He shouted out in shock that he had the legendary life extension pill in his hands. Su Hing did not expect anything different from the richest family in China, since he immediately recognized such a pill. This pill can extend the old man's life by 5 years. The old man cried out, not expecting such power. He got out of bed, admitting that he had already tried many ways to prolong his life since he was diagnosed with cancer. Falling to his knees, the old man began banging his head on the floor, begging to extend his life for 10 years, and was ready to give up all the family's possessions. Su Hing was shocked not to demand so much. This pill could extend one's life not only for 10 years, but even for 100 years, but the old man first had to agree to one condition. Su Hing needed the dungeon items that his son Bailey Qi had been collecting all these years. The old man thought he had misheard, not expecting the guy to ask for useless junk from the dungeons. He froze in shock that the great masters had such strange tastes. Then he was afraid that there was a scammer in front of him. After all, no one would give away a life extension pill for such trash. The old man decided to take a pill to call his son first, and Su Hing didn't mind at all. The man ate the pill. His eyes snapped open, starting to shake. The old man's clothes tore right on top of him as he felt the life force that suddenly appeared in his body. The calluses on his hands were completely gone. He looked in the mirror and looked at least 10 years younger. Su Hing asked him to finally call his son. The old man knelt down again and thanked him for saving his life, intending to call his ungrateful son. The guy wasn't going to give away items that were unique treasures and couldn't give them away. The old man hit him in the face, reminding him that his father had almost died and his son didn't even want to part with the junk. He apologized to his father, but he didn't think the junk was worth the price. Su Hing spoke to young Master Bailey, explaining that these items were much more valuable. He asked to put all the items into the spatial ring, planning to make another deal with Mr. Bailey. The guy started offering money as payment. The old man began to push him, trying to figure out which was more important to him, trash or father. Su Hing also required rare metals, and if they could supply them regularly, it would be possible to exchange for life extension pills. The master was delighted, knowing that any quality of metal will do. He thanked the senior for such trust and took up the task. Su Hing didn't have to worry about the energy points anymore. The younger one cried when his treasures were taken away from him and asked him to take care of them. He flew out the window, promising to come back next week, and the old man's years of life depended on his work. Mr. Bailey ordered his butler, Fu Bo, to pursue the unknown person to find out his identity. The son asked not to complicate the situation, because in his subjects there were tracking devices, and they can easily find out where he is and who he is. The old man clenched his fist in pride that his son had finally done something useful. Su Hing flew through the sky and asked the system to quickly calculate how many points he would get for everything. The system detected objects containing energy, and the total value was 480 million. Su Hing almost fainted at the amount he heard. He flew through the sky with tears in his eyes from happiness and did not believe how nice it is to get rich overnight. Su Bing imagined how he could collect any reward after the simulation, but the system interrupted his happiness, not knowing whether to report bad news. She said that there were a lot of tracking devices in the items. Su Hing didn't expect otherwise, that a family with a century of history couldn't have a fool son. When he turned around, he was already being attacked by the cloaked men. He quickly covered them in flames, and they began to burn alive. Su Xing grabbed one of them by the arm and ordered him to hand Bailey Do over so that he wouldn't try to find out his identity anymore. Otherwise, he would end his life instead of prolonging it. Fubo returned to his master with a broken arm, explaining that the family shouldn't become his enemy even though he was a martial emperor-level master himself. All of his subordinates were also high-level, but no one could withstand even a single blow. The master began to worry that his level was already not far from legendary, and he didn't know where such a powerful person came from in China. My son rushed into the room and hurriedly informed me that all his tracking devices had stopped working. Mr. Bailey thought that Fubo was right, and his family couldn't afford it. He ordered the immediate purchase of rare metal ores to provide the stranger with a decent result. It was time for the weekly simulation, and he received the purple talent, Blacksmithing Genius. He now had an outstanding understanding in artifact crafting, and all the magic treasures he created are of a higher quality, and he has the potential to become a master blacksmith. He was delighted with the talent that can make money. Su Hing was only upset that he didn't have any knowledge in the field of artifact crafting, nor did he have any manuals, so he couldn't really get rich yet. After the simulation started, Su Xing was planning to go to the spirit land to cultivate, but Fatty Yu abruptly came to him with an invitation. He saw that a friend was sitting in the dorm, so he suggested that they go out and have a normal meal. They came to karaoke, and Su Xing felt uneasy, thinking that they would just go out to eat. Su Xing had to listen to the bragging of his classmates in silence, but knowing about the apocalypse in 20 years, it all sounded particularly annoying. He frowned, telling them to live their lives to the fullest. Su Hei took the microphone from the table, and with Fatty Yu's arm around him, he began to sing a song. He realized that the higher one's state of mind, the lower the chance of inner demons appearing, and cultivation was much easier. The uplift in his state of mind gave him confidence, and he once again went to the Luotian assembly dungeon, intending to prepare for the breakthrough to the void destruction realm. The old man was a proud disciple who had reached the great perfection of the divine power realm, noticing the chance to become a holy son. Su Xing was surprised that because of his height, his status in the Luotian assembly was also increasing. He asked if he became a holy son, how would the plot of this dungeon change? Su Xing also noticed that everyone was fixated on the day of the Luotian meeting, as if there was some secret hidden here. Su Xing confided to his master that since his cultivation had reached the great perfection of the divine power realm, he would like to learn the secrets of advancing to the void destruction realm. The old man didn't see it as anything special, since the real secret was in the primordial power. Primordial power was the foundation for cultivators, and it was divided into 3 stages: the amplification stage, the enveloping stage, and the final release stage. In the strengthening stage, it strengthens the body with primordial power, and in the enveloping stage, it covers the body, providing protection. In the final stage, it can leave the body and be used to attack, and even superimpose itself on a weapon, increasing its destructive power. The old man had one divine origin power technique and records for its development, and he asked not to be lazy, but to train properly. Su King was surprised to see the protective Qi that can cover the body with primordial power, and no techniques can cause harm. He sincerely thanked the teacher for the favor, intending to meet his expectations. The old man explained that after cultivating the initial strength, it would be possible to enter the limits of extremes, to temper the body and reach the void destruction realm. Su Hing didn't know about the limits of extremes, and the teacher explained that any place that could push his body to its limit. He understood everything, and after developing his original power, he would have to literally seek death in order to find a chance to live in a hopeless situation and reach the realm. In reality, Su Xing sighed, feeling how difficult it would be. The Luotian kingdom was literally a treasure trove. He had the ability to easily obtain a divine technique and a way to break through to a new realm, and if he entered with the power of the Holy Sun, he would receive even more rewards. After getting out of there, Su Xing once again used Protector Zong to infiltrate the cult. He forced him to swear an oath of brotherhood in front of the elders. A year later, Su Xing ran away with Luo Shuying from the cult again, and Old Man Zong was wanted. He gave her a ring with enough pills to last her for 10 years of cultivation and asked her to contact the Tarot organization if she didn't have enough, while Su Xing went into seclusion. Luo Shuying was going to wait for him to return. He had arrived in a blessed spiritual land. After dealing with all the matters, Su Xing began to cultivate the primordial power. His talent didn't help him, and he tasted defeat. The origin power was too complicated, and a whole year had passed without progress. But the time still wasn't wasted after all. His cultivation had grown to the third level of the spirit transformation stage. The fields once again ran out of spiritual energy, and he couldn't continue cultivating. He reached into his phone, intending to look at the plans that had not yet been implemented, so as not to waste the simulation. A memory of the end-of-law era dungeon came to him. Previously, he didn't dare to go there because of his weak strength, but now he was already at the third level of spirit transformation and at the cultivation of the great perfection, divine power realm. He immediately entered the dungeon, but it looked very deserted. Su Heng released a spiritual consciousness to explore the entire mountain. His spirit flew around. At the bottom, he found three sects: Changchun Gate, Xuanhuang Teaching, and Fusheng Gate. The Changchun Gate was probably the place where the Eternal Spring technique was obtained. He decided to wait a bit. Su Heng will first go to the Xuanhuang Teaching to establish contact with the Great Sha agent. A voice was heard about the Heavenly King who covers the earth with a tiger. He called out to him. The guy was happy to see the older one. He thought that the organization sent him for him, but in reality he was just passing by. The boy sat down next to him. I asked him for the following instructions. Su Xing wanted to know if the Xuanhuang Teaching had any primordial power cultivation techniques. He answered positively, asking for the right level. Su Hing didn't expect the guy to know how to decide, but the guy had an excellent position in the Xuanhuang Teachings. Right now, he was the deputy head, and the head in seclusion, so he was in charge of the entire teaching. Su Hing was even surprised that he managed to become the main one. Through Wang Xiaowu, he obtained a suitable technique for cultivating primordial power and learned news about spiritual energy from him. In this world, the spiritual energy had already been completely depleted, and it was rumored that this was due to the ancient ruins. With this token, Su Xing could explore them. Later, he arrived at the ancient ruins, but he had a strange bad feeling about it. At that moment, sounds came from behind. He turned around and was able to dodge the blow. It was Protector Zong who was angry at Su Xing for betraying him. It turned out that he had been hiding in the dungeon all this time, so the cult couldn't detect him. Su Hing summoned the sword in his hands, and I smiled fiercely, intending to enjoy the real fight. He ran at it in order to consolidate the rudimentary intent to kill. Defender Zong deflected his first blow. He wanted Su Xing dead as much as he did. But in response, he only asked not to hold back in battle. They fought for 300 rounds, 3 days and 3 nights, and finally came to an end at the dawn of one day. Defender Zong was inferior to him in swordsmanship and admitted defeat, but he couldn't be caught up in techniques and spells. A snake emerged from his hand. Su Heng summoned fire to his hands, doubting it. He directed it towards another spell, knowing that Li's flame cleansed everything. Protector Zong used the puppet nascent spirit art. Several puppets joined the battle with Dogzong, but thanks to the rich experience of simulations, Su Xing destroyed the puppet with a single blow. Zong's mouth started to bleed when the puppet formation's core was destroyed. Su Heng confessed that he had just killed him many times before. Zong had lost the puppet formation, and he no longer dared to fight Su Xing, so he tried to use his trump cards to escape. 3 days later, Su Xing successfully killed Dogzong, and by then, all of his artifacts had run out. Su Hing sighed, realizing that it was necessary to kill him instantly for the sake of the property. He had come to Changchun Gate because he was interested in the techniques Dogzong knew, so he had come for clarification. The old man immediately recognized the cultivator who had fought on Mount Lingyun a few days ago. He didn't dare talk about his teaching, but he was willing to answer the elder's question. Su Xing was pleasantly surprised that even gold core level cultivators spoke to him so respectfully. The gate master led him to the sect's library, where he was able to find the full version of the Bagua Fate calculation art that Zong had previously used. He couldn't believe that he had the full version of the Bagua technique in his hands, which could even deceive the heavens. Su Hing discovered a heaven-level technique. He began to read it. But I noticed that it was actually the Eternal Spring technique. The old man explained that it wasn't a mistake, and to obtain a heaven-level technique, one needed to combine 3 mysterious level techniques. He thought it was more like playing with synth. The head introduced him to the Xuanhuang and Fusheng techniques. Their 3 sects had agreed that if anyone gathered a heaven-level technique, they would share it with the other 2. Su Xing realized that someone had already been able to succeed in this. They even knew that the technique was called 9,000 tree art. But unfortunately, with the disappearance of spiritual energy, this technique disappeared, and after many years, they were still unable to reproduce it. The head abruptly recalled the method to return the technique. He gave him a map of the ancient ruins, where the method of combining the art of 10,000 trees was located. He was too old for that, but Su Xing had a great future. Su Heng thanked him, and if he really could find a heaven-level technique, he would definitely return to repay the kindness. He had arrived at an ancient ruin that was related to the disappearance of spiritual energy in the end-of-law era, and the head of Changchun Gate had claimed a way to combine heaven-level techniques. Su Heng slowly opened the doors to reveal the secret of the ruins. A gorgeous landscape with mountains and clear sky appeared outside the doors. He decided to look at the map. It turned out that he didn't find the entrance, and the real entrance is located in one of the valleys of the mountain. Su-King used his spiritual consciousness to search. He thought that he would easily find a valley with 1,000 jang radius, but it had already been a full month and he hadn't found a clue. In a desperate situation, he started walking around the entire mountain to find something. Su-King wandered among the mountains and rivers, both looking for the possible location of the ruins, but also enjoying the beauty of nature. He lay down on the field, realizing that it would have been an ideal place for a resort, if not for the apocalypse. At that moment, a rabbit hopped over him. Su-King became angry, challenging him to battle. The rabbit accidentally hit its head on a rock. This stone was a huge mountain. Su-King realized that he hadn't even noticed such an unusual stone when he scanned the mountain with his spiritual consciousness. But this stone couldn't be detected by the spiritual consciousness. He attacked a rock to break through the entrance to the ruins. Su-King threw a powerful punch, causing the stone to shatter into fragments. A huge tunnel appeared inside. Su-King went inside to look at the contents, but I was shocked by what I saw. There was a whole mountain of corpses lying around, people who had tried to explore the ruins. The human remains made him realize how unsafe this place was, so the danger avoidance buff activated, ordering him to leave this place immediately. Su-King carefully considered that, with his current level, entering the ruins would be an ordinary suicide, so he decided to wait for another week. He decided not to explore it, intending to return when the apocalypse was on its way. Su-King memorized the location of the stone, left the dungeon, and returned to the real world. He refocused on his cultivation, and thanks to the meridian strengthening technique given to Wang Xiaowu, he was finally able to understand the basics of primordial power. Su-King was overjoyed that he had succeeded in enveloping the primordial power. This was a good start, which guaranteed him half the success, and by the 18th year, his practice was becoming more confident. The alarm went off that asked him to water the flowers. He sighed, realizing that he needed an assistant. At that moment, he noticed something. A spiritual liquid that was equal to 100 spirit stones appeared on the flower. Now it was clear why he was moving so fast. It turned out that the concentration of spiritual energy in the spiritual land had reached the level of spiritual liquid formation. Su-King spent a week to collect an entire bottle of this liquid. I immediately took a sip to test its power. The powerful flow of spiritual energy immediately struck him, and he realized that the liquid was absorbed much better than stones. With this, he planned to reach the peak of the spirit transformation stage before the apocalypse. In the following years, he repeated the cycle of gathering spiritual liquid and cultivating. But it was the 25th year, and he was still unable to break through the peak of the spirit transformation stage. Although there was no breakthrough, his strength still increased significantly. The apocalypse was near, so he once again set out to explore the ancient ruins. The bones continued to glow even after such a long time, which meant that the person was at least at the great perfection of the nascent spirit stage. He covered it with a blanket, remembering it. But when the skeleton was covered, the ground beneath it began to crack sharply. Su-King fell into the hole with him. He screamed, summoning Li's flame. And I realized that you can't be a good person at this time. He opened his eyes and was surprised. Su-King came across a pit of 10,000 bones. He walked around the mountain of bones with a lantern. Su-King dropped the lantern in realization. These all belonged to void destruction stage cultivators. Su-King was nervous, not even knowing what the ruins were hiding, since even cultivators of this stage had died here. He noticed a spiritual energy in the distance. Even though it was weak, Su-King still decided to head towards it. This meant that there was still a spiritual vein left in the ruins. Su-King finally reached the bright light, but at that moment a black silhouette pounced on him. Su-King noticed that he was fighting with a puppet, but it was capable of destroying even Mo Bing. Su-King realized that there was a puppet in the void destruction stage standing in front of him. He clenched his fist tightly. I decided to test his fist of primordial power, but the puppet hit him first and harder, as expected. Su-King's body slammed into the stone ground. He died instantly and the simulation ended. Su-King didn't expect anything different from such a powerful puppet. There were many secrets and treasures in the ancient ruins. He promised to go back there when he got stronger. From the rewards, he decided to take the cultivation of the 4th level of the spirit transformation stage and 2,000 flowers of spiritual energy gathering. This amount was enough for the blessed spiritual land to evolve into the cave sky. Fatty Yu came to his room and found him an apartment. I asked him when he would have time to move in. Su-King didn't understand why he would do this. The fat man reminded them that they were graduating soon, and the room would be occupied by freshmen in the future, while Su-King was staying for the 2nd year. He knew that this university was the safest place, and he couldn't leave, but he couldn't live with a strange neighbor either. Su-King wondered if the university would be able to give him a private room, but the fat man doubted it. He remembered that he might try to become an employee. Su-King immediately called Kang Shu. She picked up the phone, and he immediately asked her for help finding a job at Peking University with a private room. Kang Shu was willing to help, but only for a condition. She asked me to leave the door open, even if she didn't come. Later, Kang Shu gathered news about her work, offering to have dinner. Suhing didn't want to go now and waste time, so he chose to do a simulation. The system gave him the purple talent, Genius of Formations. Suhing was delighted to have another talent for earning money. Unfortunately, he didn't have any books on formations, and there was no need for money. He decided to keep his talent for formations in reserve. In the new simulation, Suhing started by collecting spiritual liquid, and after accurate calculations, he found out that its production was approximately 150 drops per day. Suhing lay on the field calculating that this temper made 50,000 drops a year, and one drop was equal to 100 spirit stones. He had once again used old dog Zong to enter the descent cult, trying to exchange spiritual liquid for cultivation resources, such as formation techniques. Zong didn't cheat on himself and not only gave him what he needed, but also slipped a bunch of dark cultivator techniques to lead Suhing astray. He returned to the blessed spiritual land and focused on cultivating. With the help of the spirit liquid for the 11th year, he finally mastered the release of primordial power. Suhing clenched his fist, feeling completely in control of the original power. He struck the air to release the primordial power, and he picked up a stone from the ground. He threw it up so that the primordial force would destroy it, and the impact completely shattered the stone into pieces. It was a level 4 foreign metal, and he was able to shatter it with a single blow. He was wondering what would happen in the Luotian assembly if he returned with such power. The old man was delighted with the boy's talent, knowing that he wasn't mistaken about it. He made the decision to give him a real weapon, since he had already mastered the enveloping of primordial power. The teacher handed him a primordial power axe, which was a Yuan weapon. Suhing felt that he looked too ordinary. The old man explained that Yuan weapons start with the most ordinary weapons, wrapped in primordial power. It is limitless in its possibilities and is not inferior to spiritual energy. If a weapon is nourished with its original power long enough, ordinary weapons can be turned into something comparable to an immortal artifact. Suhing understood everything and immediately began to envelop the axe with his primordial power. He thanked the teacher for his guidance. New Rule gave him the method of cultivating Yuan weapons and also gave him the Ruyi contemplation method, Thousand Flame Art, and the Void Shattering Pill. The Thousand Flame Art, just made up for the lack of fire techniques, and the Ruyi contemplation method would help him develop his spiritual consciousness, and the pill would allow him to break through to the next realm. Suhing was satisfied with the loot from the Luotian gathering. With a pile of treasures, he returned back to the blessed spiritual land and began to cultivate diligently. With the support of the spiritual liquid, he advanced very quickly. His spiritual awareness had already reached 6,800 zhang, and his defensive qi had reached the level of small success. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the spirit transformation stage, and there was only one step left before the void destruction stage. He thought that breaking through would require a void shattering pill and a place of extreme conditions. On Earth, with his current strength, there is no such place. To make the pill, Suhing went to collect the pure spring race. The dew was the first drops of rain on Jingjie Day, and you need to accurately fix these 10 drops with your spiritual consciousness at the moment of the beginning of the rain. In order to collect the dew, Suhing hid in the clouds beforehand and suffered a 100,000-volt lightning strike. He knew the rain was falling too fast. To catch the drops, he would dive into the deep sea, withstanding the intense pressure, and even dived into a volcano, enduring an endless sea of fire. It was hard, but he managed to get everything together. Suhing decided not to waste the dew he had obtained and began to cultivate his spiritual consciousness, reducing the difficulty of alchemy. At the same time, he continued to fight in the Blood Moon region to find the location of the ultimate conditions. The beasts screamed and started to run away when they saw the humans. Suhing was ordering them to surround him and force him into a stalemate. He was upset by the cowardice of the demonic beasts, and for the sake of finding the ultimate location, he began to enter the dungeons more often. He even bathed in the lava lake. I also meditated in the sea of fire. Once I slept on a bed of nails forged from a foreign metal. After a year of effort, he was still no closer to the limit state, but he greatly strengthened his body. He screamed in rage that he couldn't find the ultimate location. Suhing sat down on a rock and sighed, thinking about the ancient ruins that might fit the criteria, but they were killing him too quickly. At this moment, he was abruptly devoured by a huge beast, and he didn't even realize that that very day had already arrived. As he flew down the beast's throat, he realized that his suffering was not in vain, and he was no longer killed at the first blow. His eyes widened in shock. He was struck by lightning again, and Suhing didn't even have a chance. Even his spirit was destroyed along with his body. Suhing realized that he could survive in the beast's stomach for a while. He considered it a perfect place of extreme conditions, and he can break through to the void destruction stage right before he dies. He found the place of limit, but before he could start cultivating, his body was already dying. Su Xing thought that it was worth refining the defensive qi to great perfection to last longer in the stomach. The system asked him to choose a reward. Their prices were getting higher and higher. He didn't have enough energy, so he needed to take a peek at Bailey's residence. He jumped through the trees to their house. Su Hang decided to first test everything with his spiritual consciousness if there were any strong fighters in the manor. As he flew, he noticed a little more than 10 Sky King level masters and 3 Martial Emperor level 1s, and none of them was a match for him. Old Man Bailey was sitting in the study and receiving the report. He was wondering when that stranger would come to get the second life extension pill. At this moment, Su Xing appeared out of nowhere. He had thought that he would be warned about the visit, but Su Xing had heard that their Bailey Chamber of Commerce was actively buying up dungeon items. The old man was willing to buy up everything with all his might so that he would be satisfied. He threw him another life extension pill, which would give him another 5 years, and demanded the same amount of items in return. The old man admitted that his son was unreasonable, and he dealt with it. The items that he had collected in the past years, he was willing to give away. Su Xing took the ring and immediately realized that there were 3 times as many treasures inside. He handed him another ring to thank him for saving his life. There were at least 300 million energy worth of high-level items in this ring, and he was fabulously rich. Su Xing was satisfied with his work. He flew out the window again, asking them to spread the news of an incredible level treasure in case of an unsolvable crisis so that he could find them. The old man relayed Fubo's words, and he was glad that heaven favored the Bailey family. But it was only a duty, and such a person would not want to deal with ordinary people. Fubo guessed that the stranger had already reached the legendary level, and it was only natural. He remembered that he only had a useless son instead of a beautiful daughter. Fubo asked him not to say that, because out of all the trading houses, the senior had chosen them, and the Bailey family was granted a unique piece of luck. The old man passed down an order to increase the scope of purchasing dungeon items by half and increase the purchase prices by 20%. He wanted all the dungeon items from the provinces to flock to their Chamber of Commerce. Su Xing was quite determined to see what he could charge for his money. He immediately acquired Protective Qi and the Ruyi Contemplation method. The former was for breaking through the place of limit, and the latter was for strengthening spiritual consciousness. 2 spheres immediately surrounded him. 2 lights shot towards him. He immediately activated his defensive QI. A spiritual armor appeared on his body, like a barrier that nothing could break through. According to the system, his spiritual consciousness was already 7,000 zhongs. Now no one within the entire Jingdu city could hide from him. He couldn't believe that he was feeling a sense of omnipotence. But at that moment, he was slapped across the face to wake up. Su Xing reminded himself not to be conceited, otherwise he would be in trouble. A week passed and he started another simulation. The system gave him the purple talent, dual element, heavenly spiritual root, wood and fire. He was the rarest genius out of millions, and his cultivation speed exceeded that of ordinary practitioners by 100 times. Moreover, its spiritual root has suffered a special mutation and has an additional property. With the support of the heavenly spiritual root, his cultivation speed increased dramatically, and in the first year, he had already comprehended the family of primordial power, which doubled his stamina. In the second year, he reached the great perfection of the primordial power release stage, while remaining 1 step away from the third. By the third year, his spiritual consciousness had already expanded to 9,100 zhong. He wept with happiness that he finally had a heavenly spiritual root, remembering his suffering. In the 10th year, his defensive qi reached the level of great success, and he decided to go out and fight. Su Xing had once again become a nightmare for demonic beasts, and in order to develop the rudimentary killing intent, he had to go to the ancient ruins. He pointed his sword at the puppet, offering to attack. With the release of the original power and protective qi, the puppets could no longer harm him. But he couldn't do anything back to them either. Su Xing didn't understand why he would even fight with these dummies if he just needed to get to the ancient ruins tunnel. He was fighting and he wanted to choose the right moment. Su Xing pulled the dummy back with his shield, and he started running away from her, wanting to leave the game.